American Comics, Makeup Containment. I Create a Foundation. Chapter 101 Dangerous Hunting, Iron Man vs. Flesh Iron Overlord. The reason why Tony Stark took the initiative to fight was because the Federal Air Force was eager to make meritorious service, and as a result he was severely beaten on the battlefield. Due to the doomsday, 3 cities in New York State were transformed into biochemical hives, and transformed into hive cities that continuously produced biochemical armies. And the Federal Air Force, which has done little, has been criticized, which is why the federal military has been actively performing, especially the Federal Air Force. The Air Force of the Federal JTF, which was eager to perform after the launch of the Heaven's Punishment operation, suffered the most casualties. Although the Federal Air Force has some advanced fighters, such as F-35 series fighters and F-22 series fighters. However, due to its short legs, the F-22 has always been known as the Asgardian at the airport. 5. There are not many formations deployed in the mainland. Therefore, most of the fighters participating in the Day of Punishment are old-fashioned F-15B or F-15C, F-16V, F/A-18D and other fighters. But let alone these old-fashioned fighters, even if they are replaced with F-35 fighters, to seize the air supremacy over the Brood City, throwing missiles alone is not enough. The particularity of mutated creatures makes it difficult for medium and long-range missiles to lock onto them, unless it is a mutated aircraft that has been parasitized. However, the mother nest has a large number of high-level aerial mutants, which look like giant bats that can fly, and can also spray high-strength corrosive acidic substances. These flight monster bats caused great casualties to the ground troops, so the TF Air Force had to use medium and short-range aerial combat bombs and machine guns to fight these monsters, plus a large number of parasite fighters, and those flesh and blood Iron Man mechs that use Mark-type technology. Among them, the flesh and blood Iron Man mecha caused the most crashes. Tony didn't go to the battlefield much, so listening to all kinds of screams on the radio, listening to the large number of casualties caused by his diffusion technology, Tony couldn't sit still. Feng didn't persuade him too much. When Tony was helping the Foundation's research and development projects, in order to verify and develop the perfect steel mecha, he produced a lot of Mk2 and Mark III variant mechas. Coupled with the Mark IV steel armor he was wearing now, Tony felt that he was doing well again. With a dream of a hero, Tony put on the Mark IV armor, and then called his electronic butler JARVIS, activate all spare meshs. It's time for our attack. The spare mesh has been prepared and ready to attack. Tony jumped out of the flight deck wearing the Mark IV steel armor and flew directly to the battlefield, then followed by a mighty 12 spare meshs. At this time, the battlefield was already dark, but the ground was extremely lively. A few flares rose in the sky from time to time. The firepower of anti-aircraft weapons spread all over the sky. Thick smoke covered the moon, and the steel wreckage everywhere was like a purgatory. Compared to the ground battlefield with mountains of corpses and seas of blood, Tony chose to join the sky. Maddy, this is Flying Cat number 3, we are besieged by flesh and blood meshs. Oh shit, I was shot. 6 F-15 fighters were ambushed by 10 flesh Iron Man meshs, and 2 were shot down instantly. Seeing this, Tony immediately accelerated and flew forward, directly grabbed a mass-produced flesh and blood mecha, and used the more powerful Mark IV force to tear off its 2 arms, and then fired the beam cannon to kill it. It was sent back home. The spare mechas controlled by JARVIS followed behind, fighting with the flesh and steel mechas. Since the performance of the Mark II and Mark III spare steel armors is too much higher than that of these flesh and blood Iron Man armors, they are almost overwhelmingly superior, and these flesh and blood Iron Man armors are quickly lost. Oh, shit, what did I see? Genuine Iron Man, you are not Mr. Tony Stark. The flight attendant's grateful voice came over the radio. Tony put on a pose coquettishly. That's right, it's me. If you want to sign, you have to survive. Thank you, Iron Man. Tony felt huge amounts of satisfaction after saving the fighter team, so he immediately went to the next place where support was needed, and focused on the mass-produced flesh and blood Iron Man meshs. Soon, the mass-produced flesh Iron Man meshs in the Brood lost more than 100, and this also attracted Obadiah's attention. Soon on the way to the rescue next time, Tony Stark was finally attacked by his old acquaintance Obadiah. Tony, who was in flight, suddenly suffered a heavy blow and fell hard to the ground. When he reacted, he saw a heavy mesh 3 circles larger than the normal Mark II appearing in front of him. Be safe, Tony. You don't think that with the help of that bastard Feng, you can do whatever you want in my place, do you? This is not a Stark Industry playhouse. Hearing Obadiah's ridicule, Tony Stark was extremely jealous when meeting his enemies, and apart from anything else, he shot a hand beam cannon. However, it did not cause more damage to the flesh and Iron Overlord. Obadiah laughed strangely. Haha, useless Tony, I have upgraded your mecha, with thicker armor defense and more perfect integration. It feels really good to be integrated with a mecha, and you will soon be like me. Tony sneered. I'm not interested in being like you, damn monster. How dare you satirize my loving father's blessing to me? Tony, you are really toasting and not eating or drinking. I want to make you feel pain. Speaking of which, the two men of steel began the purest battle, relying on the powerful strength of the meshes to constantly fight hand to hand in the air, fighting like fists to the flesh. At this time, the mass-produced flesh and blood Iron Man armors around wanted to join the battle, but the spare steel armors controlled by Jarvis also arrived. Although the number of spare steel armors is small, the quality and performance advantages can often be obtained in 1v4, or even 1v5. However, as those mass-produced flesh and blood Iron Man mechas gradually increased, the battle situation became more and more unclear. Tony took advantage of this moment to accelerate and fly high into the sky. HMPH, Tony. Do you want to escape if you can't beat it? You can't escape if it's useless. Just when Obadiah was chasing Tony desperately, the flesh and blood Iron King mecha that merged with him actually began to gradually freeze. The mecha is covered with 10 thin layers of ice. The Iron King's flight nozzle was also frozen, and the Iron King, who had lost power, quickly fell down. Seeing this, Tony was not forgiving, and immediately started to fight back, using all his firepower. The Iron Overlord suffered a series of attacks, was hit by 6 micro-missiles and continuous hand beam cannons, and fell heavily to the ground, creating a deep pit. Vertical bar. It's over, Obadiah. Just when Tony thought he had defeated Obadiah by using the defective technology of the Mark II steel battlesuit, he saw Obadiah stand up almost unscathed. The flesh and blood Iron Overlord mecha that had been damaged in the attack just now was covered and repaired by a layer of chitin-like flesh and blood. Ha 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 ha, useless Tony, I'm not a weak human being, and now, your meshes have been corroded, you're going to die. Only then did Tony realize to his surprise that his spare mecha was completely covered in parasites of flesh and blood. Tony, thanks for the meshes, they only make my legion stronger. Seeing that the situation was not good, Tony immediately took off to the sky and flew towards Gloria, but Obadiah and those parasitic Mark II spare machines followed closely. At this critical moment, 2 air-to-air missiles flew towards them rapidly, and then the 2 missiles split into more than a dozen air-to-air missiles, so that the missiles accurately hit the chasing parasitic mecha. These meshes fell to the ground one after another. Ha, it's so dangerous. You saved my life again, brother. I said you should add those new technologies that the Foundation shared with you, Tony. However, I would like to thank you for bringing out this guy Obadiah. I have a lot of things to do. Tony in the steel battlesuit looked confused. He couldn't help but increase the image in his helmet, and looked at Chen Feng in the captain's room. What do you mean? That monster, you still have a way to deal with him? Tony was really powerless just now. His spare mesh can be parasitized, and after being parasitized, it will cut off the control of Jarvis. If it wasn't for the better performance of Mark IV, which made him a little bit faster, maybe Tony would be parasitized. At this moment Tony was a little terrified and frightened, but Chen Feng looked prepared. Chen Feng on the other side of the screen chuckled. I mean, you have done a great job, Tony. The goods have been delivered. Get ready to watch the big show. As soon as the words fell, a tactical missile landed precisely in the deep pit where Obadiah and the parasitic mechas were hit and landed. However, this strange missile did not explode. With a bang, the charge magazine of the missile shattered, and a figure slowly walked out from inside. Happy hunting, Miss Aliwether. The corner of Aliwether's mouth raised a dangerous smile. She licked her lips excitedly and laughed wildly. It's better to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to hunt. Commander Sky. Chapter 102 Devour Containment Evolution. Aliwether's powerful mimic armor. Seeing Aliwether walking out of the missile, everyone who saw her appearance was almost stunned. She was drilled directly out of an emergency-modified tactical missile. This is terrifying. What kind of physical strength can support a person attacking by riding a hypersonic missile, including Tony Stark? After poor Tony was beaten up by the enemy, he already had some doubts about his life. Although he was rescued by the reinforcements sent by Chen Feng, it still didn't prevent him from feeling that Aliwether was extremely terrifying. Tony wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and complained silently in his heart, it's just a monster. On the other hand, Obadiah, who saw Aliwether descending from the sky, felt even more like a formidable enemy. When Obadiah saw Aliwether, who was exaggerated to the point of descending from the sky on a tactical missile, it was as if he had seen a natural enemy. His intuition was crazily warning him that this fragile and beautiful woman in front of him was extremely dangerous. Tony, who was standing on the roof watching the battle, still didn't forget to complain to Chen Feng. I didn't expect you, crazy guy, to use me as bait. Chen Feng, who was also watching the live broadcast of the blockbuster, shrugged helplessly. I thought you could beat that bald head. Seeing this, Tony complained angrily, damn it, I could have won if the guy was still human. Chen Feng agreed quite affirmatively, if he doesn't mutate into that inhuman monster, You can definitely win. It can only be said that the battle is indeed unfair. After using the alien T-virus contained in 008, Obadiah himself has become a biochemical monster that coexists with the mecha. His ability is the ability to use virus-made infections to parasitize and contaminate various mechanical creations. However, when Aliwether came, the situation had been reversed. Although Obadiah was intimidated by Aliwether's superior infection bodyware, he didn't run away. Instead, all the high-level infected bodies around became restless after Aliwether came. Countless infected bodies nearby who sensed Aliwether's breath became extremely excited and manic. Because once they could swallow Aliwether, they could obtain the evolution they dreamed of and become a higher existence. And Aliwether is more like a hamster that fell into the cafeteria. In her view, these terrifying high-level infected people and mutants around them are all evolutionary energy. Every time she devours a different evolutionary body, she can obtain strengthening and master different data to make her own evolution more perfect, as well as master the abilities of those different mutants. It is precisely because of this relationship that even though the surrounding mutants and parasites feel the pressure of the superior, they will not flee, but will fight desperately. This is written in the DNA of their bodies by 008. It is caused by Shendu genetic code. At this time, a Mark II parasitic mecha took the lead in attacking Aliwether. The jet of the mecha slammed into Aliwether at high speed, and violently used both hands and feet to attack her. Aliwether was knocked into a nearby convenience store, but in less than 10 seconds, the commotion inside had ended, and Aliwether walked out with a happy face. I saw that she was playing with a prismatic crystal emitting blue light, Aja, in her hand, and in the next second, that crystal was directly absorbed and swallowed by Aliwether. After devouring that crystal, her body was covered with black metal armor like tights. Aliwether still had an expression on her face. She licked her lower lip, and laughed wildly. "This prey tastes good, is that what you guys are capable of?" Tony was already dumbfounded. He swallowed his saliva, and asked Feng in the communication channel with an expression of disbelief. "It took so little time to solve the parasitic Mark II, man, you really did a big job. Are all the chicks around you such monsters?" You know, the impact of the Mark II steel armor just now had at least 100 tons of impact force. Even a main battle tank would have been smashed, but Aliwether was unscathed. As Tony said, he couldn't help feeling a little sympathetic to Feng, an old guy. Although this guy who shared with him through thick and thin is now a prominent figure. He is still the commander of the Foundation, but he is surrounded by such terrifying tough chicks. Tony shuddered at the thought of being a playboy here. She has already been scheduled to be an S-class agent of the Foundation, so it's not surprising that she has such combat power. Fact, are all Foundation's monsters like this? If Pepper had such a terrifying combat power like Aliwether, Tony would be horrified to think about it. The battle was still going on, and after seeing Aliwether's strength, the surrounding parasitic steel armor swarmed up and launched powerful attacks on Aliwether. The layer of mimetic mecha covering Aliwether's at the moment body makes her look more strangely beautiful. Her hands are no longer completely transformed into alienated blades, but are used by the mimetic mesh on her body. Two extremely sharp mantis knife-like cold black blades popped out of it. A Mark II parasitic mesh was directly chopped off by Aliwether like melons and vegetables during close combat, and then pierced through the steel armor that tanks and guns might not be able to penetrate with one blow. The mecha that was killed was directly swallowed by the dark red bloody thorns, and transformed into an existence like the crystal in Aliwether's hand just now. Even if the remaining 10 parasitic Mark-type mechas swarmed up, they found that they were almost unable to damage Aliwether, whether it was the long-range weapons on the Mark II or the Mark III, or the melee combat. Can't even break the defense. Ranged weapons can't even break through armor, just like scratching an itch. But melee weapons are basically wiped out and devoured. And as Aliwether devoured more and more, the mimic armor on her body became stronger and stronger. Obadiah couldn't sit still at this moment, and in less than 2 minutes, the 12 parasitic Mark-type steel armors had been worn out by more than half. Following Obadiah's order, a large number of parasitic Iron Man mechas produced in the Brood City immediately rushed to support. The UTF Air Force, which was still fighting hard in the air, immediately felt the pressure drop. At least 1,000 parasitic Iron Man mechas joined the battlefield. At this time, Aliwether had devoured all the parasitic Mark II and Mark III steel armors. Aliwether looked at the tide-like parasitic Iron Man with a joyful smile on her face. Immediately behind the mimetic's battle armor covering her body, blood-red mimetic mechanical metal wings stretched out. The upper arm of the mecha was covered with blue energy like a mantis knife, and even the surrounding air was burned. "Stand up!" Aliwether soared into the sky, directly facing the army of flesh and blood Iron Man meshes like a swarm of bees, like a shooting star, directly hitting the black bee swarm hash. One after another, the parasitic Iron Man mechas in the sky fell to the ground like raindrops. Just one attack wiped out at least hundreds of parasitic Iron Man meshes. One blow wasn't enough. Aliwether nimbly leapt back in the sky and charged again, taking away hundreds more. It seems that under Aliwether's powerful offensive, even the parasitic Iron Man Legion, which has almost no sense of mind, felt terror, and was killed and swallowed along with countless companions. The swarm of parasitic Iron Man mechas in the sky like a swarm of bees was scattered at a speed visible to the naked eye. After being defeated, a large number of parasitic Iron Man mechas actually scattered and fled. Seeing this, Aliwether snorted coldly. The metal wings on her back had turned into blood-colored wings of light, and hundreds of blood-colored energy beams shot out concurrently, precisely hitting the parasitic Iron Man mechs who were fleeing in all directions. The army of parasitic flesh and blood Iron Man mechs, which was still densely packed, was completely wiped out by Aliwether alone in just a few minutes. Obadiah watched all this dumbfounded. Aliwether, who was floating above the corpses of thousands of parasitic Iron Man mechas, looked indifferently at the frightened and humble existence in front of her. At this time, countless high-level infected bodies and parasites frantically rushed towards Aliwether's position. Only a special being with mind like Obadiah didn't step forward, but looked in horror at Aliwether, who looked like a Valkyrie descending from the earth, and snapped her fingers lightly. Countless scarlet thorns gushed out, instantly killing and devouring tens of thousands of high-level mutant infection scripts that came over. Obadiah wanted to escape, but was horrified to find that he couldn't move at all. He could only curse incompetently and furiously. How is it possible? I am clearly blessed by my loving father. Why did this happen? Why did there exist such a thing? Damn the foundation. How could it have such a terrible foundation? Existence. Damn Tony. Damn Chen Feng. Aliwether was like a high and mighty queen. Her ruby-like eyes seemed to be looking at a tiny insect. Kneel down, humble worm. In an instant, Obadiah was horrified to find that he could not even curse. The coercion of the terrible superior made his body fear and surrender. This was not his will, but the virus in his body had completely surrendered, just like he could easily control those lower mutants. Life and death are no longer under his control. Obadiah didn't even attack, just knelt on the ground, motionless. But the frightening thing was that his consciousness was completely clear, but he couldn't control his body. He looked at Aliwether, who looked at him like garbage. In the next second, a bloody thorn spear pierced Obadiah's armor, which was weaker than the main battle tank. His flesh and mecha transformed into a dark blue crystal. Chapter 103 Brood Decisive Battle. Xuefeng nuclear explosion knocks on the door. Arduous underground battle. Obadiah, who was still invincible just now, died so humbly that he died without even being able to resist. Aliwether looked at the corpses on the ground, and with a wave of her hand, those crystals that had not been devoured flew out of the high-level mutant's brain, condensed into her hand, and turned into an extremely bright high-level crystal. I am Chen Feng, commander of the Joint Operations Force. The outskirts of the Brood City have been breached. The gap has been opened, and all joint combat forces will launch a general offensive immediately. Aliwether listened to the latest order from Chen Feng on the radio, then put away the crystals, kicked the ground with her right foot, spread the wings and quickly flew towards the core of the hive. Aliwether looked down from the sky, and the whole battlefield was in her eyes. The Brood City is burning. The sound of gunfire, cannons, and roars of monsters envelopes the entire city. Although Obadiah has died, many high-level mutants in the Brood have regrouped after falling into a short period of chaos, continuing to fight by instinct. Artillery fire lit up the entire night sky, and the accompanying anti-aircraft artillery units and armed helicopters were cleaning out those flight mutants. After clearing the sky, massive corpses and higher-level mutants were targeted by the Air Force. Whenever infantry units call for fire support, they often get a response from artillery or air forces in less than 30 seconds. Incendiary bombs, cluster bombs, and high-explosive aerial bombs should not be thrown at the tide of corpses like money. The parasite army has no leader. After being equipped with new bullets, the parasite army is also completely wiped out when facing the regular JTF troops and the Dongwang and Ursus expeditionary forces. Without the cover of air power, those parasite armies are almost slaughtered. Wherever the heavy vehicle units of the parasite army appear, they will be greeted by massive artillery fire or swarming fixed-point air strikes. In the sound of sharp military whistles, the fearless Griag Death Army launched another assault, advancing towards the center of the Brood City. It's just that at this time, the increasingly complex terrain in urban areas, more and more high-level mutant-infected people, various infection nests where a large number of zombies are still being born, and the high concentration of viruses make it more difficult to advance. Stand up. Even the Air Force has difficulty clearing the way out of the complex nest city quickly. Only the two Goliath motherships can be used as the main ship, and the Creature Death Corps, which is baptized with fierce firepower and cooperated with heroic assaults, and the MTF Mobile Task Force that cuts in like a precise scalpel, break into the city. The three Mother Hive cities are designated by the Nine-Tailed Fox Task Force, the Hammerfall Task Force, and the Hell Paratrooper Task Force to clean up the small nests that hinder the advance of the large troops, and the mutated creature gathering areas, and various dangerous areas to ensure the advancing speed of largest troops. Just after the general offensive was launched, it has been on the Goliath-class space carrier that has maintained a ground attack. The catapult has been linked and can be used for single shooting. The takeoff runway has been cleared, and fighter number 001 Xuefeng is allowed to attack. On the takeoff position of the catapult, Feng sat in the fighter plane, pulled it to accelerate, and with the exhaust flames from the jet port at the tail of the Xuefeng fighter jet, with the support of the catapult, the fighter plane was ejected immediately under the acceleration of gravity of 20 g. Go out. The battlefield has come to the final stage. Feng, with itchy hands, drove his fighter plane across the sky quickly, but never had a chance to play. Feng decided to use the snow wind to open the passage at the last moment. That is to use efficient tactical nuclear fusion missiles to clear the surface buildings of the lair at fixed points, so as to facilitate the assault troops to break in. The tactical nuclear fusion missile equipped by Xuefeng is the kind of nuclear-fission nuclear weapon currently used by the Blue Star Army. Fusion bombs have almost no pollution, pure use of explosion and high-temperature killing, will not cause a lot of radiation. Therefore, as long as the large troops are at a safe distance, they will not suffer any losses because the closer to the lair in the city center, the more high-level mutant-infected people will gather. Due to the large number, it is meaningless to continue to use conventional weapons. Even if high-density firepower is continuously used for bombing, a large number of ruins and damage will hinder the killing effect of weapons. In addition, the body of the brood has an extremely strong biological horny shell. Unless it is bombarded with a positive electron siege cannon, it will have a lethal effect. It is almost impossible to damage it with conventional shelling. Fusion bombs have almost become the only option to open the channel. All troops, after entering the safe area, stop advancing and wait for the passage to open before continuing to fight. The Foundation will use fusion bombs to attack the brood. Please don't worry about it. As long as it is at a safe distance, there will be no damage. Fusion bombs have no radiation pollution and can be effectively sterilized after the attack. Fusion bomb? After hearing the communication on the radio channel, whether it was JTF, SHIELD, the Lurking Hydra, or the expeditionary forces of Dongwang and Ursus, they all felt at a loss. Thinking of what the Foundation said, they were immediately horrified. The Foundation actually planned to use nuclear weapons? Is the Foundation crazy? So many troops have entered the city. However, after hearing about the fusion bomb, coupled with the Foundation task force, and those Krieg Death Corps troops are nearby, the Foundation's own troops are all in the city, shouldn't there be? After the initial apprehension, all the forces were surprised the next moment. The Foundation has actually mastered nuclear fusion technology, and has even put nuclear fusion technology into weapons. The battlefield has become much quieter at this time, and all the troops are maintaining the line of defense and have not continued to advance. At this time, Feng had already driven Xuefeng into the attack range, and at the same time, the light night drones were already in their positions. 001 has entered the attack position and is about to release the cargo. Commander, there are no friendly units in the attack area. Return to attack. Received. The delivery of the goods has begun. Feng replied to the headquarters, then opened the weapon safety, and pressed the fire button. Under Xuefeng's abdomen, a missile with a nuclear icon printed on it fell from the pylon, and then the tail flame of the missile ignited and flew towards the top of the biochemical brood. At this time, the air seemed to be silent. Feng pulled the steering gear, and Xuefeng quickly turned around and swept back. At this time, with the occurrence of atomic fusion, it was like a chemical reaction that ignited a flame, and the dazzling white light illuminated the city like daytime. The scorching sunlight temperature enveloped the outer shell of the brood, and a huge amounts of mushroom clouds slowly rose. The terrifying shockwave and air blast vaporize all zombies and high-level mutants around. The high dust is at least several thousand meters high. Seeking flowers. The troops of JTF, SHIELD, Dongwang and Ursus Expeditionary Army all stared blankly at the shocking scene in front of them. However, those who stayed in the safe area did not suffer any harm. Not even a Geiger counter beeped to detect radiation. As the huge fireball at the center of the brood slowly dissipated, the shell of the brood, which was so strong that even heavy aerial bombs and Medusa siege cannons were hard to explode, disappeared. The channel has been opened. Repeat, the channel has been opened. You can relaunch the offensive. Repeat. The channel has been opened, and the offensive can be launched again. As the channel has been opened, the cannons sounded again, and countless troops fiercely launched the final attack. A large number of flares turned night into day. The area where the brood's surface was originally located, the brood's surface area composed of countless flesh and hard horny biological shells, has dissipated, revealing the internal structure of the brood. After a while, starfish zombies and various infected people swarmed out like a tide. The most difficult part of the battle has come. Even if the target's surface structure has been destroyed, revealing the target's interior. Seeing that the passage was opened, the coalition troops who launched the general offensive immediately threw the first batch of commandos into the bloody battle like a meat grinder. The target underground structure has been transformed into an extremely complex terrain by the biochemical brood, and various bereaved households and biochemical body shape variants are produced and manufactured almost all the time. Under such circumstances, heavy firepower has lost its meaning, and all troops can only rely on assault rifles, shotguns, flamethrowers, bayonets, and engineer shovels in their hands to fight against a large number of mutated creatures in narrow terrain at close range. Fighting. In this case, the casualties of the troops increased sharply. The speed of advancement slowed down more and more. At this time, only the engineering units of Krieger's Death Army with rich combat experience took the lead in breaking through. The Krieg engineer unit with rich experience in tunnels uses earthquake monitors to constantly monitor the location of the enemy underground. After proving the subterranean path, these heroic Krieger sappers used shotguns, flamethrowers, melter bombs and sapper shovels and serrated bayonets to clear the passages in the lair tunnel by tunnel. MTF mobile task forces utilize stalker suits and exoskeletons to assist Krieger engineering units in their advance. Other troops are constantly setting up forward outposts and delivering supplies. In this way, although the advance speed of the troops was slow, they were still advancing unswervingly. Almost every 100 meters forward, there will be a squad. Everyday Krieger soldiers and members of the mobile task force will be killed or injured. It is even more difficult for other troops to fight in such a narrow and cramped environment, and even the entire company's JTF troops were besieged by high-level mutant-infected people, and the entire army was wiped out. Just as these heroic troops were going through great hardships, dozens of Euroa troop mechas appeared in the sky of each brood city. The mechas of the Euroa troops burst into the brood from above the brood in an instant. The final decisive battle is coming. When Miss 2B jumped out of the flight mecha and entered the brood with a saber in her hand, the brood's resistance was meaningless. Chapter 104 Biochemical Dragon in the Brood. Shock from the Euroa troops. SHIELD barely showed its face in the Foundation-led counteroffensive. However, Phil Coulson led his AHIELD anomaly handling team to join the frontline operations. His main purpose is to obtain more information about the biochemical lair. It's just the strategy of the underground part of the brood, which still caused many SHIELD agents to lose troops, and Phil Coulson was a little disgraced. It was when the overall advancing speed was slow that the Euroa troops driving the flight meshes descended from the sky. Everyone was surprised when they saw the artificial cyborgs of the Euroa army. What's up with these pretty girls? Why are they still wearing such gorgeous skirts and high heels on the battlefield? And there are still many people with cold weapons? Are you kidding me? Wait, that's the logo of the Foundation. Is this the secret army of the Foundation? Those JTF troops didn't recognize those terrifying existences with beautiful looks in black dresses at all. Instead, Phil Coulson recognized it. There are a total of 12 Euroa troops who came to this lair, including 2B, whether it is the iconic Bo 447D drone accompanying them, or those specialized sabers, and all kinds of sci-fi looking firearms. Those SHIELD agents who saw Miss 2B fighting the Chaos Insurgency were numb. In this lair alone, there are 12 of these terrifying bionic humanoid war weapons. Some newcomers who had not participated in the previous battles between the Chaos Splitters and SHIELD especially looked at the old people who were hiding far away, and they didn't know why for a while. Some of the more curious new agents couldn't help but whispered to their more familiar old agents, "Sir, why are you so far away from those guys? What are they from?" Seeing this, some old agents still had lingering fears on their faces. "That's a demon in human skin. You'll know later. Don't look at these guys as weak little girls. I even doubt that they can handle Rip the Dragon. This is a terrifying war weapon made by the Foundation. Falk, you know, I saw the leading woman with my own eyes. She split a main battle tank with her own hands." After being reminded by the old agents, the new agent of SHIELD discovered the clue. Gift crab. So exaggerated? Could it be that saber? Wardfer. The knife is actually suspended behind her. What kind of gravity position technology is that? Those who were lucky enough to go to the moon base and join the SHIELD anomaly handling team in the offensive and defensive battles were even more relieved, as if they had seen some great savior. Hearing the frivolous words of his colleagues, he couldn't help scolding. What nonsense. Those are our allies. The Euroa troops didn't care about the opinions of the SHIELD agents and the skeptical looks of the JTF soldiers. They directly entered the front line of combat after Miss 2B, who was in the melee special attack form, charged in with 2 sabers, the White Promise and the Black Contract, one long and one short. The first battle broke out soon. A total of 25 6 meters tall, full of alienated muscles called tanks by JTF and SHIELD agents, with infinite strength, and even a mutant titan that can smash cars and armor appeared. When seeing the Euroa troops appear, several of the tanks directly used the boulders in the lair and threw them at Miss 2B and the Euroa troops. The entire passage space trembled because of this, as if dozens of tanks really drove past here. Those UTF troops and SHIELD troops who followed behind, and Mobile Task Force Hammerfell, who rushed to the forefront, almost suffered heavy casualties. I saw Miss 2B rushing forward with a stride, stepping on the air like a dancer to perform a double jump, and easily slashing with a saber a few times, splitting the terrifying boulder into rubble. A tank titan rushed in front of Miss 2B, and the huge fistful of alienated muscles smashed down, but it was easily blocked by the saber raised by Miss 2B. Her high heels even stepped onto dirt pits, and the terrifying force of at least several tons fell down. She was like a normal person, and then she jumped lightly, kicked the tank titan's chest, and kicked it away. More than 10 meters away. Those specialized melee dolls of Ju started their own battles one after another. Those tank titans couldn't stop their steps in front of the UR dolls, and were easily defeated. Even a monster that requires thousands of rounds of bullets from a large caliber anti-aircraft machine gun to kill is like paper in front of their sabers, and it cuts through the hard alienated muscles with a single stroke of the knife, making bones and flesh together cut off. In just one face-to-face time, these tank titans have been cleaned up. Afterwards, more high-level mutants appeared, such as the wailing banshee, which emits terrifying sound waves and uses sound waves to shatter the internal organs and brains of nearby humans, and there are also agile, slender figures with sharp claws, but extremely powerful strong witch zombie. There are also hunters who can jump and climb flexibly, and like to hide in the shadows. These high-level mutants are all useless when facing the dolls of Yoroa's army, and they are slaughtered like melons and vegetables when they meet each other. The long-range weapons used by Yoroa's troops are all Gaussian magnetic rail weapons. Once they are fired, those high-level mutants will also have to be shot one by one with the dual cooperation of long-range weapons and melee weapons, no matter whether it is those ordinary zombies like the Tide or high-level mutants that stand in front of the dolls of Yoroa's troops, or those remaining parasite troops were all cut in half with one knife. At the moment, JTF, who had doubts about Yoroa's troops, Ursa's and Dongwang expeditionary forces, and those new Aegis agents, were all dumbfounded at the moment. No matter what kind of high-level mutants they encounter, in such a confined environment, the human army will basically suffer a lot. Even with a shotgun that fires slugs, if you encounter a tank titan in this environment, even if you run out of bullets, you will be injured at most. If you are not lucky, 10 platoons will have to be reimbursed. That is to say, when encountering ordinary corpse waves, these troops can still cope with and deal with them. After the Yoroa troops joined the battle, the advancement of the underground nest became smooth there. Using Yoroa's troops as sharp knives, plus the Creature Death Army's previous use of earthquake detectors for detection, as well as the risky exploration of those Creature engineering troops, the route to the underground lair has basically been ascertained. Miss 2B and Yoroa's troops maintained a high-speed movement fighting posture almost the whole time, and any monsters that appeared in front of them could hardly stop their progress. With the Yoroa troops as sharp knives, the advancing speed of the follow-up troops was extremely fast. Almost every step forward before had to pay blood and sacrifices, and piled up the tragic brood with human lives. Now with the help of Yoroa's troops, it's easy to pass. With the deepening of the advancement, more and more high-level mutants appear in the brood, and they become more and more dense, and even some giant individuals called boss often appear. For example, some heterogeneous one-eyed titans with a height of nearly 15 meters guarding the entire lair floor, huge giant heterogeneous scorpions, and so on. If such an individual appears on the ground, God knows how many casualties it will take to take it down. It can be seen that after the brood sensed that it had been invaded, it was frantically producing various high-level mutants, which undoubtedly could be called boss-level existences. It's a pity that what they encountered was the Yoroa troop. Originally, the Yoha dolls of the Yoroa troop are good at hunting those huge creatures. After all, they are in their own world, fighting against the mechanical life forms made by aliens every day. Wouldn't it be a good thing to encounter these large biochemical monsters? In addition, compared to those huge amounts of monsters, they are extremely flexible in this kind of space. Seeing that the advancing speed is getting faster and faster, there are more and more high-level mutant guards, and even a large number of parasite troops are deployed in various passages of the brood. The purpose is to hinder the advancement of Yoroa's troops, but all this is useless. When the coalition forces, with the cooperation of Yoroa's troops, killed all the way to the brood incubator that was constantly hatching new zombies, only these troops participating in the war knew why there were so many constantly monsters. The mother's nest has obtained a large amount of human DNA data, and constantly perfected it, and then hatched those monsters through the huge meat mountain-like incubation room of the mother's nest. The hatching room is a space with huge amounts of flesh and blood. There are countless holes in the wall made of fleshy walls, and 2.7 biological eggs in it fell to the hatching pool below. Massive monsters were hatched from there. The hatching room is the core area of the brood. In the center of the hatching room, there is a pillar of huge amounts of flesh, with an organ like a giant brain in the middle. That is the heart of the hive. At this time, it seemed that it sensed the arrival of a large number of enemies, and under the core of the brood, an egg of huge amounts of flesh and blood hatched instantly. Accompanied by a dragon chant, a gigantic monster covered with alien scales, at least 30 meters long, with a wingspan covering the sky, appeared in front of everyone. The crazy and bloodthirsty dragon eyes stared coldly at the human troops below. It seems that I came at the right time, a biochemical flesh and blood dragon. You just stand there and wait. After I beat it to a serious injury, you can go over and devour it. Miss 2B glanced at Aliwether, who was late, and quickly entered the fighting state. Hee, that's not acceptable. I prefer to hunt alone. This refers to the privilege granted to me by the officer. 11. Not to be outdone, Aliwether spread out her mechanical light wings and rushed forward. The two confronted the terrifying giant in front of them as if they were competing with each other. Chapter 105 Swallowing the Core of the Brood. Anomaly 008 Containment successful. Facing the terrifying biochemical dragon guarding the core of the brood, M-Scp and Aliwether took the lead and charged forward to attack. The other dolls of your rowers unit also immediately joined the battle to assist. The JTF and SHIELD and those expeditionary forces found that this was simply not a battle they could join. If this place is not in the brood, but outside the brood, then this biochemical dragon can naturally be handed over to the Air Force, as well as the heavy armored troops on the ground. But the biochemical flesh and blood dragon hatched in the brood hatch at this moment is simply beyond the conventional existence. Even antivirus armor-piercing bullets can't do much damage when they hit its scales. In the battle, many snipers tried to use heavy anti-material sniper rifles to shoot it, but it had no effect at all. At this time, some of the Krieg Death Corps soldiers and the Nine-Tailed Fox Mobile Task Force who arrived did not rashly join the battle. Because M-Scp and Aliwether had already joined the battle first, these mortals who were watching could only feel the strength of the two at this time. The terrifying biochemical flesh and blood dragon moved casually. It was like the earth shaking and the mountains shaking, and ordinary soldiers couldn't even stand still. Flesh biochemical dragon can cause a lot of damage with just a super acid breath. Phil Coulson saw with his own eyes that the two newly hatched tank titans melted into a puddle of smoky blood after only being affected by the super acid breath. One can imagine how terrifying this thing is. And O9 and the dragon will fly up and pounce from time to time. If it is hit by a monster that weighs at least a few hundred tons, I am afraid that even the main battle tank will not be able to withstand it. At this time, these mortal troops can't intervene in this extraordinary power battle at all. They can only start to wipe out the various zombies and mutants hatched in the incubation room. At this time, the center of the battlefield has become intense. Under the powerful attacks of M-Scp and Aliwether, the biochemical dragon has more and more wounds. Aliwether and M-Scp have figured out almost all of its attack methods and routines. Encountering these enemies whose actions are also extraordinary existence, it is difficult for the huge biochemical dragon to cause effective attacks. As the injury became more and more serious, even a part of the wing was directly cut off by Aliwether, and it was smashed down from the sky. The pain-eating biochemical dragon let out a painful roar, and was then output by Yoroa's troops and M-Scp and Aliwether who cooperated in the battle. There were a lot of scars on its body, and steaming blood gushed out like a fountain. After being attacked many times, those hard scales protecting it suffered devastating blows. But even though it suffered countless fatal injuries, this ultimate monster created by the brood is still fulfilling its duty or protecting the brood. In the end it wailed, and because of its heavy injuries, it hit the ground fiercely, making huge amounts of noise. Seeing this, M-Scp glanced at Aliwether at the side, and said coldly, "It's up to you to act. The task assigned to me by the commander has been completed. If you are controlled by 008's consciousness, I will execute you without any hesitation." Aliwether chuckled indifferently when she heard the words, "I will not let the commander down." After speaking, Aliwether stood on the fallen biochemical dragon's head, her arm turned into a blade again, and stabbed fiercely into the biochemical dragon's head. The dying biochemical dragon let out a mournful howl before dying. Even the main gun of a tank might not be able to penetrate the skull. In contrast to its size, it was pierced by Aliwether's alienated blade that could be used like nail clippers. The dark red blood-colored thorns unique to the blacklight virus immediately absorbed this biochemical dragon. Under everyone's stunned witness, this huge monster with a height of more than 30 meters and a weight of hundreds of tons was absorbed by Aliwether so easily. It's like magic. It's hard to imagine how such huge amounts of monsters were swallowed by Aliwether. After devouring the biochemical dragon, M-Scp looked at Aliwether beside her with great vigilance, holding a saber at any time, as if there was anything wrong with her, M-Scp would immediately kill her. After a while, Aliwether, who devoured the biochemical dragon, recovered. M-Scp can feel that Aliwether seems to be stronger than before. Aliwether mimicked the armor again, and condensed a blood-colored thorn spear in her hand, passing through the sky at high speed, and pierced the core of the lair with a blood-colored thorn spear in her hand. The moment the bloody thorn spear pierced the core of the brood, a dull and terrifying howl resounded in the entire nest. After the bloody thorns devoured the core of the entire brood, Aliwether slowly fell from the air to the ground. M-Scp stared at the identification system of the information database. The battle has reached the most critical moment. If Aliwether cannot devour the core of 008 on the brood, metamorphosis into the strongest evolutionary body, and then defeat 008's will, then the containment will fail. But obviously, this time the absorption seems to have been successful. Seeing Aliwether kneeling on one knee, M-Scp stepped forward and asked, "Human, how are you?" After a nightingale-like smile, and gradually wanton arrogance, Aliwether opened her eyes. "I have never felt so powerful. One layer has been devoured, and there are two left. Soon, everything will be over. Aliwether slowly stretched out her right hand, then I will continue to fight. As soon as the words fell, bloody thorns spread all over her feet, covered by the energy of the bloody thorns, and soon began to build bloody flesh to drive away. An extremely powerful and terrifying dragon head appeared at Aliwether's feet. It is a more powerful and terrifying mechanical dragon with a more graceful line than before, covered with a layer of mimic armor. Aliwether smiled and waved at 2B. Then, I'll take a step first. The mechanical flesh dragon flapped its wings, breathed out a terrifying atomic breath, burned through the top of the brood, and then flew straight out. Watching the ceiling made of fleshy walls being burned through and smoking, Miss 2B, who had always been calm, pouted angrily, pulled off her tactical blindfold, and let out a cold snort. Go back to the mothership Gloria, the battle is over. Miss 2B gave the order to evacuate, then summoned the flight mecha that flew over, and left with the other 11 newer humanoid girls who followed her to attack the lair. Witnessing this extraordinary decisive battle, Phil Coulson and others couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva, especially seeing the mechanical flesh and blood dragon summoned by Aliwether, spraying through the terrifying flesh and blood barrier at least hundreds of meters thick with a single breath of atoms. That's the alienated flesh and blood of the brood. The kind that bullets can't even hit through. Was it burned through so easily? Countless troops near the brood saw at this moment that a huge mechanical flesh and blood dragon soared into the sky, its wings covering the sky. It's like watching a Godzilla movie. The reporters who were filming the actual situation of the battlefield also lined up for this scene at the same time, and couldn't help but let out exclamations. Ask yourself if you are watching some monster movie. After all, the huge monster with a high hill just like this flies over the city. It is simply a magical movie. However, Aliwether didn't care how many people witnessed this scene. She just let her cutie quickly fly to the other two nests. Feng, who was watching this scene through the battlefield recorder, held his forehead helplessly, and said to Natasha Romanoff and Sky, who were acting as temporary adjutants, who were stunned, "Remember to clean up the aftermath. It is the Foundation's experimental weapon." "Commander, are you sure this thing is not Godzilla's O20 type? It's a monster like Mecha Godzilla. Those scavengers will cry to death." Hearing Natasha Romanoff's powerless complaint, Feng chuckled as if he didn't hear it. Aliwether, who devoured the brood and summoned a dragon of mechanical flesh and blood, was simply unstoppable. For the other two broods, Aliwether directly let the mechanical flesh dragon burn through their top flesh barriers with atomic breath, and directly airborne all the way to the core. Since she had already devoured a mother nest, Aliwether was completely familiar with the structure of the mother nest, all the way to the mother's core. The other two broods couldn't even mobilize the energy to manufacture the final Asgardians this time, so they were directly burned through the top, and Aliwether, the Heavenly Justice, used the bloody thorn spear to destroy the core structure. After the other two broods were absorbed, Aliwether felt that her will was being eroded by some kind of consciousness. She was fighting with some kind of consciousness for control of her body. Just as her consciousness was getting weaker, a warm energy poured into her body, and Aliwether felt that her sleeping consciousness was awakened by the cool wind of energy. When she opened her eyes again, what she saw was Feng standing in front of her in military uniform. Feng slowly put back the hand on Aliwether's shoulder, looked at the somewhat dazed Aliwether and smiled. "Welcome home, Miss Aliwether." Seeing this, a joyful smile appeared on Aliwether's face, and she jumped forward. "Thank you, Commander." "Let go of Commander." "What a stupid female human being." Aliwether ignored Miss 2B's scolding, and dribbled the ball into someone with a smile. At this moment, Feng froze for a moment, hearing the prompt from the system in his mind. "Congratulations, Commander. Abnormal Containment 008 has been successfully contained?" Complete difficulty, S-level legend? Rewards will be issued soon? Chapter 106 Rich Rewards, Interstellar Civilization and Earth Defense Force Plan. The long-lost system prompt sounded. The scale of the disaster caused by the abnormal containment object 008 is unprecedented. Undoubtedly, the containment difficulty this time was evaluated as an S-level legend. According to your completion evaluation, Commander, it is S-level legendary containment difficulty, and the prizes will automatically upgrade to S-level? The Commander received S-level technology rewards, scientific research materials of Umbrella Corporation in various world lines, including the data of the Alice project? The Commander has obtained S-level technology, Girls Frontline World Iron Blood and Griffin Tactical Doll technology data? The Commander has obtained S-level technology, the basic interstellar technology research and development materials of the Star World? The Commander received an S-level item reward for an engineering ship from the Stars World? The Commander received an S-level item reward for a private colony ship in the world of stars? Since you have perfectly completed a high-difficulty S-level containment, Commander, you have contained 3 objects, and you are hereby unlocking the Foundation's Level 2 Equipment Technology Library? Congratulations, Commander, You have successfully stored a special container as your agent. You have won the first S-level agent award, and hereby award a Foundation Agent Training School? After the pleasant system notification sound ended, Feng was very satisfied with the reward content this time. There are very few rewards in kind, only 3 things: a Stars engineering ship, a Stars private colony ship, and a Foundation Agent Training School. But without exception they are all good things, and those rewarded technologies are priceless. No matter what kind of technology they are priceless treasures that have a price but no market. Feng keenly discovered that the rewards given by the system this time are basically the technology trees of the interstellar civilization level. Umbrella's various world-line technological materials are basically a complete evolutionary path of biotechnology. In particular, this contains all the scientific and technological information of the Umbrella World Tree, which means that there is also an extremely precious technology, that is, human cloning technology. With the human cloning technology, Feng can easily mass-produce a large number of cannon fodder troops and put them into various arduous battles. At the same time, after possessing a full set of Umbrella's biotechnology, it is also a very necessary upgrade to perfect the genetic soldier unit. Especially the perfect T-virus information obtained in the movie Biochemical world, similar to the Alice project. The perfect T-virus can be used to create genetic soldiers who have been strengthened by the perfect T-virus. Even like the Resident Evil game world, mass production and cultivation of biochemical super soldiers with superhuman combat power are not only cheap, but also powerful. At the same time, there are jagged works from Girls Frontline and Griffin's Tactical Humanoid Technology Tree database. This technology is the technology tree about bionics and synthesis people. If the power of the Foundation is to move towards interstellar civilization, ordinary people have great restrictions. However, the tactical dolls as mechanical bionics are different. Those tactical dolls are very suitable for planetary development and can easily reach areas that humans cannot reach for exploration and operations. These 2 technologies are almost essential to interstellar exploration and development, and can supplement and improve existing manpower. If you want to develop an interstellar colony, no matter how much manpower you have, it's not enough to fill it in. In the world of American comics, apart from all kinds of deadly forces in the later stage, the biggest threat still comes from the starry sky. In order to deal with those enemies from the star sea, the Foundation will not have almost any space-based power like SHIELD. Even according to the timeline of the Avengers Alliance, by the time Thanos is defeated, SHIELD does not have a decent aerospace force, let alone a space force. All kinds of deaths of the human forces on the Blue Star, even the battles of the Protoss of the Blue Star like Asgard, can only be regarded as disputes within civilization at best. If these disputes do not endanger the safe existence of human civilization, general foundations will not intervene. But only from extraterrestrial civilizations, the threat of enemies from the star sea, the fund will take action at that time. With Feng's style of doing things, he will not be like the SHIELD in the original plot. SHIELD is almost completely relying on Tony to cheat, and only barely has some air and space power in the follow-up. And basically, in the original Worldline universe, SHIELD is completely lying on its back, passively waiting for aliens to come to the door. In addition, artifacts such as infinite gems are all on the Earth, causing the Earth to be invaded by extraterrestrial civilizations almost every 2 days. Faced with these countless extraterrestrial threats and disasters that are difficult to count, the Foundation must not be able to hide in Blue Star like SHIELD. It is undoubtedly a better choice to focus on the boundless starry sky. The 2 creations of the world of stars, the space engineering ship and the private space colony ship, as well as the basic technology tree of the world of stars, undoubtedly give pillows when you doze off, and have greatly helped the Foundation to move towards the galaxy. In the star world, almost all countries have successfully stepped into the interstellar civilization at the beginning of the game, opening the era of the star sea. They have mastered the curvature engine, hyperspace engine, advanced fusion reactor, and various technology trees that interstellar civilization must master. The Star's engineering ship is the most basic space unit in the Star's world. Star engineering ships can build various sky structures, ranging from the most basic orbital space station to large planet fortresses, and various space wonder buildings, all of which are built by these engineering ships. It can be said that owning such an engineering ship already symbolizes marching towards the star sea, and that private interstellar colonization ship is a necessary ship for building an interstellar colonization city. After these colonial ships land, a standard interstellar colonial city can be constructed based on the colonial ships. Although private colonial ships are not as good as those formal colonial ships built by interstellar civilizations, they are generally built by private companies, so they must not be compared with official colonial ships. The spaceship shelters built after the colony ships landed can be used as temporary bases for the colonies. These spaceship shelters can provide the living needs of millions of people relying on the equipment on the colony spaceships. As for the first place Feng planned to colonize, He had already thought about it. Just directly on the back of the moon, that is, near the scientific research base of 935, build a lunar city. On the scientific research base left by 935, there is a portal that can go to another doomsday plane, Blue Star. This alone represents the existence of huge amounts of interests. Feng made some arrangements for Blue Star before, whether it is SHIELD, or human countries sending expeditionary forces to fight together. That is to obtain the friendliness of the ZFs of Blue Star countries through the perfect resolution of 008's out-of-containment incident. This is crucial to Feng's future plans. Only with the kindness of the governments of the Blue Star countries, can he let the Foundation and the governments of the Blue Star countries sign in-depth cooperation treaties. Since then, the Foundation has spread from only operating within the federal territory to being able to conduct activities around the world. At the same time, after gaining the friendship of the ZFs of the Blue Star countries, Feng can take advantage of the fact that all countries have sent expeditionary forces, and these expeditionary forces are still stranded in the Federation, and make a proposal that countries cannot refuse. That is to establish an EDF Earth Defense Force dedicated to the United Nations. This is something neither SHIELD nor Hydra will do at all. These two organizations only want to rely on federal hegemony to achieve success, but in the end, in each war, the high-tech country they can rely on is actually only one Wakanda? And in Feng's view, Wakanda is completely a group of barbarians with advanced technology, who can't even step out of the Star Sea. It's like taking the Emperor's golden hoe to plow the ground. To gain huge influence on Blue Star, Feng must reach a cooperation agreement with the governments of all countries in the world, and establish a global joint combat force to fight against extraterrestrial threats and containment incidents. And this is the prototype of Feng's envisioned force, the EDF Earth Defense Force. These EDF defense forces will be based on the Foundation's troop-based technology, and it is definitely impossible for them to have the same level of equipment as the MTF Mobile Task Force. After all, Feng would only have temporary command of this army at best. But building this force is necessary. Only by allowing the Blue Star countries to establish such a force, can Feng take this opportunity to use the human and material resources of the countries on a large scale. Otherwise, the name will not be justified, and there is no benefit, and they cannot be expected to invest. But when such an EDF Earth Defense Force is formed, Feng doesn't mind throwing out some technology as bait to lure winners from various countries to invest high costs into it. At that time, once the EDF Earth Defense Force is established, it will not only assist the Foundation in defending against foreign enemies, but even assist in the defense of some low-level areas that the Foundation needs to guard in space. Make up for the shortage of Foundation manpower at this stage. At the same time, with such an army, Feng can gain a great voice. Since the EDF Earth Defense Force belongs to everyone, the EDF Earth Defense Force can build a military base in any corner of the Blue Star. At that time, the Foundation, which is a partner of EDF, will naturally have the right to use these bases, so as to achieve global rapid response deployment within 24 hours. As long as there is a containment incident or a foreign invasion anywhere, within 5 minutes, the FDI's Quick Response Force and the Foundation's Task Force will arrive at the target area to fight. The second part of the plan is the colony ship that will deliver the pillow. It is true that colonizing the moon is not a good idea, although there are abundant resources on the moon, such as the raw materials needed for nuclear fusion such as helium. However, the moon is not suitable for human habitation and life. If the moon is to become habitable, it may have to undergo terraforming. But now that there is the Doomsday Plane linked to the 935 scientific research base, it is very necessary to establish a moon plane base. Chapter 107 Towards the Sea of Stars, the establishment of Shendu City, the priceless number 0 element crystal. Foundation Space Fleet. At the moment Feng has returned to the fleet's temporary flagship, the USS Retribution. At the moment, it has been a week since the successful containment of the abnormal Containment 008 was announced, and the victory of the joint operation was announced. In the Foundation's space fleet, there are 2 more ships. They are a Vesta-class space engineering ship with a length of more than 300 meters and a displacement of 100,000 tons, and a private interstellar colonization ship with a length of 8 kilometers and a width of 5 kilometers. Commander, I still don't understand why the first area to colonize the space city is chosen on the lunar surface. As we all know, the moon is not a suitable place to build cities. This planet is not suitable for human life at all. When building cities, it is necessary to build protective shields. Extremely detrimental to the development and expansion of the city. Miss 2B, who is Feng's adjutant again, is complaining about her own questions. Obviously, the lunar bases and cities in UR's world did not bring much favor to 2B. Seeing this, Feng patiently explained, naturally because the Foundation needs to be an example. In order for the governments of various countries on Blue Star to cooperate with the Foundation sincerely, it is worthwhile to establish such a noodle base. Miss 2B frowned, and said with emotion, Human sociology is really a complicated human society. It is indeed our creator. Because of this, it has been difficult for human beings to truly unite, isn't it? It's so complicated. But I believe that the commander can do it. Unite mankind. Then thank you for your kind words. Chen Feng looked at the private colony ship named Luna 787. There are millions of Foundation workers on it. Once the lunar colony ship lands on a lunar location suitable for building a city, it can immediately form a spaceship shelter. Perhaps with the development of the lunar colonial city in the future, it may become a prosperous planet capital. Chen Feng intends to directly land the lunar colony spacecraft near the 935 scientific research base on the front of the moon. The front side of the moon is flatter and smoother than the back side of the moon, which is more suitable as a stronghold for building cities. The back of the moon is too pitted, and the cost of development will naturally be much higher than that of the front of the moon. The establishment of Shendu city is naturally for the various forces on Blue Star, as well as the governments of various countries. At that time, Chen Feng will not only allow the EDF Earth Defense Forces to come to the lunar base for training in batches, so as to cultivate the favorability of these people for the Foundation. At the same time, Chen Feng can also throw out the big pie of the Doomsday Plane Blue Star on the 935 base, and let the ZFs of various countries on the Blue Star work together to develop it. Developing a Doomsday world is relatively difficult for the current Foundation, and the most important difficulty lies in the lack of manpower. To convert the advanced technologies Chen Feng obtained into power, there is no doubt that massive resources are needed. Even if the space engineering ship Vesta wants to build space buildings, the important resources are simply inestimable. After all, even if an orbital space station is built in the world of stars, it needs the joint ZF on a planet to build it. Even building a small planet or mining station requires massive resources to build one. It would be very difficult for Chen Feng to obtain the massive resources on the Blue Star without using the method of establishing the EDF Earth Defense Force. After all, the interstellar civilization has basically completed the unification of the Mother Star, but the Blue Star is still divided, and it is impossible to rely on any single country to realize the process of marching towards the Star Sea. Without him, there is simply no country that can provide the countless initial resource inputs. Even if it is to build a space elevator or a real orbital space station, the manpower and material resources consumed are incalculable. Even if all the Blue Star countries unite, without the support of the Foundation, even the most basic orbital space station cannot be established. This kind of orbital space station is not a miniature space station like the current Blue Star that can only support the daily life of a few people. It is the kind of orbital space station that can provide at least tens of thousands of people's living, and can build interstellar warships on the orbital space station. Definitely, now Chen Feng has no technology, but no money and no minds to realize it, so he can only draw a big cake for human civilization, let all countries provide support, and then use dividends to let human countries support the Foundation's interstellar development up. Commander, we have reached the near-moon orbit, and the Luna can land at the scheduled landing point at any time. Very well, let the Luna land, and let's take a shuttle cabin to see it together. As the lunar spacecraft enters the lunar orbit and begins to land on the predetermined orbit, the first space colony in human history is about to be established. The behemoth, which is 8 kilometers long and 5 kilometers wide, slowly landed on a suitable landing site, accompanied by huge amounts of smoke and dust. This behemoth with a length of 8 kilometers and a width of 5 kilometers docked steadily at the scheduled landing point. The Luna landed successfully and started the second phase of operations. After the Luna successfully landed, the spaceship began shapeshifting very quickly. The huge hatch covering the top of the spaceship was opened, and a huge transparent protective cover made of highly strengthening plasticized glass appeared. Inside, it was various urban living facilities inside the colony spaceship. As Sikai's Yukikes began to report, Commander, the spaceship shelter has been launched, and all Foundation colony spaceship employees have begun shelter operation activities. According to the analysis, it will take at least 6 months for the colony ship to complete the colonization transformation process of the spaceship shelter. Hearing this, Chen Feng was a little astonished. 6 months. Seeing Chen Feng's puzzled gaze, Xuefeng explained, Commander, 6 months is not a long time, compared to interstellar colonization, the vast project, relying on a spaceship to build a spaceship shelter in 6 months, constructing the basic structure of a planet's capital. This is already very fast. This is because our colonial spaceships are relatively small. If they are giant colonial spaceships that are hundreds of kilometers long, it will take longer for them to complete the construction of the spaceship shelter. Unless they have a more advanced engineering and construction foundation, the process can be shortened. If you change to Blue Star's current engineering method, if you want to build a city of this scale from scratch, you can at least start with a year as a unit, let alone build such a city on the lunar surface that is not suitable for human habitation. After Chen Feng listened to Xuefeng's explanation, he no longer had any objections. Indeed, according to Xuefeng, the establishment of an interstellar colonial city is a long process, and it is not an exaggeration to take years as a unit. Ask the commander to name your first colonial city. Since the ship is called Luna, then this city should be called Luna 1. Looking at the lunar spaceship shelter that has been deployed and is gradually expanding its operations, Feng only feels a sense of accomplishment. From the precarious days when I first traveled to the American comics world, to now controlling an interstellar city with a population of 1 million, this past time is only a few short blacks. Looking at the lunar colony spacecraft that started to build the colony in an orderly manner, Feng asked Miss to be beside him, "How is the 935 Scientific Research Base?" "Commander, we have dispatched the Nine-Tailed Fox Mobile Task Force to deploy and now the 935 Scientific Research Base is absolutely safe." Feng nodded in satisfaction after hearing 2B's answer, and then ordered, "After this, maybe we should upgrade the Scientific Research Base of 935. "I agree with Commander very much. The abandoned 935 Scientific Research Base is too backward. If it weren't for the plane transfer device, that base would be worthless at all. That plane transmission device is the greatest value. You must know that the legacy left by the contained object 008 in that doomsday world is extremely valuable. If it is a doomsday world like the American TV series The Walking Dead, the value of the Foundation and even human countries, the Scientific Research Base of 935 will be greatly reduced. After all, considering the difficulty of establishing an Earth-Moon flight at this stage, even if there is a world where resources can be mined, you have to send people to the Moon first. Not counting the various expenses for transporting military equipment, this is transported to the Moon. Even with the assistance of the Foundation will not help you transport manpower and material resources up for free, even in the name of the EDF Earth Defense Force. How can the Foundation charge the cost price of the ticket? However, the doomsday world created by Containment 008 is different, because Containment 008 absorbed the 115 element and produced a mutation. Therefore, those zombies, especially high-level mutants, will produce a new element of energy material after death. This substance is the crystal that Aliwether absorbed and collected before. Those crystals are named crystals of element 0. The crystal of element 0 has been researched by Dr. Wilhelm of the Foundation and found that it not only contains abundant energy, but also some of the substances in it are very beneficial to the strengthening of human beings. Therefore the number element has very huge amounts of development prospects. And at this time, those Blue Star forces who have participated in the battle against the biochemical brood, and participated in the battle against various mutant creatures, as well as the 5 benevolent people such as Eagle Source, Rabbit, Bear, Gallo Chicken, and John Bull, are probably not research institutions. They are all studying element 0 crystals. At that time, they will discover the great value of this kind of thing. However, at this time, they will pessimistically find that the lair has been completely destroyed, and the zombies have been wiped out. Without the mother nest, even those ordinary zombies infected by the virus will not give birth to this crystal. At that time, it was time for Feng Lion to open his mouth. Definitely the ultimate goal of everything is to enable human beings to survive in this cruel star sea. Chapter 108 Reaction from all parties. What? The Foundation built a city on the Moon? Exclamation mark. After the Brood Raiders battle, the Foundation undoubtedly became the biggest winner. The Foundation has received high praise from countries all over the world, and won the friendship of the 5 benevolent people. At the same time, it has also received praise from major media around the world, and it is almost rendered as a salvation organization for human beings. And Feng even became famous in the first battle, and directly became a legendary star of the new era after the Cold War. Almost every day when I turn on the various media of the Federation, I can see countless short videos, which almost blow Feng into the history of the Federation. After all, commanding a joint army of hundreds of thousands of humans, defeated the threatening biochemical aliens, and destroyed the terrifying biochemical brood city, and there was no mistake in this. All the troops were deployed in an orderly manner under the command of Feng. Cooperate tacitly. You must know that even the Federation made a lot of low-level mistakes during the Gulf War, such as a certain famous highway of death, because of an extremely low-level intelligence labeling error. As a result, an armored battalion of the Federation was attacked unpreparedly, was beaten helplessly, and was defeated. Not everyone has such coordination ability and commandability, and there are no mistakes in commanding hundreds of thousands of troops. Therefore, the current Federation is actively preparing for a grand award ceremony, and will award Feng the highest honor for a Federation soldier, a Medal of Honor. Compared with the Foundation, which has returned with great reputation and reaped a lot of money, SHIELD is a bit bleak. Although SHIELD is actively cooperating with various operations, but there is no outstanding performance in it. Compared with the fearless group charge of the Krieg Death Corps of the Foundation, there is also the special operation of the MTF Mobile Task Force, and the full handworkers deep enemy lines. SHIELD's performance in this battle against the Crisis Federation can be said to be mediocre. Compared with the brilliant performance of the Foundation, SHIELD seems a bit bleak. The only one that can be obtained is estimated to be the 935 scientific research base that cleaned up the moon with the Foundation. Alexander Pierce returned to his office with a gloomy face. Just now, with a stiff smile, he had to award Natasha Romanoff Agent and Sky Agent together with Director Black Braised Egg. Due to the excellent performance of Natasha Romanoff and Sky in the moon base, they were almost used by SHIELD to write a special book. After all, this is considered SHIELD's outstanding role in this battle. But this also means that the anti-Foundation faction led by Alexander Pierce in SHIELD has suffered a huge blow to its reputation. Not only that, but Alexander Pierce's prestige as the head of SHIELD's Foundation confrontation was also damaged, which greatly affected the progress of Hydra's Aegis infiltration plan. Therefore, seeing Natasha Romanoff Agent and Sky Agent returning home with honors, and he had to squeeze out a smile to witness the black marinated egg awarding honors to these two Foundation cooperation agents, Pierce was so angry that his teeth itched. The Foundation is so powerful today, yet Hydra has almost no means of infiltrating the Foundation. SHIELD knows almost nothing about the Foundation, and the only piece of information Hydra has learned through SHIELD is that the Foundation will have a secret base in the upper part of Paradise Island near Shendu. In addition, it is the aerospace fleet that the Foundation made a high-profile appearance before. Originally, Hydra even prepared a contingency plan, such as taking the opportunity to attack the Foundation base, causing heavy losses to the Foundation, and then triggering a war between the Foundation and SHIELD, two super organizations, and then Hydra took advantage of it. However, after seeing the Foundation's aerospace fleet, Pierce did not dare to act rashly. Hydra's initial assessment was that the Foundation base on Paradise Island might be the headquarters of the Foundation in the Federation. However, after the Foundation's space fleet appeared, the Hydra organization's assessment of the Foundation took office immediately. The Foundation already has an air and space fleet. No one really thinks that the base deployed by the Foundation on Blue Star is the real headquarters, right? It was the first time Pierce felt so powerless, and it was all because the Foundation's rise was too sudden, and Hydra didn't even have time to contact and infiltrate. Otherwise, if we can infiltrate the Foundation to achieve Hydra's goal of replacing the dead with peaches and plums, and control a powerful organization like the Foundation, world domination is just around the corner. But Pierce desperately discovered that infiltrating the Foundation was very difficult. The Foundation is not as easy to infiltrate as SHIELD. Even SHIELD still has a lot of cards that Pierce doesn't have. Besides, why did Hydra let the Foundation personnel defect and join Hydra? Did it use money to buy it? Don't be ridiculous. An organization at the level of the Foundation obviously keeps secrets, has a higher level of informatization, and has a higher level of belonging within the organization. Even SHIELD has not grasped the schematic diagram of the Foundation's organizational structure until now, and it is not even clear about the specific staff levels of the Foundation and the composition of the Foundation's personnel. Even if you want to bribe, you can't find a way. Just when Pierce was about to conceive a new plan and think about whether there was any way to fight the Foundation, one of his subordinates pushed the door open. "Bastard, why didn't you knock on the door?" Pierce, who was already in a bad mood, saw his confidant look flustered and even forgot to knock on the door, so he scolded him with sullen expression on his face. "Sir, turn on the TV and watch the news. Hell, the Foundation is making another big move." Although his confidant was a little nervous about his scolding, he still bit the bullet and reminded him. The Foundation is making another big move? Pierce, as an experienced veteran of the intelligence organization, naturally knew that now was not the time to care about these trivial matters, so he temporarily ignored the unreasonableness of his subordinates. "I just gave a panicked and unusable evaluation from the bottom of my heart." So Pierce turned on the TV calmly with a cold face. Watching the news, Pierce couldn't keep his composure. According to our station's report, there are already countless astronomy enthusiasts observing the lunar city built by the Foundation in the lunar sky at the same time. It's unbelievable. Not long ago, the Foundation's aerospace forces fleet escorted a huge colony spacecraft to the moon, and built the current lunar city of Feng, which is about 10 square kilometers. The construction of this city was completed almost instantly, and no one thought that Quintangren has mastered something that even the Federation with the highest level of technology in Blue Star cannot do: colonize the moon, or build a huge colonial city. My God, are we living in the Universal Century? Or is the Foundation bringing the Universal Century to mankind? It is said that the Kraja Death Corps is the Foundation Marine Corps of the Foundation. Wow! I declare that the Foundation is the light of mankind from now on. Perhaps the Foundation will lead mankind to the Star Sea and jointly develop the universe. When he saw the Foundation's Space Navy fleet escorting the Interstellar Colony spaceship to build an interstellar colony city, Pierce only felt his eyes go dark. He had originally planned to carefully target the Foundation, and then find a way to continue to make trouble. It would be best to cause a conflict between the Foundation and SHIELD. But when I saw that the Foundation had only passed a few days, it suddenly built such a lunar city on the moon. Seeking flowers. What level of technology is this? Don't he say that SHIELD can do it, and Hydra can do it? Even if all the human powers of Blue Star are gathered, they can do it. Definitely, this is why Pierce and the human organizations and countries who are watching this scene now do not understand the interstellar colonization technology of the stars. So they thought that building a moon base and landing on it would be over. In fact, the current Lunar 1 city has not even fully developed the form of a spaceship shelter. It will take half a year to complete the construction of the colonial city. But these people don't know, just seeing such a huge colonial spaceship, it is basically impossible to have any resistance. This is almost crushed by a terrifying force beyond the times, as if the Trisolarans are about to throw a two-way foil blow at humans, which is a dimensionality reduction blow. Pierce tremblingly instructed his confidant, temporarily wipe the Foundation from hostile targets, and our main energy will be on the Snake and Shield plan in the future. As for continuing to target the Foundation, are you kidding me? The Foundation is no longer playing in Blue Star, and even to show off their strength, they directly mobilized a colony ship to build a moon-faced city in front of all Blue Star people. ... This thing is extremely scary to think about, and you can't think too much about it. Even if you use all the power of all human beings, you can't build that colony spaceship. Pierce is knowledgeable, he can see that to build a ship like that, you can't build it on the ground of Blue Star, it can't be built. Such a ship is too bulky. With Blue Star's ability, even if it is built on the ground, it will not be able to fly due to its large volume and weight, let alone break through the atmosphere. So to build such a ship, maybe you need to use something like an orbital shipyard. Pierce's scalp tingles at the thought of this. While humans are still engaged in various disputes on the parent planet, the Foundation might have already controlled a planet, and even that planet can create an orbital shipyard. Maybe there is more than one such planet, maybe 4 or 5 colonies. Otherwise, why would the Foundation be so proficient in building spaceships for space colonization and planetary colony cities? How many times has the Foundation done such things? Pierce didn't dare to think about it. The more he thought about it, the more powerless he felt. The more he felt that Hydra was a joke, he might as well invest in the Foundation. And at this time, the director of SHIELD's Black Braised Egg also stared blankly at the scene in front of the screen. After a while, he picked up the director's desk computer and dialed the number. Pick me up with Natasha Romanoff, Agent. Director Nick, what do you want from me? This is the case, Agent Natasha Romanoff. I wonder if you can help me get in touch with Lieutenant General Chen Feng of the Foundation. I want to make an appointment with Lieutenant General Chen Feng. After hearing what Black Braised Egg said, Natasha Romanoff hesitated. Director, it's not that I don't want to complete this task, but Your Excellency Chen Feng may not have the time. A wry smile appeared on the face of the black stewed egg. Detective Natasha Romanoff, please do your best to complete this mission. If it doesn't work, I can also visit Lieutenant General Chen Feng in person. Okay, Chief, I'll do my best. It doesn't matter, Agent Natasha Romanoff, no matter how long the appointment time is, you can make an appointment. You must make an appointment to come out. If I don't even meet the leader of the light of humanity, it would be too rude. Nick Fury laughed a few times, put down the microphone, and then exhaled. This mood is as complicated as the one I felt when I called my parents when I was a child. Chapter 109 Award Ceremony. Homesick 5-star General Chen Feng. Director Nick has received a firm reply, and the chairman of the Foundation, His Excellency Chen Feng, will attend the Federation's honor and promotion ceremony at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. His Excellency Chen Feng's adjutant gave me a reply, saying that he can spare 30 minutes to meet with you after the award ceremony. Hearing the reply from Natasha Romanoff, agent on the other end of the phone, High-Braised Dan felt that a big stone in his heart had finally landed. Then the one eye of the black-potted egg widened, and then his voice became trembling. Yes, President. Isn't Your Excellency Chen Feng the commander of the Foundation? Natasha Romanoff's doubtful voice came from the other end of the phone. With the achievements of His Excellency Chen Feng, isn't it inevitable to become the president? Although I was very surprised when I first heard the news that Natasha Romanoff, sent to the position of president of the Foundation. Do you know anything about it? Probably like the Emperor. Is it a lifelong career? What's the matter, Director Nick? Oh, nothing. I just don't know much about the Foundation. Thank you for telling me that, Natasha Romanoff, agent. Black Braised Egg's throat surged. He swallowed. His pupils were filled with shock, and then he said cautiously, Natasha Romanoff 350 agent, please be sure to express your thanks to President Chen Feng's adjutant. Okay, I'll pass on to Director Nick. After hanging up the phone, Nick Fury wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, and muttered to himself, President, it's actually the president of the Foundation. Oh my god. It's no wonder that Nick Fury's mentality is out of balance, and he puts himself in such a low profile. Knowing that the Foundation built a lunar city directly on the moon with a space colony ship in less than 3 days after the Brood Raiders battle, anyone would be shocked by the power of the Foundation. And at this time Nick Fury learned that Chen Feng had officially assumed the post of president of the Foundation. At the moment, Regarding the energy of the Foundation, SHIELD will not regard him as an organization on the same level as itself. People are already playing interstellar colonization. Do you believe that organization bugs like the Foundation are colonizing with balls? He might have colonized several planets in places that humans don't know. According to Nick Fury's understanding of the universe, he even thought of a terrifying existence. Maybe the Foundation is that kind of Starsea enterprise, that is, the kind of enterprise that has several galaxies in its territory and even has its own fleet. It can even easily destroy an enterprise in an interstellar civilization country. So Nick Fury has to lower his profile when dealing with the president of such a foundation, which is still a lifelong career. Doesn't that mean he is SHIELD director, going to meet an emperor of an interstellar empire? Not to mention black braised eggs anticipation for this meeting, or the torment of waiting. At the moment Chen Feng was wearing the military uniform of the commander of the Foundation. He was born as an agent of the Foundation. Now that Chen Feng has successfully completed several containment tasks, he has finally become the president of the Foundation, recognized by the system. From now on, he will be the chairman of the Foundation and the supreme commander of the Foundation's armed forces. At the moment 2B and Miss Xuefeng on the side are carefully helping Chen Feng organize his clothes. Xuefeng finally no longer appears in the form of a holographic image. After possessing the technology of the tactical humanoid, she quickly built a super luxurious version of the humanoid body through the Foundation's base facilities. The computing power of this humanoid body alone is even higher than that of her fighter body. Commander, you are perfect. I believe you will fascinate countless human females today. Miss 2B should call the commander Your Excellency President. That's my exclusive title as a loyal guard captain and adjutant. An AI like you won't understand it. I am also one of the president's lieutenants. You are an old-fashioned doll. I doubt whether you can still fulfill the duty of protecting the president. Looking at Xuefeng and Miss 2B who were bickering, Chen Feng looked at her helplessly, and stopped him. Okay, two adjutant ladies, with you as female companions tonight, I believe it will be enough for all the ladies present. They faded. The two beautiful white-haired female adjutants snorted coldly. Humphrey, too. Chen Feng was quite surprised. The two guys who are both AI lieutenants are obviously known for their rationality. Why do they often quarrel with human nature? After Xuefeng created a humanoid body, armed by two white-haired female adjutants, one left and one right, Chen Feng walked out of the president's suite slowly. He will attend the upcoming honor ceremony and dinner in Washington, D.C., and the leaders of the 5 benefactors will be present at this meeting. He also just took the opportunity to discuss with the 5 benefactors about joint development of the 935 lunar surface base and the establishment of EDF. At this moment, the hotel where Chen Feng stayed has been guarded by the elite grenadiers of the Loyal Creature Death Corps, and the inner and outer third floors of the MTF Mobile Task Force. Raise your gun and salute. When Chen Feng walked out of the room, the grenadiers of the Death Corps, who occupied the entire floor on guard, raised their guns and saluted. Being able to give the Supreme Commander and guards is the highest reward for them and the performance of recognizing their glory. The MTF Mobile Task Force guards on both sides also raised their guns over their shoulders. Chen Feng returned a military salute gently. Thank you, soldiers. Our honor, sir. When Chen Feng walked out of the hotel where he was staying, a Maybach specially customized for the Foundation had already parked at the door. These are 3 special Maybach cars especially made by the Foundation's technology and the handicrafts of the Maybach manufacturer. As for why he chose to cooperate with the Maybach factory, it may be because of Chen Feng's resentment as a German car captain in his previous life, so we can only commemorate it in this way. In addition, there are a total of 16 Foundation assault vehicles, as well as a convoy of federal military and police protocol escorts. When Chen Feng and the 2 white-haired female adjutants walked through the red carpet and got into their special car, the 24 road-clearing police vehicles in front of the convoy used Ducati motorcycles and sounded the protocol siren to clear the road on the busiest Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. The luxurious motorcade drove out of the hotel where he was staying, and made Chen Feng realize what it means to travel as a leader. His style and influence are far from being a lieutenant general who was urgently arranged by the federal military. Stand at attention, salute. In order to show respect to the legendary general and the highest courtesy to the new president of the Foundation, both sides of the road are full of protocol guards from JTF standing guard. After the convoy arrived, these JTF guards paid tribute to the approaching convoy with great enthusiasm and sense of honor. The federal people on both sides of the road really welcomed it wholeheartedly, waving flowers and salutes in their hands, and burst into warm cheers. It is simply a scene of all things competing for growth and vitality. This is the current Chen Feng, dubbed the greatest commander of the 21st century and touted as the savior by the Federation. Although the Federation wants to bind Chen Feng in all ways, it will be useless in the end. When dealing with internal problems of human beings, Chen Feng will always be a bowl of water. Given the various problems that the Federation has now exposed, if it is really necessary to choose a partner to support only one foundation, then Chen Feng will most likely choose Dongwang as the Foundation's partner. But what the Foundation needs is the power of all mankind, so what he has to do is level the bowl of water. If only one country is supported, Unless that country unifies Blue Star, the disputes will never stop, but the current Foundation has no time, or the American comics world has no time either. What's more, the world of American comics is, after all, the world of American comics, and the Commonwealth has a lot of extraordinary power among the people. It is also impossible for Dongfeng to let the Federation do nothing. Otherwise, once disputes and contradictions arise within human beings, it will be fatal to human beings. In the universe, there are still 3 major cosmic civilization empires: the Kree Empire, the Skrull Empire, and the Sia Empire. These 3 cosmic civilizations are not easy to get along with. Once there is a dispute within the human race, with the current situation of the Foundation, it will be difficult to resist the full-scale attack of one of the interstellar empires. So Chen Feng can only unite human beings in a cooperative and controlled way. Even though Chen Feng wanted to accept the award from Dongwang more than the Congressional Medal of Honor, but for the sake of all mankind, and for the great layout of the Foundation, he can only accept this award. Looking at Chen Feng, who was drinking bourbon with ice in the car, Miss 2B raised her own doubts. "Commander, you are about to be awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor by the Federation on 3.3 and promoted to the Federation's 5-star general, but you don't look happy?" "Stupid old-fashioned AI, that's naturally because the president doesn't think it's an honor. After all, the president is from Dongwang." Chen Feng squeezed out a smile. "It's a bit ironic that you said that I am a Dongwang person. How could I become a 5-star general of the Federation, and I still have to accept the Medal of Honor from the Federation? But what I want to do more now is actually to go back to my hometown to have a look. I want to go back to my hometown, go back to the small shop I am familiar with, order a bowl of braised beef noodles, add a deep-fried dough stick, and add enough peppercorns, coriander and aged vinegar." Miss 2B ignored Xuefeng's bickering and asked, "What's the commander's hometown like?" Chen Feng fell into deep thought. "My hometown?" He recalled the scenery of his hometown and said, "There is a Dongwang song like this. When I sing it, I think of my hometown. A big river has wide waves, and the wind blows the fragrance of rice and flowers on both sides. My family lives on the bank. I am used to listening to the chant of the boatman and seeing the white sails on the boat." "President, is this song called A Big River?" "No, this song is called My Motherland." Chapter 110 The Foundation's Goodwill, the highest level confidentiality agreement Xcom plan. Federal Washington, Pennsylvania 1600 Avenue Speaker Building. The White House is the executive residence of the federal speaker. Definitely it also has a more familiar nickname, that is the White House. In normal times, some areas of the White House will be open for tourists who make an appointment to visit, but today it is not open to tourists. After the concierge convoy passed through the Confederate Monument on Pennsylvania Avenue, the federal people lined up to welcome them all the way to the end of the road, followed by military police in full dress. Chen Feng and his 2 white-haired female lieutenants have already seen the white neoclassical-style sandstone building that is familiar in film and television works. Through the electric fence and iron gate, there is the famous green lawn and fountain in front of the White House. The moment Chen Feng arrived, the federal military band in front of the White House played cheerful tunes. The convoy passed through the gate of the White House and drove all the way to the main entrance. When the 3 Maybach cars custom-made by the chairman stopped steadily, the concierge staff opened the doors. Chen Feng, a very gentleman, was surrounded by 2 people who were also wearing evening gowns and costumes. The well-dressed female adjutant stepped out of the special car arm in arm. As soon as Chen Feng stepped on the red carpet, warm applause and cheers came from all around. Looking around, they are all high-ranking officials of the Federation. It can be said that these people have mastered more than 99% of the wealth and power of the Federation. "Welcome back, our hero." An imposing middle-aged man with silver hair and black pupils and gold-rimmed glasses greeted him with a smile. "This is the most powerful person in the Federation in name, Adam Benford, the Speaker." Since Mrs. 09 passed away early, the most powerful man in the Federation is accompanied by his daughter, Ashley Graham M. Perhaps it was to commemorate his deceased wife, so the chairman's daughter did not follow his surname. Although Chief Speaker Adam Benford looked like a kind-hearted old man next door wearing gold-rimmed glasses, Chen Feng did not dare to underestimate this old fox. Chen Feng has forgotten who the federal speaker of the American comics world is, but he has an impression of the federal speaker who appeared in Resident Evil. Compared with the inactive and almost non-existent federal president of the American comics world, this President Adam Benford in the Resident Evil game world line can be described as a wily, cunning and prestigious man. Figure. Chen Feng stepped forward to shake hands with the chief speaker cordially. He put on an American-style hypocritical smile on his face. In the federal land, you always have to maintain such a fake smile to appear enthusiastic. At this moment, countless flashlights shone over, almost blinding Chen Feng's eyes. "Don't dare to be, Chief Speaker, I'm just on duty." Both foxes, one big and one small, put on false smiles, and Adam Benford said with a friendly smile like an elder, "Don't be so restrained, our dearest commander, today you are the protagonist." He kindly followed Chen Feng and took a photo of the 2 of them for the reporters. "This old fox, it seems that the next general speaker is stable." Chen Feng complained inwardly, But on the surface, in order to cooperate with the old fox's ZZ show, Yi always had some model plays for the public to watch. Come, commander of our heroes, let me introduce you. These are the leaders of our close allies, Mr. and Madam Cassidy of the Prussian state, Hans. Chen Feng stepped forward one by one and shook hands with these so-called leaders. These three were the dignitaries who controlled the continent of Europa. Chen Feng is well aware of the old fox's thoughts, and he gave Europa's big three first, because he wanted to take the opportunity to let NATO have a relationship with the Foundation. Then the old fox slapped his head apologetically. Oh, by the way, definitely, there are two distinguished guests from Ursas and Dongwang, Special Envoy Antonov and Special Envoy Li. Definitely, the three giants of Europa and the other two high-ranking benefactors among the 5 great benefactors, like Shigesigura from a small day and Xiao Nishihachi who eats kimchi, as well as those leaders of small countries in the 2nd and 3rd tiers in NATO, are only worthy of standing behind. Looking at it, I don't even have the qualifications to go up to greet and talk. The only thing to do is to wait for Chen Feng, who represents the Foundation, to finish talking with the 5 benevolent people, and they just wait for the notification. After exchanging pleasantries, Chen Feng, accompanied by 6 heavyweights, went directly to the East Hall of the White House. This is the place where the President of the Federation holds state banquets and entertains distinguished guests. When Chen Feng walked into the East Hall, he saw many old acquaintances, including Tony and Pepper, General Lois and Hammer, General Randall, and General Elaine. Then came General Li Qingshan and General Mikhail of the Expeditionary Force, and their 2 female adjutants, Major Lin Yan and Major Karina. In addition, there are the Black Stewed Egg Director and his assistant Pierce who have only been seen on the screen, as well as Phil Coulson, Melinda May, Widow's sister, and Sky Gwen on the Foundation side, as well as Aliwether, Colonel Lindenwen of the Hell Paratrooper Task Force, Colonel Hans of the Hummerfall Mobile Task Force, and Catherine Agent who was promoted to the head of the Global Strategic Bureau. Except for these people, almost all the top dignitaries and world-class plutocrats and VIPs, this banquet can be said to be unprecedented in scale. If your rank is a little lower, you can't even enter the door of the East Hall. Like the leaders of those small countries, the plutocrats and dignitaries can only participate in the banquet on the lawn outside the White House. After all, the theme of the definitely dinner is to award honors, so many of the people who can participate in the dinner are combat heroes who have performed outstandingly in previous battles. Chairman Adam Benford and Chen Feng stood in front of the award ceremony stage and announced loudly to everyone in person, "Let us welcome the hero who saved the Federation and the world, Commander Chen Feng." With the warmest applause, Chief Speaker Adam Benford said loudly, "Next, I will have the honor to give the hero who saved the world, General Chen Feng, an award ceremony and a promotion ceremony." Everyone applauded enthusiastically, and after countless flashing lights, the Chief Speaker's daughter Ashley personally brought a gift box to the Chief Speaker's hand. The General Speaker opened the gift box, and inside was a Federal Congress Medal of Honor that countless soldiers of the Federation wanted to receive. It represented the highest honor of the Federation. After the General Speaker personally put the medal on Chen Feng, he then picked up a scepter that symbolized the power of a 5-star general, and solemnly handed it to Chen Feng. "It is a great honor for me to award the honor to the youngest 5-star general in the history of the Federation. Let us congratulate the 5-star general, General Chen Feng." "You deserve it." People burst into applause again. Chen Feng's face was almost stiff with a smile. Afterwards, at the reception, the most powerful people in the world came forward to toast one after another. Chen Feng's toast was definitely meant to clink glasses. Only those who represent the 5 benefactors of Blue Star, Chen Feng will take a symbolic sip. Except for the generals of the Expeditionary Force who fought together, as well as the toast of the old Sergeant Major of Laymen, Chen Feng will only serve 10 glasses. And during this process, the director of SHIELD, Hydrogen, has been waiting patiently. As one of the leaders of the top mysterious organization, Hydrogen naturally knows that all the powerful countries of Blue Star will be impatient to present to the fund at this banquet. Will throw an olive branch, hoping to reach a cooperation agreement with the Foundation. Sure enough, as Black Braised Egg guessed, less than 20 minutes after the banquet started, Chen Feng, Adam Benford, the Speaker of the House, and the Prime Ministers, Cardinals, and plenipotentiary envoys disappeared without a trace. In the secret meeting room of the White Room, representatives of the top 20 powerful countries representing all mankind, representatives of the top 20 large military enterprises in the world, and representatives of the top 5 technology companies gathered together. Chen Feng sat on the main seat, and below him were the representatives of the 5 benevolent people. No one will question this. The current Chen Feng is not a 5-star general of the Federation, but a representative who has mastered the technology of the Interstellar era, owns a lunar urban colony, controls a space fleet, and controls countless supernatural powers in his hands. Power, maybe even control the Foundation president of an interstellar enterprise. As the initiator who dominated the meeting, Chen Feng was not stage frightened, and delivered the opening remarks openly and honestly. "Okay, gentlemen, there is no need to act here anymore. I believe everyone already knows that the Foundation is a super organization dedicated to protecting human civilization. I came here to attend the meeting today to bring the Foundation's goodwill to everyone here. After finishing speaking, Feng gave Miss Xuefeng and Miss Tubi a look, and they understood and handed the documents to the representatives one by one. This plan, I hope that everyone can maintain the highest level of confidentiality. After reading it, it is forbidden to take pictures and not to spread it outside. I hope you can keep in mind your identity. We are all human beings, and if you 410 can join this plan, then you will be the first members to join the plan. Chairman Adam Benford was the first to receive the document. When he opened the project information, he saw the gilded text printed on it, the Xcom plan. The Xcom plan refers to a plan involving the whole world to jointly invest in human beings, technology, and funds to build a large-scale military organization that can protect human beings from being invaded by extraterrestrial civilizations. I have already thought of the name of this armed force. It is called the Earth Defense Force. The Foundation will provide certain Foundation technical support to the participating countries, forces and organizations of the Xcom project, and will allow the joint development rights of the Foundation's recently built Lunar City, Luna 1, and One World. Speaker Adam Benford, Prime Minister Harker, Prime Minister Casey, Bishop Louis, Special Envoy Antonov, and Envoy Lead saw the details of the Xcom plan, and their breathing became short of breath in an instant. After a while, Feng looked at the representatives who had read the proposal with a smile. I've finished my words, so who agrees with this plan? Who opposes it? It's really generous support, Your Excellency. The Federation agrees with your plan. Dongwang agrees with the Xcom plan, and we will fully support the project. Ursus also agrees with the Xcom plan. The Pope of Iris, the Commonwealth of Britannia, and the Prussian Confederate States jointly agree. The Pan-Asian countries jointly agree. The countries of South America, the Afro-African Union, Nuogar and other federal states, we jointly agree. One by one representatives raised their hands ecstatically, and voted in favor without exception. Just kidding, all the bosses have voted for it, and everyone else is afraid that there will be no meat to eat, so they have to agree quickly, and those who disagree may not physically disappear the ball. Feng looked at these representatives who couldn't wait to raise their hands with a smile on his face and said relaxedly, then the plan is approved. Gentlemen and ladies, for the future of mankind, let's toast the Xcom project. Respect, Your Excellency, President. Chapter 111. The first meeting between Feng and Black Braised Eggs, Scary Black Braised Eggs. After the dinner in Washington, the meeting between Feng and the famous director Nick Fury was not in Washington, but in a small family restaurant near the White House that was cleared by SHIELD. At the moment, this restaurant has already been closely arranged by SHIELD. From the restaurant's waiters to chefs and customers, they are all agents of SHIELD. At the moment, the director of the Black Stewed Egg is sitting on a chair patiently waiting for the heavyweight VIP. In the world of American comics, the Black Marinated Egg will meet Tony Stark here in the near future. If we look at it from the world of American comics, in the movie, Nick Fury will face Tony Stark, the head of the Stark industry. When they are human beings, they can still gain dominance by using an equal, or even a vaguely dominant conversational position. However, when facing such a behemoth as the Foundation, Nick Fury had already lost the initiative from the very beginning. The Maybach car of the chairman of the Foundation parked quietly at the entrance of the restaurant. Nick Fury has been waiting for a long time for the VIP to finally meet. Although Feng only brought 2 people with him, this is one of SHIELD's secret strongholds. It stands to reason that Nick Fury should have a certain advantage, but he doesn't feel that he has the initiative at all. Like an old diner, Feng opened the door of the restaurant calmly, walked in swaggeringly, sat down opposite Nick Fury, and then waved to the agent who was pretending to be a waiter. Waiter, a truffled roast beef pizza, black tiger prawn sandwich, fish roe and foie gras biscuits, wagyu taco, apple tart pudding and pine nut cake, and 3 cans of Coca-Cola. After reporting the names of a bunch of dishes in one breath, Feng smiled at Nick Fury relaxedly as if seeing an old friend. Participating in entertainment is really troublesome. I never get enough to eat at the reception. The waiter looked at Feng in surprise. Due to the technical interference of the Foundation, all the early data related to Feng have been tampered with, and his images and photos will be affected by the jammer and have differences. Therefore, people with a low level of confidentiality, such as those uninformed SHIELD agents present here, thought that someone was so courageous that they really used this place as a restaurant. The waiter, I also want a 3-layer cheese beef burger set. What are you doing in a daze? Damn your restaurant with such a service attitude, it should go bankrupt. The waiter hurriedly resigned in panic and ran to the kitchen. Director Nick Fury is as strict as ever with his subordinates. Feng glanced at the Xcom plan on the table, and said with a smile, What? Director Nick is also interested in this plan? Hailu Dan had a wry smile on his face. Facing such a terrifying organization like the Foundation, it was really difficult for him to put on airs as the director. In just a few minutes of meeting, he felt that Chen Feng had already figured out SHIELD. The two white-haired beauties next to Chen Feng looked like angels, just like walking out of comics, which made Nick Fury feel endless oppression. He is very clear about what kind of existence that is. Maybe the Aegis agents in the entire stronghold are not enough for him to stretch his muscles and bones. From the moment Chen Feng entered the restaurant, he dominated the entire conversation. Your Excellency President Chen Feng, your plan is definitely very good, but does this conflict with the intelligence of S.H.I.E.L.D. vertical bar? Chen Feng raised his eyebrows and glanced at the black stewed egg. What's your opinion? In an instant, Black Braised Dan felt that the oppression in front of him was like Mount Tai. After thinking about it for a while, he carefully considered his words, but he didn't dare to make Chen Feng wait too long. Finally he bit the bullet and said, the plan is definitely very good, but it is all to prevent the invasion of extraterrestrial civilizations. The functions of the Earth Defense Force and SHIELD seem to overlap seriously. It's a glitch again. You don't have to worry too much, Director Nick. The EDF only targets large-scale invasions, and USHIELD, don't you target more extraordinary forces? Haven't you already been in contact with outer space civilizations? Listening to Chen Feng's casual answer, Nick Fury frowned. Your Excellency, what is a large-scale invasion? Large-scale invasion is naturally caused by the intervention of large-scale alien civilization armed forces. Nick, you don't think this little trick of SHIELD can prevent a large-scale invasion? Do you think SHIELD can't stop a massive alien invasion? Hearing the rhetorical question from Black Braised Egg, Chen Feng sighed, glanced at Black Braised Egg and said with a gesture of a superior patiently explaining to his subordinates, then Nick, what do you think the existence of SHIELD is for? Nick Fury, in order to protect human civilization from the invasion of extraterrestrial civilization? Chen Feng, no, Nick, SHIELD exists to convince people that Blue Star is protected. Nick Fury, who would believe it? Aliens? The Kree Empire? Chen Feng shook his head, no, Nick, it is to let the Blue Star people believe that they are protected, and the aliens know that they are not. In order for our naive, innocent Blue Stars to shuttle through their homes, buses, subways and factories and people in the cabinets of various countries, SHIELD is to make them feel safe. After listening to Chen Feng's words, the black stewed egg fell silent. He felt that he had been greatly insulted, so he bit the bullet and asked, could it be that Your Excellency Chen Feng thinks that SHIELD has no need and value for its existence? We have been protecting Blue Star for so many years! Exclamation mark. At the moment the waiter served the food, Chen Feng picked up a piece of black truffle beef pizza, ate it slowly, and drank another Coke, not caring about the other party's anger. Nick, do you think you have protected Blue Star? As far as I know, aliens coming to Blue Star is like going home. Don't you think that the BB machine in your hand to contact Carol Dennis is very useful? Furthermore, let the Skrulls serve as substitutes, prepare 1 or 2 spaceships, and go to outer space to play house games to protect Blue Star? Or do you think SHIELD can rest easy after mastering Tesseract? It's just your secret place where even top-notch agents can enter at will. You are a little too naive, Minister. If SHIELD can really protect Blue Star, why should our Foundation take action? Don't you think that the Foundation is here to accompany you to play these house games? If the third-rate fleets of the Kree Empire come to fight, let alone the Kree Empire, even some low-level interstellar pirates, can you really deal with it? With the toys you have in hand, you won't really be playing a spy game, huh? Nick, what has SHIELD guarded all these years? When I heard Chen Feng casually confided secrets one by one, and all of them were core confidential information of SHIELD. Hearing Chen Feng talk about the strength of the Kree Empire's fleet like a few treasures, the black stewed egg couldn't even get angry, and could only helplessly remain silent. Nick, whose confidence had been shattered, looked at Chen Feng and said, if you think SHIELD is just playing tricks to humiliate us, and you really think there is no need for us to exist, I can resign and let SHIELD accept your leadership. In a hurry, he was in a hurry. He was in a hurry. Chen Feng looked at the impatient Howden with a funny face, and waved his hands. No need, I'm not interested in the position of SHIELD Director, it's just that your style of doing things is no longer suitable for the times. What I mean is, why doesn't SHIELD join the Xcom project? The Foundation has no intention of participating in the disputes within the human race, but only for extraterrestrial civilizations. SHIELD has long been a part of the important forces of human beings. You can complement each other with the Earth Defense Force well. Just kidding. Chen Feng only took over SHIELD if he had a foolish brain, a bunch of Hydra, and how can he take over the wall after taking over? Chen Feng is eager to fatten up SHIELD and human forces, The Xcom plan alone can bring him a huge amount of rumors. Vertical Barnick, I am sorry for SHIELD's ability to handle affairs, but I am very fair in the way I treat all human beings. Why doesn't SHIELD participate in the Xcom plan to strengthen itself? You have cultivated so much power over the years, can play a bigger role. For example, your Avengers plan is very creative. The black marinated man is already numb. Is SHIELD still a secret to the Foundation? Even he can't figure out where the other party got so much confidential information. There are some secrets that only he knows on Blue Star, but Chen Feng points them out like a few treasures. From the very beginning when Chen Feng broke the news about all kinds of SHIELD secrets, the pupils of black braised eggs were shocked, to the current numbness and habit. He wasn't even in the mood to eat the hamburger in front of him. Xuefeng and Miss 2B next to Chen Feng were enjoying the 2 sweets that Chen Feng gave her. The 2 machine servant girls elegantly ate apple tart pudding and pine nut cake with spoons, and drank Coke happily. Sure enough, even if it is an AI machine, as long as the gender is female, there is no one who does not like sweets. Compared, fortunately, to the trio on the opposite side who were completely enjoying the food, Nick Fury was working hard to absorb and analyze all kinds of shocking information left by Chen Feng. President, do you mean that you are very happy to let SHIELD join the Xcom plan? And you will provide technical support without discrimination? Definitely Nick, you must know that the main energy of the Foundation is still anomalous containment and real aliens after all. Compared to the soldiers of the Krieg Death Corps you saw, their military equipment and combat philosophy are weird, right Nick? You definitely don't want to face the enemy they face every day. And you don't know that there are 500 million of these Krieg Death Corps soldiers going out every year. And the battlefield they entered is a nightmare purgatory that you can't even imagine. Sometimes their death rate even exceeds 100%. The number of people they sacrificed in a battle is even calculated in millions or tens of millions. Chen Feng pushed the Xcom plan in front of Nick Fury, looked at the dumbfounded black marinated egg, and said with a serious face, "Trust me, SHIELD is absolutely not ready to face those existences." Chen Feng and his 2 lieutenants left, leaving only Nick. Fact, what exactly is the Foundation facing? Are humans really ready? Chapter 112, System Upgrade, President takes office, New System Currency Council points. Foundation Paradise Island Base, Commander's Office. After the Brood Raiders War ended, although the system issued rewards and showed that the special containment mission was completed, the system never reminded that the mission campaign was over. However, if the mission battle is not over, then Chen Feng will not be able to get all the system rewards, only part of them. At that time, Chen Feng discovered the abnormality of the system. After calling out the system manual, Chen Feng carefully studied the information about the mission of the containment campaign. Chen Feng discovered that the system's assessment of the success of a campaign does not only depend on the combat part. There is also the closing link, and the current system's main reference evaluation comes from rumors. Rumors naturally need to strengthen the Foundation's influence and let humans understand and value the contained objects. Therefore, in order to continue to exert the Foundation's influence, Chen Feng deployed the Earth Defense Force, and signed the Xcom plan with the Blue Star countries in the name of the Foundation, and deliberately let the wind out before the award dinner that he will be the Foundation's chairman. Long. As for the direction of SHIELD and Marvel's plot, Chen Feng actually doesn't care too much about it. If it is replaced by some dominant system, Chen Feng doesn't even mind disintegrating SHIELD. But the Foundation system is doomed, and the Foundation will become a transcendent organization above ordinary people. In fact, the primary purpose of the new Foundation is already different from the original Foundation. The mission of the Foundation in the containment world is containment, control, and protection. However, they don't care about human civilization or the continuation of the human world. But the goal of the new Foundation has changed, that is to ensure human civilization and the survival of humanity. This point will be the highest action purpose of the Foundation, so Chen Feng cannot intervene in the disputes between normal human countries or forces, and SHIELD will continue to maintain it. Unless some forces break through the bottom line and try to realize their ambitions at the cost of destroying humanity, then the Foundation will intervene. It was through the systematic guidance of the series that Chen Feng finally understood and recognized the new Foundation concept. Finally, when all the dust settled and Chen Feng returned to the original commander's office, there was an appointment letter of unknown material on the desktop. Dear Commander, in the name of multi-universe Gaia consciousness and Ila consciousness, you have successfully passed the severe test. With your amazing fearless courage, loyalty and enthusiasm for human civilization, and the selflessness of putting your life in the protection of humanity, your excellent performance in the 3 containment operations is a model for mankind. There is no one better suited to take over the Foundation and the Q5 Council than you. Congratulations, Commander. You will automatically take over the positions of the President of the Foundation and the Supreme Speaker of the O5 Council. I am sorry that you will no longer be able to retire. At this stage, All the permissions of the Foundation system will be open to you, and the system will be fully upgraded, unlocking the O5 Council module, unlocking the Containment Development module, and the Commander's exclusive Strengthening module. The Foundation system will continue to keep an eye on you. Ding, it is detected that the Foundation has entered the next level 1 segment, and the system is being updated. The system has been updated. Since the system has entered a new stage, rumor points are no longer applicable, and all rumor points will be converted into O5 discussion points. Every 1 million rumor points will be converted into 1 O5 council action points. According to the final settlement of the battle, the commander you will get a total of 120 hours 5 minutes council points. Audiobook submissions, global cooperation has been completed, and 30 points and O5 council points have been obtained. Subquests, affecting the world have been completed, get 30 points and O5 council points. Subquests, as the president of the Foundation, complete the mission, and get the exclusive treasure of the only spiritual commander. S-level exclusive treasure. The Void Armament of the Supreme Commander. Void Armed Forces is an exclusive world for the Supreme Commander of the Foundation deployed in the Void. The Void Armed Forces can support the ongoing battle of the Supreme Commander all the time. You can call various kinds of support from the Void Armed Forces. It is even possible to deploy an entire army in this world, and then summon them to the material plane world when needed. S-level rare Void armaments are currently under low development and can be supported by consuming energy. The currently available support is to deploy Void bases, call Void cannons, generate Void materials, and summon Void storms. Void armor currently only supports the deployment of non-living units into the Void world. Finally, everything came to an end, and the battle was finally settled. And the rumor degree has also been converted into O5 council points, which is definitely a matter of course, because the influence and rumor degree of the Foundation in this world have reached their peak. Human beings have already come to a deep understanding of the serious threat of the containment objects. Only one containment object 008 caused the death of nearly 10 million people, and caused the decline of the world's largest country, the White Eagle Federation. The existence of the contained objects is known to almost everyone, and the Foundation has gained the greatest influence because of this, so the degree of rumor is no longer important. As for non-human beings, Feng and the Foundation system don't care about non-human life, but the question remains, what is a human being? Even if a starfish is an intelligent creature in front of you, would you treat it as a human being? Even if it is made into a can, would you sympathize with a starfish? In the case that human rumors have reached the limit, the Foundation will take the responsibility of protecting humanity in the future, so the rumor points will naturally be converted into O5 council points. The points of the definitely O5 council are determined comprehensively by continuing to deepen the influence of the Foundation's transcendent organization, as well as protecting humanity, containing and controlling abnormal objects, preventing natural disasters in the end times, eliminating alien threats, etc. All tasks that endanger the existence of humanity. You can get O5 council points. Although the O5 council has fewer points, each point is equivalent to the original 1 million rumor points, and is much more useful. For example, 20 O5 council points can immediately deploy B-level MTF task force. Today's Hammerfall Mobile Task Force and the Hell Paratrooper Mobile Task Force are only D-level in the rating system of the Foundation. The Nine-Tailed Fox Mobile Task Force in Chen Feng's hands is currently rated as the highest C-level, and the Krieg Death Corps is rated as a B-level. Troop ratings are judged by the number of people, equipment, combat power, and morale organization. The number of Hammerfell and Hell paratroopers is too small, only a few thousand, and the equipment is the most basic Foundation equipment, so naturally it is grade D. As for Chen Feng's Nine-Tailed Fox Task Force, although the number is smaller, they are more elite, and they have a C-level evaluation. As for the Krieg Death Corps, to be honest, with the same number of people, these few Krieg Death Corps troops in Chen Feng's hands can't beat a D-class mobile task force of the same size. But because of the largest scale, it is rated as B-level, and among the Krieg Death Corps, only the elite Krieg Grenadiers can compete with the Nine-Tailed Fox Task Force. This is already the pinnacle of the Mortal Legion. However, Chen Feng did not continue to recruit new mobile task forces, but planned to conduct a comprehensive training upgrade for the 4 troops at hand. Therefore, with a wave of his hand, he spent 100 council points for the existent 4 troops. They are the Krieg Death Army, the Hammerfall Mobile Task Force, the Nine-Tailed Fox Mobile Task Force, and the Hell Paratrooper Special Forces. Send troops for equipment upgrade and training. Among them, the Krieg Death Corps and the Nine-Tailed Fox Mobile Task Force each cost 30 hours 5 minutes council points, while Hammerfall and Hell Troopers each cost 2005 council points. Next, Chen Feng did a little research on the S-rank treasure of the Void Armor. This thing is a treasure tailor-made for the profession of Psychic Commander. Not long ago, Chen Feng obtained all the technical data of the tactical dolls in the girl's frontline world, and the existence of tactical dolls is undoubtedly better than the clone puppet soldiers Chen Feng obtained before. Tactical humanoids are all mechanical bionic humanoids. They are not considered as biological life. They can be deployed in the void armament. Chen Feng intends to create a batch of tactical dolls, and then deploy them and some of the Aurora troop dolls to the void armament. To put it simply, the void weapon is a base deployed in the void plane. After Chen Feng has this thing, he is almost like a one-man army. No matter where Chen Feng goes, as long as he wants, he can constantly summon his troops from the void. Void armor can currently deploy a void base. Chen Feng naturally intends to build a Griffin base exclusive to commanders in the girl's frontline world, that is, a player-only base is placed in void armor. At that time, Chen Feng will be able to obtain troops almost constantly. After Chen Feng studied it carefully, he realized that the system was still the one that demanded money. I wondered if the system gave me this set of void armor benefits after seeing me as the president of the Foundation. Who knew it was a trap? Chen Feng saw the unlocked commander's strengthening panel, only to realize that it was matched with a void weapon. It is completely complementary to the void armament. Chen Feng can obtain various void arm upgrades through this panel by consuming council points. The most basic one is a mass energy converter, a level 1 mass energy converter that converts matter into energy, or energy into matter, with a conversion efficiency of 30%. The mass energy converter upgrade requires 50 council points. Energy storage facility, currently can store 1000 energy points. Energy storage facility upgrade requires 50 council points. Level 1 void energy extractor, which can absorb energy from the void. Void energy extractor upgrade requires 50 council points. Well, the money-hungry system at least has a conscience. Void armor comes with the most basic level 1 accessories. At least the accessories are complete. That's the problem of money-hungry money. It hasn't changed at all. Looking at the expensive upgrade points, Chen Feng turned off the panel with tears in his eyes. After finally returning to the base, it's time to visit Dr. Wilhelm. Chapter 113 Abnormal Crystallization. The idea of nano-biochemical armor. Just after Chen Feng spent 05 council points to upgrade the training of all troops, all the Foundation's bases became busy. Chen Feng, who was preparing to go to Dr. Wilhelm's research department, had just left the command room when he saw the alarm resounding through the base. Almost all the contingents have been called up, and they are assembled urgently, and then they will return to the system headquarters on the Foundation headquarters transport vehicles dispatched by the system. After undergoing systematic training, personnel replenishment, and equipment upgrades, these troops will return to their bases again. And this also means that within a certain period of time, Chen Feng will temporarily have no one available to him except for Aurora's troops and some agents from all over the territory. But in the current world line, the Avengers have not been established, and Chen Feng doesn't have to worry about Loki bringing a division of Chitauri to invade Blue Star. It's funny to say that Loki brought Chitauri with a division and thought he could conquer Blue Star. How could the Holy Terror be solved by a division of aliens? As a result, it was smashed by 6 superheroes from the Avengers Alliance 1. It is definitely possible that the Chitauri in the movie world line is more hip-stretching, but it is normal. As far as the performance of Chitauri in the Marvel movie world, Chen Feng always feels that the other party is an aborigine with a weapon that looks like a sci-fi weapon. But it stands to reason that the Celestials and Ancient One of this Blue Star, seeing the appearance of the Foundation and the interference of the world line like this, didn't come to the door to find their own troubles? According to the performance of Ancient One in the Avengers Alliance, the Ancients should know the established timeline. After thinking for a while, Chen Feng couldn't figure it out, so he stopped thinking about it. Commander, have you conscripted all the troops back to the headquarters for training? As soon as he was about to go to Dr. Wilhelm, he met Miss 2B who came in a hurry and Xuefeng, the loyal servant and adjutant. Seeing Miss 2B's interrogation, Chen Feng said while walking, "Yes, there won't be any major combat missions for the time being, so I have to let them return to headquarters for training during this time." Miss 2B naturally followed him and said, "I heard that Dr. Wilhelm has made new progress. Commander Zong, are you going to watch over there?" "That's right. Why are you interested in that too?" "Then we can go and have a look together." On the other side, Chen Feng was surprised by a very interested Xuefeng. Miss Xuefeng too? Xuefeng has been supervising the entire Foundation system, and she should be very clear about what she is researching for Dr. Wilhelm, so why is she interested in this? Smiling, Xuefeng posted it next to Chen Feng and said with a smile, "Definitely, it's the first time I have a real body, so it's good to go with the president and forgive me." Chen Feng nodded. "All right then, it's up to you." Speaking of getting on the passing vehicle, 2B naturally sat in the driver's seat, and Xuefeng took the opportunity to sit next to Chen Feng, making Miss 2B so angry that her teeth hurt. Miss 2B started the passing car, and soon the group came to Dr. Wilhelm's research department. It's been a long time since Chen Feng came to the R&D department. Maybe it's because Dr. Wilhelm has made progress in the development of the containment, so the system has unlocked the containment development module. Walking into the Research and Development Department, it is still the same here. Dr. Wilhelm Birken is a research madman, even though he is married and even has a 7 or 8-year-old Lily daughter, but his greatest hobby is research, crazy research. For his favorite scientific research career, Dr. Wilhelm almost became a demon, eating and living in the scientific research department. If his wife wasn't B-level researcher Yanni Birkin, probably few normal wives would accept the husband of such a research madman. Although their daughter Shirley Birkin was unlucky, except that her mother could take care of her from time to time, she couldn't even see her father most of the time. After the Foundation's Paradise Island base was deployed, Paradise Island has been developed by the Foundation, and a small city has been established for the children and family members of Foundation staff to live in. As a high-level scientific researcher of the Foundation, their daughter Shirley Birkin was naturally taken care of by the Commissioner of the Foundation, but like many children of scientific research departments, she was kicked to the special boarding system of the Foundation at a young age inside the elementary school. Dr. Wilhelm still had the same look of forgetting to eat and sleep to study. It was not until Chen Feng came in that he came back to his senses under the reminder of his wife. Seeing Dr. Chen Feng, Wilhelm walked over with excitement like a child who couldn't wait to show the results. Although Wilhelm's eyes were bloodshot, he was full of energy and said excitedly, "It's great to see you, Commander. The R&D department has made new achievements recently." Do you mean the development of the perfect T-virus, or the development of a combination of the T-virus and the blood orchid? Ha 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 ha. My respected Commander, you haven't come to the research department for a long time, and we have publicized those results a long time ago. Chen Feng? I saw Chen Feng's face full of surprise. What? You have already done the 2 studies I instructed? Wilhelm looked very proud. His work progress shocked even the Commander. Wilhelm raised his head and said, "That's right, Commander, we have already done it. However, due to the urgent battle situation, we couldn't contact you, so the news has been delayed until now." Chen Feng coughed dryly, and said apologetically, "It should be my responsibility. I haven't been to the R&D department for a long time." Wilhelm waved his hand indifferently. "It doesn't matter, Commander. After all, you are a busy person, and congratulations on your promotion to the chairman of the Foundation. Oh Commander, let's talk about research." It's no wonder that these technicians wouldn't be able to get in without Bull's appreciation, and they wouldn't be flattering at all. Definitely. Only the Foundation doesn't care about these things, only cares about whether they have real skills. Chen Feng nodded. "Yes, let's talk about research." Talking about his field of expertise, Dr. Wilhelm said eloquently, "For such a commander, we have been researching on the utilization and development of containment objects, but there has been no progress. Until recently we obtained a large number of crystals of element 0. Our research has made a breakthrough. Commander, I suggest raising the number 0 element crystal to the level of strategic materials. Perhaps the Foundation will have a lot of demand for it in the future." After hearing Wilhelm's words, Chen Feng fell into deep thought. It seems that the development of the doomsday plane left by Containment 008 has to be put on the agenda as soon as possible. Seeking flowers. I'll think about it. So Dr. Wilhelm, what progress have you guys made? We discovered through the crystallization of element 0 that we can use this crystallization to harmlessly extract the energy of the contents, and obtained a brand new crystallization. I call it an abnormal crystal. The abnormal power that can be extracted by different purity number 0 element crystals is different. We found that using the abnormal crystal extraction potion can allow people to gain a certain level of improvement in a short period of time, and even temporarily gain the ability of part of the contents. Definitely it is impossible for them to obtain the ability of the complete containment, but this is also a very exciting progress, although it consumes a lot of D-class personnel. Dr. Wilhelm said and handed the information to Chen Feng. Chen Feng read the test materials carefully after receiving them. Temporary access to the ability of the contained objects, increase the strength of the body, and through the power of the contained objects, can it resist the infringement of many contained objects? After reading the several materials in his hand, Chen Feng put down the materials at hand, and suddenly asked Dr. Wilhelm in a flash of inspiration. "Dr. Wilhelm, I wonder if your research and development department has developed equipment for abnormal crystals." "Commander, we have carried out some research and development, and the research on Containment 939 has made some progress. Because the 939 sub-individuals in the research department have bred a lot recently, we have extracted a lot of materials. By using the 939 materials and the combination of 939 abnormal crystals, we have produced some special armor. We found that armor made of 939 materials or weapons such as cold weapons can obtain certain 939 characteristics, such as being able to resist mental damage, and allowing the wearer to obtain certain poison resistance. It will also improve their physical strength and so on. Definitely all the current experiments are at the most elementary level stage. Considering cost saving and other issues, we still have to wait for your further instructions." After hearing Dr. Wilhelm's reply, Chen Feng suggested persuasively, "Doctor, I think you can be bolder and don't think about saving costs. Maybe you can create a set of nanobiochemical armor for experimentation. Nanobiochemical armor, through the idea of combining nanomechanical exoskeletons and biotechnology. Dr. Wilhelm's eyes lit up when he heard the idea. What a genius idea, Commander. Is it nanobiochemical armor? If you use this idea to integrate abnormal crystals and match some containment materials, then you can create very excellent equipment. I'll do it right away. After speaking, Dr. Wilhelm immediately immersed himself in his hard work, walked to the computer and began to work frantically. Chen Feng's idea naturally comes from the nanobiochemical armor in the world of crisis. If the power of the abnormal containment can be combined with the nanobiochemical armor, then I am afraid that a kind of super equipment will be born. Chapter 114 Perfect T-Virus Gene Evolution Agent, Extraordinary Agent Training Plan. In the Research and Development Department of the Foundation, Dr. Wilhelm used a large screen to broadcast the results of the Perfect T-Virus transformation of D-Class personnel. Except for those unlucky ones who died because their bodies couldn't bear the explosive body modification, or who were bleeding to death with acupoints all over their bodies, the D-Class personnel who survived have obtained different degrees of physical strengthening. Commander, this is a genetic evolution agent extracted from the T-Virus, and it was developed based on the Umbrella virus data that you sent back, Commander. 17. I have to say, Commander, the perfect T-Virus sample that was accidentally born in Umbrella's Alice project is very suitable for human strengthening. According to the targeted research on the extracted T-Virus gene evolution agent, after being strengthened by the T-Virus gene evolution agent, the human body muscle strength, bone density, nerve response speed, cell activity and brain neuron activity have all been greatly improved. Big improvement. It's just that the genetic evolution agent improved by the perfect T-Virus at this stage, although many side effects have been reduced, the efficacy will also be reduced accordingly. Dr. Wilhelm first introduced the advantages of the perfect T-Virus gene evolution agent, and then he began to introduce the difficulties with a look of embarrassment on his face. If the efficacy of the drug is improved, it will not necessarily match the human body's compatibility with 810. We found that the T-Virus gene evolution agent of the Alice project currently has a huge flaw. We found that the perfect T-Virus gene evolution agent extracted from Umbrella's Alice project has relatively low physical compatibility with male D-class personnel, and the success rate of evolution is currently only about 20%. However, female D-class personnel the success rate of evolution exceeds 90%. Hearing this, Chen Feng frowned. There is no way that the perfect T-Virus is naturally extracted from the heroine Alice in the world of biochemical movies. Since the host of the perfect T-Virus is a woman, it is relatively low in fit with the male body. Increase the instability of T-Virus. Therefore, the male body uses the T-Virus for strengthening, and it is easier to produce biological weapons like tyrants. Wilhelm, I leave this matter to you. Find a solution as soon as possible. The perfect T-Virus genetic evolution medicine is very important. It can even mass-produce supergenetic soldiers capable of giving birth to psychic powers, which will help improve the Foundation's combat power. Great help. Although the heroine in the Resident Evil movie is very unstable, she not only has excellent physical strength, but also can use Shinnik energy, which is the symbol of the birth of Shinnik soldiers. A super soldier with a body as powerful as a genetically evolved warrior combined with Shinnik power. No wonder the Umbrella Company in the film Biochemical Works will never forget the heroine Alice. It is too difficult to naturally produce soldiers who can use psychic powers. Today, Chen Feng, as a psychic commander, is also a master of psychic powers. He naturally knows how difficult it is to mass-produce psychic soldiers, and with this physical strength and a super soldier with psychic coexistence. Thinking of this, Chen Feng immediately added a few words to Dr. Wilhelm. Don't interrupt the research on the perfect T-Virus gene evolution agent, raise the priority to the highest level, and at the same time manufacture the first generation of nanobiochemical equipment as soon as possible. If the perfect T-Virus gene evolution agent can't improve the success rate for the time being, first reduce the harm of adaptation failure to a harmless level, and then provide it to the military training school immediately. Xuefeng, after Dr. Wilhelm has made progress, immediately use the perfect T-Virus gene evolution agent and the first generation of nanobiochemical equipment to train a group of Foundation agent troops. The enemies and objects we will face in the future will become more and more powerful, but we don't have the extraordinary power at hand. It is absolutely impossible to continue like this. We don't have time to wait for perfection. We use what we have first. We must first build the 10th unit with the supernatural power to face the next threat. As the chief steward of the Foundation, Miss Xuefeng has a good understanding of the current situation of the Foundation. No matter how good the equipment is, most of the current soldiers of the Foundation are mortals. Let these soldiers fight with all kinds of abilities secretly and have strong fighting power. The contents of the battle, or other enemies, even if the battle is successful, it will pay great casualties. That's why Chen Feng is so persistent in building an extraordinary army. After all, reality is not a game. If you get injured in a battle, Find a place to hide for a while and you will be fully healed. Xuefeng has secretly made up his mind that he must help the commander train a Foundation agent with extraordinary power. Leave it all to me, Chairman. With the virtual reality tactical training ground, it only takes 3 months and I can train a Foundation agent that satisfies you. Miss 2B on the side did not argue with Miss Xuefeng at this time, but echoed, I will also assist Xuefeng to help train the commander of the Foundation agent. Chen Feng said happily, then I can look forward to seeing your results. Even though the perfect T-virus gene evolution agent is not yet complete, and the first generation of nano-biochemical suit made of abnormal crystals has not yet been seen, Chen Feng can already look forward to what kind of chemical reaction will be produced when the two are combined. The only pity is that there are undoubtedly a small number of female soldiers in the Foundation, and those who can adapt to the perfect T-virus gene evolution agent are even more rare. After all, not everyone is suitable for transformation. If Dr. Wilhelm can overcome this problem, maybe a large number of powerful genetically evolved fighters that can use psionic energy can be produced. Definitely, after these new generation of Foundation agents are trained, Chen Feng can also train them, and train those agents with psychic potential to become psychic commanders. At that time, the Foundation troops with a large number of psychic commanders will undoubtedly be very suitable to face all kinds of supernatural enemies. In addition to the perfect T-virus gene evolution agent, there are actually many other achievements in the scientific research department of the Foundation. For example, the Stalker Mecha, which performed extraordinary in the previous battles, but the Foundation's mobile task force prefers to use the Stalker Mesh to kill all the enemies to complete the stealth. Therefore, the research department modified the Stalker Mecha and produced the second-generation mecha. This kind of mecha is a self-disciplined and coordinated mecha, which can provide a large amount of fire support to the coordinated mobile task force squad, and can assist the wounded when necessary. Compared with the original Stalker Mecha, this kind of mecha has more powerful firepower and power, and it is definitely bigger in size. In addition, the MTFI exoskeleton armor can greatly enhance the combat ability of ordinary soldiers, so the MTF-2 exoskeleton armor was manufactured. Compared with the MTFI exoskeleton armor, MTF-2's the endurance ability is stronger and lighter, and various strengthening accessories can be installed selectively, which can make the mobile task force more flexible. Finally, the classic E11 Foundation assault rifle will also be replaced by the new MX series of firearms. Compared with the E11, which only has an assault rifle style, the MX series rifle style Foundation's new generation of modular rifles uses caseless bullets for ammunition, and the caliber is still 6.845 mm. Most of the parts of the MX series rifles are common. You can even modify the MX series assault rifles, install a few new parts, and replace them with a heavy-duty barrel to become an accurate sniper rifle. Basically, everything researched by the Foundation's research department is based on the experience gained from a large number of bloody cases. At the same time, there is also the first-generation Gauss electromagnetic rifle mass-produced after testing, named GMX-1 Gauss electromagnetic rifle. This Gauss rifle can even penetrate modern main battle tanks with one shot. After hearing the various new weapons introduced by Dr. Wilhelm, Chen Feng and his 2 lieutenants went to the shooting range with great enthusiasm, and started experimenting with the new equipment directly. The new generation of equipment is indeed a new individual weapon manufactured by the Foundation's increasingly powerful scientific research strength after various actual combat lessons. After testing for half a day and firing at least tens of thousands of bullets, Chen Feng took it with satisfaction. With his 2 adjutants left. When he left, he also urged Dr. Wilhelm to settle the matter of the perfect T-virus gene evolution agent as soon as possible. Chen Feng got on the passing train after getting the guarantee ticket for Dr. Wilhelm's military order. Not long after getting in the car, Xuefeng frowned suddenly. She hesitated to speak, and asked Chen Feng after a while, Master President, it will take a lot of time to transform all scientific research results. At least within 3 months, the Foundation can only deal with small-scale incidents. What should we do if there is an emergency containment incident? Hearing Xuefeng's worries, Chen Feng comforted her and said, isn't this still your Roa troops? And a tactical doll factory has been urgently established in Lunar City 1, and a batch of tactical dolls will be produced constantly by then. Come over. Besides, don't the still be your Oa troops? I believe that the combat power of the Juha dolls can deal with most threats, and I can also go into battle when necessary. Speaking of this, Chen Feng joked with a relaxed expression, last time, I was pinned on the Gloria helicarrier by you. I am not a weak civilian, but I am a Foundation agent. How can anyone who is the President and Commander come to the battlefield in person? That is a humiliation to the fighters of the Foundation, and the Supreme Commander is sent to the battlefield. I am the spiritual commander. If necessary, even going to the front line will not affect the command system, and with my combat ability, it will greatly strengthen the troops, right? Hearing this, Xuefeng snorted softly, tossed his hair and turned his head away. My respected chairman, the newsletter for the bad girl who can go to the front with you is here. Chen Feng was stunned for a moment and connected to the phone. Ophelia's voice sounded in the earphone, plus waving wait tilde miss me. Chapter 115 A date with Ophelia, a chance encounter with the Green Titan and the Battle of Hatred. Pointing waving official tilde kiss, rub, hug. Ophelia, who hadn't seen her for a long time, threw herself into Chen Feng's arms like Xiao Bixing's newly-wed wife at the first moment of meeting, her mature and beautiful white face crazily rubbing against Chen Feng. Miss Ophelia ... You don't have to act like a kitten who has been fostered for a month and hasn't seen its owner. Aren't I your kitty? Chen Feng looked at Ophelia, who had clearly dressed up deliberately. She was not wearing her usual military uniform, but a cheongsam with Dongwang-style elements carefully cut out of paper, and a lovely white butterfly headband on her head. This kind of ripeness has a touch of greenness and cuteness. To be honest, it is very good and very good. Are you playing a game between cat and the master? Ophelia. If your excellency president wants it, I have prepared a maid outfit with cat ears tonight. Hearing this sentence, Chen Feng seemed to have a past life meme in his heart. A kitten like this was born to be eaten, accompanied by a devilish laugh. This kitty should be a serious kitty, right? In Harlem, New York, in a Western restaurant, Chen Feng was enjoying a long-lost candlelight dinner with Ophelia. The young Mui felt a little familiar after parting. Inside and outside the restaurant, a special service team composed of combat-experienced MTF Foundation Task Force veterans is in charge of security. There is no abnormality in the A1 area. Area B3 is non-anomalous. 09. The guards of the task force were either disguised as diners, or just dressed in black suits and sunglasses, disguised as ordinary bodyguards, in case some blind guys affected the appointment of the president of the foundation. It would be a big deal up. It has been a month since the Brood Raiders operation, and the blockade order has been lifted. Now the beautiful country has returned to the peaceful days of Kongshan, as if all the tragic battles that broke out before were just yesterday. For the world of American comics, Chen Feng does not admire anything else, but Chen Feng really admires their reconstruction ability. Blue Star, especially the White Eagle Federation in the American comics world, has suffered so many battles between supernatural forces, ranging from ordinary battles to major wars, but they can respond extremely quickly. Speed? Rebuilds, and it doesn't take long for the city to act as if nothing has ever happened. Chen Feng always felt that the people here might have gotten used to these things, so they developed this ability to rebuild quickly. If the real Eagle Source had this kind of executive power, it wouldn't be that the military industry has been stagnant for so many years. Recently, there were no combat missions for the time being, and Chen Feng had a rare vacation. Coupled with Ophelia's invitation, Chen Feng finally appeared here. Considering that Miss 2B and Miss Yukike's seemed to have temporarily reached an agreement because of Ophelia, a bad woman, so Chen Feng did not bring Yoroa's troops, but a very regular security team. Although New York has recovered and rebuilt quickly, New York is still relatively chaotic at present, with frequent crimes. If you want to have a good date, it is undoubtedly a very wise choice to bring a secret service team disguised as bodyguards. Although it will have a certain impact on the date, if you don't bring it. After all, this is New York after the chaos. In the beautiful country, where the overall zero-yuan purchase and American-style residences are practiced, there is no security team and you choose to come out at night, plus Asian faces are hard to guarantee they will be targeted. Although Chen Feng has enough force value, but if his mood is affected by such a trivial matter, it is naturally not beautiful. Chen Feng drank bourbon whiskey as a table wine, while skillfully slicing the tender and well-aged beef thigh, forked a piece of steak into his mouth and chewed, and said in a relaxed and easygoing manner, "By the way, Ophelia, the research department of the Foundation has already solved the problem about your body." As he spoke, Chen Feng picked up the napkin and wiped the stains on his mouth, and put a box on the dining table. After seeing the surprise from Chen Feng, Ophelia's pupils were full of stars. She opened the box happily, and saw a tube of red reagent inside. The perfect T-virus gene evolution potion can synthesize the unstable T-virus in your body, and make your physical fitness and strength evolve again. Maybe you will awaken psychic power because of this. Do you still like this gift? I'm very satisfied. Commander Tilda. Speaking of which, my adjutant Leah gave me a box of Balenciaga. Well, would Commander prefer 20D or 40D? If I don't have the position of President of the Foundation, I feel that my will be exhausted. Chen Feng silently raised the table wine in his hand, then to my dear Ophelia recovering her health. Cheers. 2 inches. Satisfied with food and drink, Chen Feng did not go to the hotel right away. Anyway, it was still early. With the slightly drunk Ophelia in his arms under the guard of the Secret Service team, Chen Feng was in a rare mood to stroll in the unfamiliar streets of Harlem, New York. Strictly speaking, this is the first time that Chen Feng can relax and experience the customs of a foreign country. After all, after traveling to this world and obtaining the Foundation system, Chen Feng is either fighting or on the way to fighting. It is really a rare enjoyment to walk in the streets with a beautiful female companion and enjoy life without fighting. After all, Chen Feng knows more about New York from Star Rock's GTA. Chen Feng bought 2 hot dogs from a street hot dog vendor. Chen Feng, who was waiting patiently, suddenly saw a Black Hawk helicopter hovering in the sky. Chen Feng frowned and suddenly felt ominous. Even though it was nighttime, with Chen Feng's extraordinary eyesight, he quickly noticed something was wrong. A bang explosion sounded in the neighborhood not far away. Accompanied by the flames, a private car was thrown into the air. The sharp-eyed Chen Feng saw a tall yellow-green titan with an ugly appearance, bone shape-shifting, and a tall yellow-green titan smiling ferociously. Chen Feng stretched his muscles helplessly, stroked Ophelia's hair lightly and said, "It seems that we are going to run into trouble." Ophelia looked very calm. But anyone who knew her well knew that this woman was actually very angry, and she managed to get an appointment with the commander, but the good date was ruined like this. "Don't worry, Kitty, let's have a good show." This is undoubtedly the abomination that Brownsky mutated into. In the Black Hawk helicopter in the sky, there is no doubt that General Ross of the military, his daughter Betty, and Dr. Bruce Banner, who has the power of Hulk after being irradiated by gamma rays. At this time, the military soldiers brought by General Ross were desperately attacking the abomination, but their weapons were of no use at all. In the densely populated area of Harlem, the military dared not use heavy weapons on the block. Those ordinary soldiers and light weapons, even the one-time anti-tank rocket launcher M136 can't do any damage to the abomination at all. When a soldier shot an M136 at the abomination from behind, the abomination was able to sense it, and turned his head to hold the M136's armor-piercing incendiary warhead just before attacking. Accompanied by an explosion, abomination was unscathed in the end, and the soldier who fired the M136 anti-tank launcher was so stunned that abomination was too scared to run when he came towards him. Seeing this scene, as the spiritual commander, Chen Feng found this movie memory from his previous life in his brain, and he really encountered the plot. It seems that the next Hulk will drop from the sky and start a big battle with a hate. Sure enough, Chen Feng saw a person jump off the helicopter, and then Dr. Bruce transformed into a Hulk in the air and hit the ground heavily. Chen Feng reckoned that those road workers would be scolding the streets and roads that were not easy to repair before were cracked again, and a deep pit appeared. The Hulk fell from thousands of meters in the air. Brownsky resented seeing Hulk falling from the sky, so he resolutely gave up the little soldier and walked towards Hulk, facing the abomination rampaging in Harlem. Hulk immediately rushed up to collide with the abomination, but the power of the abomination was stronger than Hulk. After knocking Hulk into the air, the abomination chased up and used 10 police cars as boxing gloves. There is almost no power to fight back after hitting the live bundle 990. So every time I see such a scene, I really want to ask, what exactly are they guarding? Ophelia glanced at the inhuman hatred, and then at Chen Feng beside her, with some worry in her eyes. "I haven't used the perfect T-virus genetic evolution agent yet. Should I retreat first?" Chen Feng smiled and waved his hands. "Don't you still have me?" As soon as the words fell, Hulk directly bumped into the building next to Chen Feng, knocking the solid concrete's wall out of a depression. Abomination didn't seem to expect that there were ordinary people standing here so carelessly watching the battle. You must know that the ordinary people around had scattered and fled in all directions, even if the military troops had been beaten to pieces in the battle just now. The angry abomination raised a car and threw it at Chen Feng. "Protect the commander and enter the combat formation immediately." "Damn, Commander, watch out for cars." Just when Ophelia was about to get out of the way with Chen Feng in her arms, she saw Chen Feng calmly watching the approaching car without moving. With a bang, the car seemed to hit an invisible wall, and under the huge amounts of impact, the fuel tank was ignited and exploded into a ball of fire. The loathing urn roared angrily, "Damn it! How dare you interrupt my battle!" Then charged towards Chen Feng with unmatched violent force. Chen Feng still didn't move. His eyes became cold, and a sneer sneered at the corner of his mouth, and he gave an order. "Kneel down." The hatred who was about to throw his fist at Chen Feng suddenly realized that his body was like a heavy burden, and the fist and the wind of the fist could not even reach Chen Feng in front of him. Then, under the pressure of the terrifying invisible gravity, the abomination knelt down straight and smashed a deep hole in the road. Originally, Hate thought that he had obtained the power of God. But at this time, in front of this terrifying man who looked like a descendant of a god, he was as powerless as an ant. Chapter 116 M-Scp Special Containment Abomination Free Pickup Reward. The face of the abomination who was crushed to the kneeling ground by the mountain-like invisible Shenanic power was full of panic. How did he do that? On the contrary, Ophelia beside Chen Feng looked thoughtfully at Chen Feng, who easily subdued the monster in front of him without even lifting a finger. "Is this the power of psychic power that my dear said? It's a bit like the super ability of mutant. Is it psychokinesis?" Just when Ophelia thought that the hatred had been subdued, she saw the cracks on the ground expanding. Hate that the yellow-green alien muscles all over his body were trembling terribly, and the alien muscles that were as hard as steel were twisting in a terrifying state of exertion. "You bastard, die!" The muscles all over the loathing suddenly exploded with terrifying power, at least hundreds of tons of power. Such a powerful explosive force was concentrated in the right hand, making the loathing suddenly leap up, briefly breaking through the shackles of psychokinesis, and punching him in the air. Chen Feng, however, The fist was only less than 10 centimeters away from Chen Feng, and he couldn't move forward anymore. Chen Feng's emotionless pupils glanced at Abomination like a divine descendant, and in an instant Abomination flew backwards a few meters away as if hit by a heavy truck. Noisy guy. Chen Feng slowly raised his right hand, and several heavy trucks on the ground with a combined weight of 100 tons smashed directly on the ground where the abhorrence had fallen, making a terrifying loud noise. After the smoke and dust dissipated, the number of heavy trucks that had been knocked into scrap iron by the violent impact force piled up into a metal hill, and the Abomination trapped in it had already lost its fighting power. At this moment, Chen Feng turned his head and looked at Ophelia, who was looking excited. "Oh, there was a little accident that interfered with our date that shouldn't have happened this time." Ophelia asked like a curious baby, "Honey, is this the power of Shinic power you mentioned?" "This is the power of psychic power. After you use the perfect T-virus gene evolution agent, maybe you can also give birth to psychic power." "What kind of ability is Shinic power? Is it a super ability like those mutants?" "In fact, every force in this world has more or less some extraordinary human beings. Although mutants have been persecuted by the White Eagle Federation, there are still many mutants working for them. There are naturally many mutants among the Chaos Splitters, but the power of mutants is very different from Shinic power." After hearing Ophelia's question, Chen Feng explained with a smile, "Shinic power is naturally different from the power of mutant. If you want to compare it, psychic power is more like a necromancer or magician who cultivates extraordinary power by himself, while mutant is more like a warlock who relies on his own blood." Chen Feng didn't use Eastern immortal cultivators or warriors as a comparison, fearing that Ophelia wouldn't understand, so he specially compared Western magicians and warlocks. Although magicians also need abilities, they can also be mass-produced. Warlocks, a profession that relies heavily on bloodlines, will always be rare because of bloodline inheritance. Moreover, mutant and most other humans who rely on blood mutations to obtain extraordinary power, their power is even more uncontrollable. In fact, psychic power is a kind of power that commonly exists in the human brain. Usually, this power is stimulated by powerful spiritual power. In a sense, the super ability of mutant is also a kind of psychic power, but due to various strains the abilities inspired by the bloodlines are different, so their Shinic energy is too uncontrollable, which is not conducive to large-scale promotion and application. After listening to Chen Feng's explanation, Ophelia nodded suddenly. Indeed, the organization has actually adopted a group of mutant children, and their abilities are useless at all, or they have to go through a long period of abilities to get used to their strengths, or often prone to loss of control. That's naturally because although most mutants have inspired super abilities, their mental power and willpower are not enough to control this ability, and the development time of super organs in their brains is also different. Seeing Chen Feng's use of psychic power like an armed command, Ophelia's expression showed a hint of understanding. "My dear can use psychic power so proficiently. I am afraid that in addition to ability, I have also put in a lot of sweat to train and control it." Definitely, Ophelia doesn't know at all. Brother Hang is terrible. While the two were chatting, the Abomination had already lost its combat effectiveness, and the Foundation Special Service team that had rushed to the vicinity had already called the Containment team. Even before the helicopter that General Ross hovered over landed, the Foundation's little blackfish had already flown over and the Containment team would soon lose the ability's abominable attack. There was even a Containment team who came to Dr. Bruce Banner, who was stunned by the abominable hammer and regained his human form, and asked by radio, "Commander, does this guy need containment?" Chen Feng instructed, "Dr. Bruce Banner, just ignore him, and give priority to containing that mutant creature." When the containment team finished containing the Abomination and transported it away with a system notification suddenly sounded in Chen Feng's mind. "Ding, Commander, you have contained the special world containment Abomination, and the system has encoded it as M-Scp-001?" "Congratulations, Commander, you have contained the special American Comics World Containment Object M-Scp-001, and you have been rewarded with 50 council points?" "You got the trophy Super Soldier Serum and Gamma Ray Radiation Device?" Chen Feng froze for a moment. He didn't expect that after encountering the plot, he would receive system rewards for taking in an Abomination. Even Chen Feng looked at Bruce Banner, who was lying in a coma over there, thinking whether he should take the opportunity to contain Hulk to get a wave of rewards. But considering the Avengers' plan, Chen Feng still suppressed his thoughts. It's not that Chen Feng doesn't want to reward, but funding Tony to cooperate with SHIELD to complete the Avengers project has become part of Chen Feng's alternative containment. Through the containment method of Aliwether's abnormal containment 008, Chen Feng verified a very valuable containment method. The containment judged by the Foundation system does not mean that the contained objects must be locked up, and the containment method sometimes refers to making the contained objects unable to cause harm. Aliwether was obviously not imprisoned by the Foundation in the exclusive containment room, and now she is even active as an S-level agent of the Foundation around the world to complete some containment work. By completing those containment tasks, Chen Feng can also get council points or other rewards. This is Chen Feng's containment method. As long as the influence of the Foundation is used to make the containment defined by the system under the control of the Foundation, then Chen Feng will naturally complete the containment work. And what else is more likely to attract the containment objects judged by the system than Avengers? The successful containment of the Abomination just now strengthened Chen Feng's idea, that is to support Tony to build Avengers. Since Abominations can be judged as special containment objects, will other extraordinary objects in the world of American comics also be judged as containment objects? At that time, as long as the Avengers Alliance is successfully established, with his influence on Tony, it will be equivalent to controlling the Avengers Alliance in disguise, and his small favors to SHIELD are naturally for the purpose of uniting and using those extraordinary heroes of SHIELD. When the Avengers Alliance is wiped out, Chen Feng will be able to store the official vertical bar special containment items on the Blue Star in a disguised form, and let them work for the Foundation. Thinking of this, Chen Feng showed a complacent expression on his face. It seems that he wants to be satisfied with his conception. Honey, the military helicopter has landed, and it seems that a guy with a higher rank has come to the other party. Ophelia's words interrupted Chen Feng's imagination. At this moment, Chen Feng saw General Ross stepping forward with a reserved face. Sir, Air Force Lieutenant General Ross is reporting to you, and I am very grateful that you can assist your subordinates in handling this difficult incident. One level higher than Deadman, Chen Feng's current military rank is a 5-star general of the JTF Joint Force, and his military rank is more than one level higher. The JTF belongs to the Joint Combat Force of the Federation. In theory, Chen Feng can mobilize the power of the Federation Army, Navy, and Air Force at will. Definitely, this must be approved by Speaker Adam Benford and the National Assembly. However, this also shows that Chen Feng now has a great influence on the federal military. Even General Ross, who dared not give face to SHIELD, was as honest as a rabbit after meeting Chen Feng. Seeing the cautious General Ross, Chen Feng hummed, and then pointed to the abomination contained in the Toll 44 Blackfish and said, Lieutenant General, I asked my team to contain that mutant. Do you have any objection, Zhao Zhao? I don't have any complaints, sir. It's a great honor for my subordinates to cooperate with you in your work. After General Ross finished speaking, he looked eagerly at Bruce Banner over there. As long as this guy didn't go, it would be fine. Chen Feng hummed, waved his hands to the team, put his arm around Ophelia's shoulder and smiled. I should continue my vacation. The Federation granted me a 1-month vacation. I don't want to go back to work at this time. You can take care of the rest? No problem, right? After hearing this, General Ross nodded like a chicken pecking rice. No problem, sir. I will leave all of this to my people to deal with the aftermath, and it will definitely not disturb your vacation. Then I'm relieved. Work hard, Ross. I'm optimistic about you. Chen Feng casually muttered, but Ross over there had to stand at attention and salute. After all, this boss had the capital to speak while standing with his hands in his pockets. His military rank is several ranks higher than his, so he can't accept it. Chen Feng didn't care about Bruce, who was taken away by General Ross's men, and then took Ophelia to continue tonight's date. Today I really picked up the reward for nothing, and I made a lot of sweat. Chapter 117 The encounter between Thor and the Punisher, the abnormality in the desert. It's dark. Accompanied by a burst of rapid phone ringing, the sleepy Chen Feng picked up the phone receiver next to the bedside table. What's up, Commander? SHIELD sent a message that an abnormal containment object was suspected to be found in Mexico City. They requested us to send an investigation team to investigate with them. I see. Send the nearest investigation team over there. No. Wait, prepare a transport plane. I will go there myself. Ophelia rubbed her eyes and asked, what's the matter, honey? In an unexpected situation, the vacation was cancelled, so I have to go to Brother Fuchs Inn. Is it the containment? Chen Feng said while wearing a shirt. Well, it should be regarded as a kind of containment. I have to go there myself. Ophelia Tong complained. I managed to finish the work on the Chaos Separatists, and it seems that the vacation was wasted. It just so happens that you can go back to deal with the perfect T-virus genetic evolution agent and preside over the improvement of the tyrant. You have been busy with a lot of data obtained before. When you make others come, you really don't feel sorry for them. As the leader of an organization, the days of a tenured career are still long. Ophelia complained for a while, but still helped Chen Feng straighten his collar with a resentful face, and her faint gaze followed him as he left the hotel room. The Secret Service team operatives on the side were already ready to go, and when they saw Chen Feng making a move, they immediately escorted Chen Feng in formation to take the elevator to the top floor. At the helicopter pad on the roof, a V-44 Blackfish vertical takeoff and landing transport plane has parked there. The crew opened the hatch, Chen Feng entered the cabin skillfully, and then the plane took her off and flew in a new direction. Xuefeng 283. Who did SHIELD descend on the cabin? The projection of Xuefeng immediately appeared next to Chen Feng. It's your old acquaintance, Mr. President, the SHIELD Anomaly handling team led by Detective Phil Coulson. Hearing the news about Xuefeng, Chen Feng said with a smile, It seems that Shield has become a little nervous. In the past, they might directly block the scene and deal with it themselves. Feng glanced at the anomalous containment this time, and according to the photos taken at the scene, it was a famous hammer in the Marvel world. The legendary Mjolnir. It seems that the plot of Thor has already begun, and the unlucky Thor has been kicked by Odin to the mortal world to suffer. But at this time, Shield didn't know that the hammer was the famous Mjolnir, but they regarded it as an anomalous containment object. It can only be said that the terrible threat posed by the abnormal containment has caused Shield to be on high alert for the existence of those suspected abnormal containment. Without the assistance of the Foundation, they would not even dare to launch a separate containment operation. It's true that I am really scared. After all, if you don't do it well, you may encounter something like Containment 096. If you see even 1 pixel of the face, you will die. Who can resist it? Regarding the containment of Mjolnir, Feng is still cautious. The best way is to let Thor join the Avengers and contain it in a hidden and friendly way. The reason why Feng treated Thor so cautiously was mainly because of Asgard. Feng didn't know what kind of combat power the Odin family had. After all, there is a huge gap in combat power in the world of American comics. Take comics for example, a bunch of settings are awesome, what a single star explodes, and a single body destroys the universe. As a result, the expressiveness of the drawing is simply inferior to the 5 Xcom. Law to see. The combat power fluctuations in the American comics world are extremely huge amounts of, so it is difficult for Feng to judge what level the combat power in the American comics world is. In case the Odin in this world is really the kind of god-level powerhouse who is so strong and has a perception of Mjolnir all the time, it would be a very unwise choice to contain Mjolnir directly. Therefore, Feng does not intend to directly contain Thor's hammer, but let the plot develop normally, and then contain it at that time. When Feng rushed to the scene where Mjolnir was blocked by Shield, a distraught blonde white man was walking on a desert. This unlucky guy is none other than Thor, who was demoted by Odin and lost all his divine power. Thor at the moment is walking on the hot desert road between Mexico and the federal border. This is a flat wilderness plain, with dots of bushes faintly visible, and the strong wind blows, blowing a large piece of tumbleweed. Under the relentless scorching sun, the sky is so clear that there is not even a cloud that can block the sun's heat. The hungry Thor finally stopped, and then he saw a small hut beside a wasteland road, and 2 dusty cars parked beside the hut. Thor went to the hut, knocked on the door and asked, "Is anyone there?" Seeing that no one responded, and the door was unlocked, after Thor pushed the door open, he saw a person looking at something intently. After taking a careful look at the scene in the room that could be described as a massacre, Thor took a breath. It was like a secret workshop for making indescribable things, because glass bottles and utensils had been pushed aside and shattered. There was a guy in there who looked like he was badly burned from the inside out. Oh, I should say burnt to death. There were all kinds of dead bodies lying on the ground, and there were at least a dozen people in total. Seeing this scene, Thor stepped forward without any hesitation and knocked the person whose back was facing him unconscious. Then Thor immediately found a rope and tied the man up. At this moment, the sound of a bullet being loaded came from behind. Do not move. The man, wearing a bulletproof vest with a skull pattern on it, was pointing a Benelli M4 shotgun at Thor. Being targeted by a mortal, Ajka, with such a ridiculous toy, even if Thor still has a trace of extraordinary power that can be used, he will resist. But Thor is not a fool. Now that someone is aiming at him with a shotgun, if he moves a little, his head will explode. So Thor obediently raised his hands in a patriotic military salute. Relax, don't shoot buddy. Frank the Punisher saw the scene in front of him clearly, and then asked Thor, "You did all of this?" Thor shook his head. "When I came, the man I knocked unconscious was the only one alive here." Frank looked at the corpse here and put down his gun. "I believe you. It seems that the only way to find out what happened here is to wake up this person." After understanding the situation clearly, Frank walked up to the unconscious and bound man. In front of Thor, Frank the Punisher picked up a salt with a special strong smell and smelled it to the unconscious man, and then he gradually regained consciousness. Amid the jolting and splitting headache, the man gradually woke up. He opened his bloodshot eyes and looked at the surrounding environment. "Report your name. Did you do this?" The man first saw a black hole in the muzzle. Then I heard Frank's cold and hoarse voice, "Wait. Didn't you do this?" Frank narrowed his eyes and looked at the man in front of him. This strange guy was wearing a dusty white shirt with a triangular arrow symbol printed on it that he had never seen before. And on the table were his pistol, radio, and a metal box with the same triangular arrow logo printed on it. Frank said coldly, "These people are my original targets, but they have become like this when I came here." "Someone took a step ahead of me. Didn't you make this place?" Suddenly, the man asked as if he had thought of something extremely terrifying. "What time is it now? Has nightfall fallen?" "If nightfall falls, we must leave here as soon as possible." Frank frowned. "You answer my question first." The man first took a look at the metal box. He was relieved that the sealing strip of the amnestic had not been unsealed. The man swallowed, and said in a low voice, "Listen, Buddy, I'm an agent affiliated with the Foundation. This is a containment area planned by the Foundation. If we don't leave here before nightfall, there will be trouble." Thor interrupted him. "I've never heard of any Foundation. Are you lying to us?" At this moment, Frank seemed to think of something. "Wait, you mean you belong to the Foundation?" Although the Foundation disclosed its existence, and the public also knew about the contained objects, except for organizations like SHIELD, everyone else knew that there was such an organization and that there were such dangerous things. As for what exactly the contents are, and what kind of organization the Foundation is, most people don't understand it at all. That's why Frank didn't react when he saw the Foundation's logo. After hearing that this man was an agent of the Foundation and his unusual behavior, the seasoned Punisher was a little convinced that this man might really be an agent of the Foundation. "Yes, that's right, I'm an agent of the Foundation." "Listen man, I'm not here for the law or anything like that. If you want to take anything, take it, but if it's getting dark, we have to immediately leave." Punisher Frank turned his head and said to Thor, who was a little confused, "I believe what he said, he didn't do all this." Thinking of this, the two looked at each other, and then felt their scalps go numb. Looking at the twisted corpse in the room, Frank picked up the saber without any hesitation and helped the Foundation agent in front of him untie the rope. The Foundation agent thanked and looked up out of the window. "My name is Sean, thank you for believing in me." "Damn it, it's already dark." As if he had seen something extremely terrifying, his face was completely gloomy. "It's getting dark." Chapter 118 Give Thor a little containment shock. Anomaly 973, Highway Patrol. "What's the matter when it's dark?" Thor muttered in a low voice. After all, he used to be a god with extraordinary power, so Thor was relatively slow to control his emotions, and he didn't realize the seriousness of the problem. The face of the Punisher Frank on the side was much more solemn. "If the things here were not done by this strange agent who claimed to be the Foundation, then the problem is serious. What kind of existence can kill so many heavily armed gangsters and gangsters here? You must know that this is the border between the White Eagle Federation and Mexico, and it is known as the most chaotic place in the world. How could you not have two brushes if you want to get involved in this kind of place?" You can imagine how vicious these guys were. Criminals. But these criminals died miserably in this small frontier shack. Frank the Punisher has prepared all kinds of big killers to deal with these vicious criminals, and after careful planning and deployment, as well as a lot of intelligence reconnaissance, he found the hiding place of these sinister and cunning drug dealers. Originally thought it was a hunting trip for fish nuggets, who knew that the Punisher encountered such a confusing situation. Thinking of this, the Punisher stopped hesitating, pointed his gun at the agent who claimed to be Sean again, and asked sharply, "Since you said you were an agent of the Foundation, what is your purpose in coming here?" Sean looked at the muzzle, a few drops of sweat streaming down his brow, and he calmly stated briefly, "This is the Foundation's Level 4 containment area, city. I am here to evacuate anyone who is using this shed. For the sake of safety, everyone must leave here before night falls." But looking at the sky, "My first task has failed." The Punisher slowly puts down the gunman, and now his forehead is covered with cold sweat. Only Thor hasn't figured out the situation yet. "Hey bro, are you too nervous?" Sean ignored Thor, who didn't realize the seriousness of the matter, but picked up the walkie-talkie on the table with a stride, and turned on the walkie-talkie in front of Thor and the Punisher. $1 at headquarters, this is the Wayfinder. The Wayfinder called and asked to evacuate immediately. "I brought two people here." Along with the hissing sound of the walkie-talkie, a woman's voice came from over there. "Reject the request, Pathfinder. We will arrive at your place after sunrise. Please try to hold your ground. Don't go out easily. According to you after own reconnaissance, 973 is outside of you. Please stay clear of any vehicles or roads." Sean immediately understood how serious the situation was, while Thor looked confused, as did the Punisher. Thor asked with a puzzled look, "What do you mean by 973? 973, which is what we often call the abnormal containment object. 973 here is his number, the abnormal containment object 973. It is said that there used to be an extremely cruel federal patrolman who lived here, and he passed away more than 40 years ago. For some reason, his heart was full of resentment before he died. Number 973 will often patrol this road and pursue any vehicles or pedestrians that appear on this road. As for the ending, Sean pointed to the former occupants of the shed, looking at the corpses that had been gutted out and died in a miserable state. Even a tough hero like the Punisher has cold sweat running down his brow, and Thor's scalp is a little tingly. If Thor is still Thor, with his hammer in hand, maybe he will still want to touch the ghost of the legendary 973, but now, the Punisher asked in a deep voice, "Then what should we do? Stay in this house and wait to die?" Thor followed suit, "Leave this house now, maybe we can hurry and escape this road before it's too late." "None of us are breaking federal law. As long as we're in the shed, we're theoretically safe," Sean said. The Punisher's expression suddenly darkened when he heard the words. Since becoming the Punisher, he has killed those gang members in various ways. However, although he feels that his actions are self-righteous, his lynching must have violated the federal law. "Mr. Sean, You may be a good person. Although people like me have never killed a good person, countless villains have died in my hands. Besides, the weapons in my hands are all unlicensed weapons. Strictly speaking, I am an illegal citizen. If according to the judgment of that bastard ghost, I am an illegal existence, I will definitely die. Thor on the side seemed to think of something and echoed, I don't have any identification, so I also exist illegally. At this moment, Thor suddenly saw lights coming from the road in the distance. His expression changed, and he pushed Sean's shoulder. Mr. Agent, isn't that the ghost of the federal patrolman you mentioned? Sean looked out through the dilapidated window, and saw the headlights appearing on the deserted road in the distance. His face changed. Sean picked up the walkie-talkie and said, Main station, this is the Wayfinder. Call the main station, this is the Wayfinder, please evacuate urgently. There is a situation. Zzzz. Under the heavy electronic voice, a hoarse and cold middle-aged man's voice sounded, as if it came from hell. You can't escape. Zzzz. Sean immediately shouted to the two, come with me. Sean then took Thor and the Punisher to the other side of the cabin, where there was an old Chevrolet that looked like a lease. I'll take the two of you away immediately. But Operator Sean, according to what you said, even if we encounter it on the road, it's not safe. We have no choice but to hurry. Before Sean finished speaking, Thor suddenly pushed the two of them to the side with quick eyes and quick hands. With a huge amount of sound and vibration, their Chevrolet was directly overturned by the fast-moving vehicle. The object was a patrol car that looked very much like a patrol car used by the Federal Border State Patrol in the early 1970s. The car was presented in a state of disrepair with huge dents on the doors and door handles, a heavily shattered windshield, heavy rust and a loose bumper that was taped in place. At the moment the hood of this patrol car was bouncing from the huge amounts of impact. After the state police patrol car stopped, a pair of black police boots stepped on the ground, and a tall figure appeared in front of the three of them. He's wearing a khaki police uniform that almost blends into the landscape behind him, and he's wearing a pair of 70s-style toed sunglasses that seem to have a faint red glow behind the lenses. The man tightened his belt, twisted his neck with his hands, then took a baton from his belt, and swaggered towards the three of them. Judging from the appearance alone, this is a white male, about 50 years old, bald, slightly overweight, and has a very thick mustache, which will roll up with his sneer. At this time, you will see that his mouth is almost pitch black, with no teeth, no tongue, just like a pitch black hollow. You have no escape, you have violated federal law and I have sentenced you to death. 17. The Punisher snarled, Fuck. What a twisted bastard you are. He then raised his Benelli shotgun and fired the slug directly at Containment 973, one to the heart, one to the jaw, and one to the shoulder. However, a horrible thing happened. 973 didn't move at all, and didn't flinch. The picture was just like being caught by the TV picture, after it made a sizzling sound. The screen flashed, and several static lines appeared. His wounds shone red and then became blurred, and the wounds disappeared without a trace in the distorted reality. Containment 973 grinned, shaking his baton as if hunting prey, and slowly stepped forward. Even Shendu, who has experienced many battles and has seen a lot, is a little numb. What kind of enemy is this? Even the ghosts in the netherworld cannot possess such abilities. From Thor's knowledge, he has never seen such a strange existence. Quick, let's retreat to the shed. Sean immediately turned his head and went back to the shed, and the three of them closed the door immediately after returning to the shed, and pushed Xuefeng beside him to block the door. However, accompanied by a pounding sound, the baton with red light directly cut through the reinforced concrete shed wall. The wall made a sharp and piercing sound, and a hole was cracked, and 973's ferocious face let out a piercing laugh, and the hollow mouth looked weird and terrifying. Then his hands tore apart the reinforced concrete wall as if tearing a piece of paper, and the metal was directly bent. The extremely shocking scene left the three of them stunned. The Punisher had quick eyes and quick hands, and immediately pulled the trigger on 973 continuously, emptied the bullets of the shotgun, and then gave Thor and Sean a wink. The two immediately grabbed a cardboard on the ground and slammed it into 973. 973 punched the cardboard and then tore it apart, but Sean and Thor had already taken advantage of the gap and ran outside the house. The Punisher threw two C4s to 973's face, and then jumped out of the house with a brisk walk. Try this, bastard, accompanied by a huge amount of explosion. The entire shed was swallowed by the explosion, and the three unlucky eggs who were not far away were injured on their backs by the debris and flames produced by the explosion. But when the three turned their heads and looked back, a figure whose muscles and bones were clearly visible in the flames slowly appeared in front of the three. You have nowhere to escape. Chapter 119. No one will die tonight. Why don't you go to the Foundation as a scavenger in the future? Quick, get in his car and escape from here. Seeing 973 coming out of the house, Sean led Thor and Frank to 973-1, the ghost patrol car. Without any hesitation, Sean found that the car could start normally, and even if the 973 wasn't using it, it could start normally. so Sean kicked the accelerator and let the ghost patrol car go wild. The exhaust of the vintage 1970s police car spewed out to sulphurous, rancid exhaust before hitting the road. The distance between them and Containment 973 was getting farther and farther, and all three of them breathed a sigh of relief. Sitting in the anomalous police patrol car, I quivered. Did we get rid of that damn thing? Sean replied without hesitation while driving. If we get out of its influence or delay until daytime, it will be fine. Looking at the 973 getting farther and farther in the rearview mirror, Thor still has lingering fears. Although he is an as good Protoss, he has never encountered such a strange enemy. Although the abnormal Containment sounds like a ghost, it is not a ghost with an entity. But although it has an entity-like weapon, it is difficult to deal with him. 2 C4s are enough to blow up an M182 main battle tank into the sky. But even if the 973 is injured like that, it can still move without being affected. What's even more frightening is the recovery ability that distorts reality. Even Thor in his heyday, he is not sure that he can destroy that weird monster. Thor has seen enemies like demons before, but nothing compared to Containment 973. There are not many ghosts in the Marvel world, and the strange ability of 973, which is somewhat similar to ghosts, subverts Thor's three views for a while. In Asgard, he didn't encounter such a strange enemy. Perhaps only his father, the father god with the power of Odin, could easily destroy it. After all, Thor is an Asgard Protoss with extraordinary power. Compared with Punisher Frank and Sean who have no extraordinary power, he feels the horror of Containment 93 more deeply. Sean on the side was not as optimistic as Thor, and he didn't know that Thor, the Protoss of Asgard, was actually terrified. Sean said with concern, hopefully this car will last until we escape its reach. The Punisher Frank wiped the sweat from his brow. Since he became the Punisher, the enemies he has eliminated are all kinds of gangsters. During the blockade period, the Punisher also fought against those mutant creatures, but never faced 973 so difficult. Physical damage has limited effect on it, or if it has enough powerful firepower, it may be able to destroy it. Run, scum, run. The police intercom in the patrol car rang, but the three people in the car paid no attention to it. Because of the ability of the Containment Object 973, as long as it is within the range of its influence, it can interfere with the communication equipment. Fortunately, this monster's movement ability is not strong, so it cannot catch up. After the three of them heard the threat of 973 on the radio, Thor was the first to laugh. Go to hell, monster. Is he only able to say this? He can't catch up at all. As long as we escape this section of the road, we will be safe. It seems that in order to eliminate the fear in his heart, Frank endured the pain in his body, took out a bottle of painkillers, distributed them to the other two and said, I think we should defeat him. First take 2 painkillers to relieve it. I have some bandages here to stop the bleeding. Sean, how long are we going to run? Sean glanced at his watch. Probably we won't be safe until sunrise, and Lee Tanyang is still several hours away, or we can run out of his sphere of influence, provided the car can hold it. This Ford police patrol car in the 1970s has a dilapidated feel. After hearing Sean's words, Thor and Frank felt a little uneasy in their hearts. It's hard to believe that this dilapidated old Ford can last for so long. Compared with it, it gives people a sense of déjà vu that it will break down at any time. The police lights on 973 one flashed, turning the desert in front of us into red and blue. Although this old patrol car looked very unreliable, it was indeed gradually pulling away under Sean's control. The distance from the shed should be as far as possible beyond the range of influence of 973. Sean wasn't sure what would happen to the car at the border of the sphere of influence. According to the information the Foundation now has, the car would disappear without a trace during the day. According to the analysis of the Foundation's research department, maybe the car just disappeared at that time, either returning to its dimension or hell. Thinking of this, the sweat on Sean's forehead grew even more, but he stepped up the accelerator firmly. Frank seemed to see Sean's preoccupation. As a Punisher, he had worked in Phobol and served in the best special forces. Seeing Sean's appearance, Frank asked, So, Sean Agent, what should we do now? Sean realized at this moment that his expression was too tense, and he thought of an important thing. His box of amnestics has been lost in the shed, the first batch of products made by the research department from the materials extracted from 939, to ensure that the Foundation's secrets will not be spread. But now the two people in the car obviously can't be amnesticized in this way. After hearing Frank's words, Sean raised his right hand with his index finger up and gestured, I'm going to report you two bastards. Hearing Sean's joke, Frank squeezed out a stiff smile. Oh, report on me? To Forbes? Then I'll be locked up in a federal prison and die somewhere unknown? Please, in that case you might as well just shoot me right here. Thor also saw that Sean was joking, and joked along. What about me? You're not going to send me to a homeless center, are you? Sean's face became more relaxed at this time. Don't worry, I will delay my relationship with the Foundation. Don't you like to clean up gang members? Frank, how about going to the Foundation to be a scavenger? Definitely you're still a prisoner, It's just that you'll be working for the Foundation, and trust me, nobody's going to die tonight. Frank said, sounds interesting, but have you noticed how it gets so hot in this car? At this time, all three of them realized that the temperature inside the car became unbearable for some reason. Zizizi. You stupid scum, it's time to go with me. On the other end of the radio, the voice of 973 appeared, and then Sean Kang saw several roadblocks appearing out of thin air on the road in front of him. Sean slammed on the brakes but nothing happened, and the temperature in the car was getting higher and higher. The dashboard was cracked and black smoke was coming out. No. We have to jump. After speaking, Sean opened the car door and jumped off the 973-1 police patrol car. After jumping off the high-speed vehicle, his body rolled several times, covered with. Frank and Thor, who were also nimble, also jumped off the car. They were already injured, and now they were even more injured. The three of them felt severe pain all over their bodies, and the 973-1 hit the roadblock at this time, but it didn't explode, but turned into a red static electricity strangely, emitting a lot of smoke then disappeared without a trace. Sean only felt that his eyes were wet and sticky so that he couldn't open his eyes. Run, why don't you run away, you idiots? 973's hoarse and low, but slightly arrogant voice sounded. The three of them seemed to have seen the 973 buttons, swaggeringly appeared on the road, and came towards them. At this critical moment, I seem to hear something. The GMX-01 Gauss sniper rifle has locked onto the target. Fire. A few dazzling bolts of lightning illuminated the night and hit 973's body. However, under such a powerful force, 973 just paused, and his body was hit with several bowl-sized penetrating wounds. Hollow. Even so, 973 still relied on the powerful restoration ability, accompanied by the static sound to distort the reality, and slowly repaired it, but his restoration time was longer than 4.7. At this moment, a tall and slim figure jumped down from the air, and the metal blade glowing with dark red light flashed across his body in an instant. Accompanied by the dance of the blade, after the dazzling slash, 973's body seemed unable to withstand such a blow, and static sound resounded all over his body. Following the smoke and red light, 973 disappeared. Headquarters, this is the emergency response team. 973 has been temporarily eliminated, and it is expected to reappear in 9 days. Many target road sections are urgently blocked. Over. Received by the main station. Thank you for your hard work, Team Leader Aliwether. A piece of cake. At this time, the transport plane V-44 hovered over the heads of the three people. In the eyes of Frank and Thor, several people wearing similar clothes to Sean came over. Contact objects have been found, 3 wounded, an agent, and 2 civilians, and the medical team began emergency treatment. Aliwether said to the Foundation agents who came here, this place is handed over to you. The commander has arrived at the location of the SHIELD containment, and I need to protect the safety of the commander. No problem, sir, leave it to us. Chapter 120 Inexplicably completed Containment, the Power of Thunder and the Task Card of S-level talents. Sir, this is where the anomalous containment is located. Since the Hummer hit the ground, we have sealed it off. Few people can pick up this creation, and we very much suspect that it is an anomalous containment item. Listening to the chattering introduction of Phil Coulson over there, Chen Feng entered through the cordon set up by the SHIELD Anomaly containment team, and came to the pothole that had already cracked the ground. Chen Feng's eyes focused on the hammer. Chen Feng looked at Phil Coulson and asked with a smile, no one can handle this hammer? Yes, no one can hold it. As if to show off, Phil Coulson looked over at Natasha Romanoff and Sky and said, Agent Natasha Romanoff and Agent Sky, do you want to try? Upon hearing the words, the widow stepped forward and readily agreed. Shall I try? As Natasha Romanoff tried to lift the hammer vigorously, she felt that the hammer seemed to move a little bit, but she still didn't lift it up. As a member of the Avengers Alliance in the later period, the widow's character, will, and righteous heart can naturally be recognized by the hammer, which means that she is qualified to lift Mjolnir. But now the widow's sister is still immature, and has not been recognized by this hammer. The widow shook her head at Sky, who was on the side. Sky stepped forward and tried to lift the hammer, but it didn't move. Then Sky let go, and stepped aside with the widow. When Chen Feng walked up to the hammer and tried to lift Mjolnir, just when Chen Feng's hand was about to touch the hammer, the Mjolnir trembled unexpectedly, as if O9 couldn't wait to be lifted by Chen Feng. A warm and dazzling golden psychic light appeared, and when Chen Feng's hand touched the hammer, he could feel that the hammer seemed to be in contact with 2 beings. One of them is not in this dimension, apparently Odin of Asgard, and the other one is naturally Thor. Chen Feng just held the hammer, and then with a light stroke, the hammer was lifted by Chen Feng so easily. The dazzling golden psychic light illuminated the entire blockade instantly, and everyone seemed to be bathed in the spring breeze. Chen Feng put down the hammer in embarrassment, and the golden long energy light instantly dissipated without a trace. The moment Chen Feng just raised the hammer, His keen psychic ability could feel that he was about to have some kind of connection with this Mjolnir, and this was something Chen Feng did not want to have. He doesn't want to just lift Mjolnir up like this. After all, Odin is still there. Maybe this will attract Asgard and Odin's attention. So Chen Feng immediately put the hammer back in place. I just lifted this little broken hammer, but it still wants to recognize its master. Chen Feng complained silently in his heart, then looked at Phil Coulson, Melinda, Sky and Natasha Romanoff who were stunned aside, and smiled awkwardly. Please keep the incident just now a secret. Just pretend that I have never lifted this hammer. Phil Coulson froze for a moment, and soon came to his senses. Okay, sir, does the blockade still need to continue? The blockade will naturally continue to be blocked, and if those media want to report, you don't have to stop it deliberately. The closest people on the scene just now, Phil Coulson, Natasha Romanoff, Sky, and Melinda all felt the psychic light displayed by Chen Feng, but they didn't know much about extraordinary power. I just thought it might be some kind of super ability. Didn't I think that Chen Feng, the chairman of the foundation, is actually a super ability? Furthermore, when Chen Feng was able to lift a hammer that they couldn't lift at all, maybe someone with a super ability could lift the hammer. In any case, Phil Coulson intends to do as Chen Feng said. He also didn't bother to find out why Chen Feng concealed the fact that he could lift the hammer, but since it was an order from the officer, he was out of his mind to get to the bottom of it. With the Foundation's prestige in full swing, SHIELD doesn't want to touch the Foundation because of such a trivial matter. And not long after Chen Feng raised the hammer, a system prompt sounded in his mind. Congratulations to the commander for completing the containment of M-Scp-002 Mjolnir, and system rewards will be issued soon. ? The commander has contained M-Scp-002 Mjolnir, obtained the power of Thunder Law, the power of Thunder, and automatically controls all Thunder-type psychic powers. ? The commander contained the second American Comics World anomalous containment object, and obtained 100 council points. ? Due to the recent active performance of the Foundation, the influence of the Foundation has been greatly expanded, and task cards for rewarding S-level scientific research talents have been issued. ? S-level scientific research talent task card. After completing the special S-level scientific research talent task, an S-level scientific researcher will be rewarded to join the Foundation to serve as the commander. ? The moment he received the system reward, Chen Feng felt that his already powerful psychic power had become even stronger this time. If the strength of his spiritual energy was originally a river, it has now expanded into a sea area. Moreover, Chen Feng's original Shinic power was biased towards the Void-type Shinic power, but now he has mastered the Thunder-type Shinic power instead. In Chen Feng's mind, there are a lot of Lightning-type Shinic skills and experience. It's just that the overpowering psychic energy actually made Chen Feng feel his body go into a trance for a while, feeling extremely uncoordinated. Oops. There's too much spiritual strengthening, and the physical strength can't keep up. Chen Feng felt that his powerful psychic energy seemed to be desperately absorbing energy from his body, and he seemed to be building an extraordinary psychic organ with psychic energy as the core. However, this requires a lot of energy from the body. Although Chen Feng's physical strength has been raised to D level through the agent training card, his spiritual energy has at least reached S level strength. His body is too fragile compared to his vast psychic power. That is to say, Chen Feng is now completely a magician character, or a magician with relatively weak physical strength. Chen Feng could perceive through his keen sense of psychic power that if his psychic power continued to strengthen, his body would be overwhelmed sooner or later. At that time, his physical body might not be able to bear it, and he would be transformed into an energy creature directly under the influence of Shinic energy, which is completely unacceptable to Chen Feng. Chen Feng frowned while thinking, suddenly felt dizzy, and his steps seemed a little staggering. Natasha Romanoff on the side quickly took his arm and helped him up, and said with concern, "Commander, are you okay? You look very bad." Cough 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 ... I'm fine. While coughing, Chen Feng waved his hands to indicate that he was fine, and pretended to be relaxed and said, "It's just a small problem." It was also the first time for Sky to see Chen Feng with such a weak expression. "Commander, you have become like this since you just lifted that abnormal containment object. Could it have something to do with it? Shall I ask the medical team to examine you? Your health matters. Trust me, I can solve it." Cough cough cough. Chen Feng covered his mouth as he said, and then he saw the blood radiating golden Shinic light flowing in the palm of his hand. "What's that? Blood?" Natasha Romanoff held a handkerchief and wanted to help Chen Feng wipe off the blood that exuded the golden psychic light, and just touched it, but felt a powerful psychic power pouring into her body. With a sizzling sound, Natasha Romanoff was shocked to see an electric arc emerge from her palm. "Commander ... Are you really a human being? Are you not a god or something?" Natasha Romanoff and Sky stared blankly at the scene in front of them. Both swallowed their saliva, a little unbelievable. "It's the result of the Foundation's research department. The effect of the genetic evolution agent, but it's not perfect yet. I have some side effects. System Search for a way to get to my body. Ding. The recommended plan is to customize a suitable genetic evolution agent according to the commander's physical fitness to strengthen your body so that your body can withstand your spiritual strength. Before this, it is recommended to exchange the system's psychic inhibitors to weaken your psychic energy and suppress your psychic energy within a safe range that can be used. 500 watt, 50 councils order a bottle, and it can only last for a month. A system that requires money. After Chen Feng saw the price of the psychic inhibitor in the system mall, he cursed the black-hearted system severely, and then reluctantly exchanged for a bottle. Chen Feng took out the psychic inhibitor from his pocket with a casual look and swallowed it, and then he felt his physical condition return to the past. So he smiled at Sky and Natasha Romanoff. Look, I'm fine. Sky and Natasha Romanoff looked at Chen Feng suspiciously, only to see him put his index finger to his mouth and whisper, remember to keep it secret. Okay, Commander, we'll keep it a secret. Looking at Natasha Romanoff and Sky, Chen Feng, who were fooling around, heaved a sigh of relief. Chen Feng at the moment was still wondering why the containment mission was suddenly completed. He didn't know that Thor was already lying in a certain operation base of the Foundation. Chen Feng looked at the task card of the S-level scientific research figure given by the system, and it seemed that he had to perform this task immediately. Recently, some containment objects have appeared in various places, but most of the containment objects are not very harmful. The agent team led by Aliwether went to contain them, and Chen Feng earned a lot of council points. However, although the scientific research department has obtained a large amount of data and samples, the research progress has become slow. Relying on Dr. Wilhelm alone can no longer keep up with the development of the Foundation, and Tony has already hit contact with Black Braised Eggs and started to consider establishing Avengers. At the moment Tony has never experienced the plot of Iron Man 2, but the impact of the Foundation on him was too great, causing the plot to be completely changed. So now Tony can't count on it for the time being. Tony has recently helped Dr. Wilhelm greatly speed up the development of nano-biochemical suits. Finding an S-level scientific research talent is essential for the development of the Foundation now. Chapter 121 Affiliated Forces and the Crisis in the Desert Restricted Area. Are you going to execute the task of S-level scientific research personnel? Confirm execution. The mission briefing has been updated. Currently near the Sonoran Desert, a certain number of abnormal containment objects have been detected breaking through the dimensional barrier and arriving in this world, causing abnormal effects within a certain range. S-level scientific research personnel of the Foundation headquarters, Dr. Laixia has entered the Sonoran Desert for investigation under the escort of a nine-tailed fox mobile task force. I have accepted the S-level scientific research task, and assist Laixia to investigate the abnormal phenomenon in the Sonoran containment area. Chen Feng received this piece of information just after using the S-level scientific research task card. A holographic image immediately appeared on Chen Feng's bowl computer, a video message from a glamorous blonde in a white coat. Your Excellency, President, I was ordered to enter the Sonoran Desert to conduct an investigation. Here we found traces of the 935 team's actions, and some traces of alien invaders. My guards suffered some casualties during the investigation. I need your help, Commander. Please come to the coordinates I sent as soon as possible. We will continue the next investigation. Over. The communication ended, the holographic image disappeared, and Chen Feng opened the map. Sure enough, the marked area is not far from here, about 100 kilometers away. Recently, the Foundation has discovered several anomalous containment items near the Sonoran Desert. One of them includes the abnormal containment object 973, and the deeper it goes into the core area, the greater the danger, and the more difficult the containment objects encountered. Chen Feng dialed Sergeant Major Lois without thinking. After the call was dialed, the voice of Sergeant Major Lois came from the receiver. Supervisor, do you have any instructions? Sergeant Major Lois changed Chen Feng's title to this after Chen Feng completed his inaugural task and became the president of the Foundation and the overseer of the O5 Council. Sergeant Major Lois, please tell Speaker Adam Benford that the Foundation needs to list an area in the Sonoran Desert as a restricted area, and it is recommended to temporarily prevent people from entering this area. There is no problem, Supervisor. The federal military will assist the Foundation to establish a blockade. After hanging up the phone, I saw a text message from Xuefeng. Master President, in the area where Containment 973 is active, our agent brought back two somewhat special survivors. One of the survivors, named Frank, according to the system comparison and the agent's description, he is a Punisher who is active and hunting gangs and criminals in the Federation. There is another survivor, his body density is 3 times that of normal humans. What is interesting is that for some reason, he may have been affected by psionic energy. His physical quality and physical ability can only exert a considerable at the level of an E-level agent. Chen Feng read Xuefeng's text message, and then glanced at the photo attached to the information. Good guy. Chen Feng finally knows why Mjolnir's containment task is completed. and the feeling is that Thor at this point in time was actually brought back to the Foundation's base of operations by his own agent. Recently, after signing a cooperation agreement, the Foundation has requisitioned many small military bases deployed by the former JTF in America. Definitely the scale of these bases and facilities cannot be compared with the Foundation's Paradise Island base and the Shendu city under construction. However, these bases that have obtained the right to use through cooperation agreements can greatly make up for the Foundation's lack of only 2 large bases on Blue Star. The only problem is that there are so many bases, and the task forces are all undergoing training and reorganization, so the Foundation has a problem of understaffing. Fortunately, the first batch of Foundation agents trained by the Foundation Agent School are already in place. Although these newly promoted agents are all E-level training, they are all professional in the investigation of contained objects and the blockade of abnormal areas. There is no problem with containing some low-difficulty containment objects, and at the moment, there are as many as 20 small bases and various outposts surrounding the restricted area, and now more than 200 Foundation agents and more than 1,000 Foundation staff are operating in Sonran's restricted area. Xuefeng closed the map. Originally he planned to complete the task by himself, but now he changed his mind. After Xuefeng left the command room, he saw the SHIELD agents of Phil Coulson's team and Natasha Romanoff's team on standby outside. Recently, SHIELD's anomalous containment team has almost become a white job for the Foundation, and they are almost never tired of it. As the SHIELD faction that is pro-Foundation, after cooperating with the Foundation to complete a series of tasks, their voice and power in SHIELD gradually increased. Through the intelligence network of SHIELD, the Foundation obtained a lot of information, which filled the vacancy when the Foundation was operating on Blue Star. Feng went straight to the members of the Aegis Anomaly containment team, and the Aegis agents who were still waiting in the lounge stood up when they saw Feng approaching. Phil Coulson saluted Feng and asked, "Sir, what's the matter?" Maybe at the right time, it would be nice to have SHIELD as an affiliated force of the Foundation like the Chaos Insurgency. After the system is upgraded, each affiliated force of the Foundation will contribute 100 council points every month according to its strength, and will also receive bonuses from some affiliated forces. For example, the faction of Chaos Splitter is better at using biochemical technology, and the Foundation headquarters will receive a bonus in the research and development of biotechnology, as well as a bonus in the production and strength of biological weapons. At present, the bonus provided by the Chaos Splitter is a C-level subsidiary force, which can get 100 council points every month. Phil Coulson didn't know that Feng was already thinking about whether to include organizations like SHIELD and Hydra as affiliated forces of the Foundation in the future. In Phil Coulson's view, the SHIELD Anomaly containment team came to the Foundation to cooperate and observe and study, which greatly improved them. Not only did the SHIELD Abnormal Containment Team train a large number of experienced and elite agents in various operations, but the Foundation also generously gave them some technical support from the Foundation. Definitely, most of the technical support is the same as the EDF Earth Defense Force that is being trained, and it is the basic technology that the Foundation has eliminated. But in the eyes of Phil Coulson and other pro-Foundation idealists, that is the selfless dedication of the Foundation, and this performance of the Foundation makes them grateful to date. Definitely, in Feng's view, if forces such as SHIELD and even Hydra are subdued into the Foundation's vassal forces in the future, the current support is tantamount to cultivating his own younger brothers. Judging from Feng's years of experience as a player in Paradox, it is much better to turn these forces into subsidiary forces than to destroy them directly. Now the subtle influence is cultivating pro-Foundation factions in SHIELD. When these people come to power in the future, won't the resources of SHIELD be equal to the resources of the Foundation? As a suzerain force, the Foundation can not only obtain regular O5 council points through these vassal forces to expand its influence, but also the vassal forces will regularly provide manpower, technology and resources. Now supporting Feng is regarded as cultivating a younger brother. Just like Feng playing the game of Paradise, once the younger brother is raised, a lot of work can be handed over directly to the younger brother. Just like the slave countries of those big countries during World War II. Help search at the meeting. The most important thing is that even if the younger brother suffers a loss, he doesn't have to pay the pension himself, which is simply a perfect tool for power. After thinking about the future for a while, Feng looked at Phil Coulson a lot more kindly. Just when Phil Coulson was puzzled, Feng said: vertical bar agents Phil Coulson and Agent Natasha Romanoff, the Foundation discovered the situation in the Sonoran Desert. Our scientific research team has entered the depths of the Sonoran Desert to investigate, so I plan to form a team to carry out the mission with me. How about we leave in 2 hours with your guys? After hearing Feng's words, Phil Coulson and Natasha Romanoff agreed unanimously. No problem, Commander. Our men are ready to go immediately. Thank you very much for the assistance of SHIELD. Then we will see you at the tarmac in 2 hours. After saying hello to everyone in the Aegis Anomaly containment team, Feng walked out of the lounge and came to the tarmac. Has Xuefeng put his body on Zhaozun at this time? Alright. Feng skillfully entered the cockpit of the FFR-41 Mr. Snowwind fighter with the cooperation of the ground crew. Closing the canopy, Feng put on the helmet and said, Xuefeng, come with me. Accompany me to meet those 2 unlucky bastards picked up by our agent. Xuefeng, who was sitting in the co-pilot seat, projected his image in front of Feng's HUD, stared at Xuefeng with blue eyes, and said curiously, President, you seem to be very interested in those 2 survivors? Well, let me guess, is it the guy whose body structure is different from ordinary people? Feng glanced at Xuefeng approvingly and said, you guess right, but that guy is not an ordinary person, but the Asgard Protoss. Asgard Protoss? Is it the Asgard in the myth? But as a god, isn't that too weak? After all, he is the Prince of Asgard whose divine power has been sealed, and he probably came to the Earth to be gilded. Is it a big shot? Don't worry too much, the Asgard Protoss are a friendly force to Earth. Feng lit up the instrument panel, then started the engine, and the FFR-41 Mr. Electronic Warfare plane lifted off vertically, then pulled the nose and disappeared into the sky. Chapter 122 The Transaction with Thor. How does the Foundation know about Asgard so well? Sonoran Desert Outer Foundation Advanced Space. The corners of Yukikaze's mouth raised slightly, looking at Aliwether who had just rushed to the Mjolnir blockade area through the Foundation's network. Feng looked at Xuefeng with a black-bellied and smirking expression, and asked in surprise, what's the matter Xuefeng? Xuefeng held back a smile with a serious face and replied, nothing to grow up, I just thought of a funny thing. What's so funny? Feng was curious. It's very interesting to see a sneak cat fall into the fish pond while catching fish. Is it that funny? Feng suppressed his curiosity, landed the plane on the ground, and then entered the base. Thor woke up in a daze, and found that several medical staff wearing Foundation logos were doing a physical examination on him. Boss, his body is fine. Okay, you geese step back first. I want to talk to him. Only then did Thor see that a man in a decent suit was sitting in the room. After seeing this man, as an Asgard person, he had a keen perception. Thor instantly felt that this man was very extraordinary. His seemingly ordinary body contained a terrifying power just like his own father god Odin. Thor's body tensed and he looked at him warily. Feng took off the sunglasses he was wearing, put them aside casually, and said calmly, relax, let me introduce myself. I am the president of the Foundation. I don't know what to call you. It's the famous Thor, or the Prince of Asgard. Hearing this, Thor's pupils trembled. How could this man who claimed to be the president of the Foundation recognize that he was from Asgard the moment he met him, and even recognize that he was Thor? Obviously, after coming to Blue Star, none of these mortals knew themselves at all. 313 Thor. Although Thor is reckless, he is not a fool, and he immediately thought of several possibilities. He looked at Feng cautiously and said in a low voice, you know me? Definitely. After all, the bones and body density of Asgardians are completely different from those of normal blue stars. Furthermore, as the president of the Foundation, it's normal for me to know more than ordinary people, right? Although your hammer is not with you, I guess the only one who will be relegated to the Blue Star training at this time is the irritable, impulsive and error-prone Prince of Asgard, right? It's easy to recognize. Hearing these joking words, Thor's face became gloomy. So you came here to laugh at me? Indeed, I am no longer a god, but I still have the dignity of an Asgard prince. I definitely wouldn't have nothing to do and come all the way here just to laugh at a prince of the Asgard Protoss who has temporarily become immortal. In fact, I have too much work to do. Hearing this made Thor a little confused. Then what do you want? Does your Foundation want to use me to threaten Asgard? It seems that you don't know much about the Foundation, but I know you Asgardians very well. After all, you once protected Blue Star, so our goals should be the same. As he spoke, Feng threw a photo into Thor's hand. Thor's face changed after seeing the photo, and he hurriedly asked, my Mjolnir. Where is it? Your hammer is in the Foundation's blockade area. In fact, I came here to make a deal with you. What deal? Definitely ask Ajk, the noble Prince of Asgard, to assist the Foundation in a simple containment operation. Thor felt his scalp tingle when he heard the contents. He looked at Feng in disbelief, and asked, are you crazy? If you want to kill me, you can do it now. I'm immortal now. You send me to face those monsters? Wow, Prince of Asgard, won't you be scared out of your wits just because of a Containment 973? Lost your courage? Do you think you can still get Mjolnir's recognition? Although it was heard that this was a radical method, Thor was still passionate. Thor took a deep breath, thought for a while, gritted his teeth and said, okay, I will make a deal with you, and I hope you can take me to where Mjolnir is after this. Feng put away the playful smile on his face, and said calmly, don't worry, you don't need to participate in the battle for this containment operation. Thor became more and more confused. Then why do you want me to go with you to participate in your so-called containment operation? Naturally, it is because the Foundation needs the humans on the Blue Star, and you race civilizations that are closely related to humans to be able to experience the threat posed by the contained objects. I believe you, Asgard, have also noticed it. In recent years, there have been frequent occurrences of abnormalities in Blue Star. After hearing Chen Feng's words, Thor's face was a bit serious. His further god Odin did mention this matter to the Asgard people, but although Asgard claimed to be the Asgardian of the Blue Star, they did not live on the Blue Star. So most don't pay much attention to these anomalous threats. In the near future, Blue Star will suffer a terrible invasion, so the Foundation will unite all forces that can be united. And you, Prince of Asgard, Mr. Thor, you will also shoulder your responsibilities. I need you as a witness to make Asgard aware of the terrible threat contained in the future, instead of indulging in your ridiculous internal friction. After finishing speaking, Chen Feng ignored Thor, who was in deep thought, and got up and left directly. The short 10-minute meeting with Chen Feng made Thor extremely shocked, but he didn't show it. It can be seen that the Foundation, an organization, knows almost everything about the Asgard Protoss. Although Chen Feng didn't say it clearly, the Foundation knew all about the battle between Asgard and Frost Titan on Blue Star, and many things are almost treated as myths by the current Blue Star humans. And the Foundation seems to be very aware of the internal conflicts in Asgard. Although Chen Feng didn't make it clear, he clearly knows that the Asgard people, especially the Odin family, are now at risk of internal conflicts erupting. However, as the Prince of Asgard himself, Thor doesn't know anything about the Foundation. When he was hunted down by the contained object 973 before, Thor also deeply realized that even in his heyday, he might not be able to kill 973, but the Foundation seems to be dealing with these terrible things every day. But such an organization almost appeared out of nowhere, appearing suddenly. Asgard knows nothing about this organization, not even himself, the Prince of Asgard, and Odin, the omnipotent father god in Thor's eyes, doesn't even know when did Blue Star emerge such a powerful and terrifying organization. Nevertheless, through one Sean's performance, Thor intends to trust the Foundation for the time being. In fact, Thor also wants to see how the Foundation stores those abnormal containment objects. From Chen Feng's words, it seems that more and more containment objects will appear on Blue Star in the future. This can't be ignored by Thor. If those contained objects exist like 973, even if they appear in Asgard, it will be a headache. And judging from the Foundation's understanding of itself, the Foundation must also know that only itself can use Mjolnir. That's why the chairman proposed such a deal to himself without any hesitation, right? Although at the moment, as the Prince of Asgard, Thor was beaten by society for a period of time after he came to Blue Star, his arrogance as the Prince of Asgard still exists. As a soldier, he wondered if, in an organization like the Foundation, all the members were guys like Sean, or was that guy just an exception? After coming to Blue Star, he was angry that mortals had forgotten the price Asgard paid to protect Blue Star. At the same time, he was also curious, can these mortals really protect this world? Up to now, Thor has not met the heroine in the plot, but met the Foundation by accident. Chen Feng realized that he had already ruined the plot, but it didn't matter, the plot and so on. How could it be more important to complete the containment task? Leaving the ward, Chen Feng saw the Foundation staff in another room registering Frank the Punisher. From now on, this guy might not be the Foundation's scavenger. Chen Feng smiled, just glanced at it, and didn't go over to say hello. Even though he has also seen the Punisher movie, it seems that celebrities in the movie world have seen enough. So now Chen Feng has become immune to the existence of these superheroes or celebrities in Marvel, and he doesn't have much interest. Master President, is the matter over? Seeing Chen Feng coming out, Xuefeng casually threw over a can of chocolate latte specially provided by the beverage machine at the base. Chen Feng took the can, unzipped the buckle, and walked over while drinking coffee. It's over. Later, someone here will take a transport plane to the mission landing site to carry out the mission together. Let's go there now. After Chen Feng finished speaking, he returned to the FFR-41 Mr. Electronic Warfare plane with Xuefeng, took off and landed vertically, and flew to the depths of the Sonoran Desert. Chen Feng has already fallen in love with the feeling of using this super fighter to drive on the road. It is fast enough, there will be no traffic jams, and it has vertical takeoff and landing, so it can land anywhere. It is really convenient to use as a means of transportation. Just after Chen Feng and Xuefeng arrived at the destination first, the V-44 Blackfish vertical takeoff and landing transport plane took off at the two forward bases of the Foundation, carrying the people of the Mobile Task Force and the agent team to the mission destination. Chapter 123 The Evolution Task of the Duty Gun, Containment 440, Shaji Ecosphere. Chen Feng and Xuefeng first drove the fighter plane to the coordinates of Dr. Rayleigh Kezia. FFR-41 Mr. Xuefeng fighter jet enters air alert mode. After Chen Feng landed in the desert with Xuefeng's FFR-41 fighter entered the air alert mode. I saw Xuefeng's main body fighter immediately suspended in the air and turned on the optical camouflage. Xuefeng can observe the ground from the perspective of the fighter at any time. Through the reconnaissance module of the fighter itself, coupled with Chen Feng's own spiritual power detection, Chen Feng soon discovered the camp left by Dr. Laixia and the others. When Chen Feng and Xuefeng arrived at the advance team camp led by Dr. Rayleigh Kezia, Chen Feng frowned, and immediately took out the agent service gun. He said to Xuefeng beside him with a solemn face, "There is a situation." At this moment, the system task was suddenly triggered after the commander took office as the president of the Foundation. "The agent duty gun that has been fighting with you is eager to become stronger?" Because the agent duty gun has experienced several times of strengthening, she has reached the current limit state, and the life level of this living weapon is about to complete a metamorphosis under the nourishment of your powerful spiritual energy? Triggered by side missions, use the agent service gun to kill superhuman enemies as much as possible to make them evolve? Chen Feng looked at his love gun that had been with him in battle from the very beginning. As this living weapon became stronger and stronger, the increase in killing enemies brought by the service gun has become smaller and smaller. After choosing the Shenik ascension route, although Chen Feng's physical body has surpassed the level of a mortal, it has just broken through the limit of a mortal. Even comparing the physical strength of Spider-Man and Captain America, his physical body is still not comparable of. That's why as Chen Feng's psychic energy became stronger and stronger, his body began to be unable to keep up with the strength of the psychic energy. However, after using the upgrade card to upgrade the service gun, the current service gun's ability seems to have reached the limit, and it can no longer be improved. Unexpectedly, under the continuous nourishment of my own spiritual energy, this gun has reached the level where it can evolve degree yet. Chen Feng is also curious about how powerful this special living weapon similar to a containment will become if it evolves further. After reading the system prompts, Chen Feng slowly walked into the advanced team's camp with a service gun. As soon as he entered the camp, Chen Feng found that there was no one alive in the advanced camp. Chen Feng and the guarded Xuefeng looked at each other, and the two walked into the camp on high alert. The advanced team camp is a temporary camp consisting of 5 large military tents and a dozen small tents. This camp could accommodate at least 100 people, but at the moment was extremely silent, except for the whistling wind that rang in my ears. There was no sound. Very wrong for such a camp. After Chen Feng and Xuefeng entered the camp, they found that the material boxes and equipment of the advanced team were still there, but traces of battles could be clearly seen. There are bullet marks and exploded craters on the ground, and there are many damaged tents and some damaged material boxes. A Foundation radar station that can be seen is still in operation. Chen Feng and Xuefeng saw several defective corpses beside the radar station. Xuefeng walked over to the corpse of an advanced team member with an incomplete defect to check it out, and shook his head at Chen Feng who was beside him. "Master Chairman, he is a member of Nine-Tailed Fox. According to the condition of the body, he has been dead for at least 6 hours. The good news is that the equipment in the advanced team camp is still functioning and has not been completely destroyed. The signs of this battle do not seem to be man-made. There's a lot of sand. Did the Nine-Tailed Fox's task force encounter a sandstorm?" Looking at Xuefeng who was inspecting the corpse, Chen Feng suggested, "Xuefeng, turn on their battle recorder to see what happened to them." "Good President." Xuefeng quickly removed the memory card of the battlefield recorder from the helmet of an advanced team member, read it immediately, and saw such a picture. "Communication has been interrupted. We have lost contact with Dr. Lakesia's exploration team, and we have no communication with the outside world at all. Sir, we are under attack from the containment. The outer defense line has been lost. They are coming in." "What is this? Sandworms?" Stick to the line of defense. Be careful not to use explosives. Our mission is to protect the camp. Even if we all die here, let the people behind us know what we are fighting." "What's that?" "Sand. Velociraptor, fire." The picture ends here abruptly. It seems that the advanced team of the Nine-Tailed Foxes seems to have been attacked by the contained objects, and finally the entire army was wiped out. Xuefeng, compare the Foundation's containment database. What kind of containment did the advanced team encounter? Without Chen Feng's instructions, Xuefeng had already started to compare, and soon found the culprit who attacked the advanced team. "Master President, according to the data comparison, it is found that the advanced team encountered an attack from Containment 440. Containment 440? In such a desert terrain, if it is 440, no wonder the Nine-Tailed Fox squad who stayed here would be wiped out." The anomalous Containment 440 sand-based biosphere is a fine-grained sand grain. Each grain size is about 90 microns, and its chemical composition is the same as that of conventional silicon-based sand grains. The object's anomaly is that sand grains always behave as if they are weightless, regardless of the gravitational effects they are subjected to. Seeking flowers. Containment 440 was originally found in an unlabeled glass bottle filled with a viscous liquid, presumably to seal Containment 440 and keep the sand from direct contact. Containment 440 will transfer its properties to other normal sand grains. Sand grains larger than 1 mm do not have this transmission property, and transform them into new Containment 440. This process is believed to be roughly conditional on contact, requiring Containment 440 to be introduced into normal grains of sand by compressed air. The rate at which sand converts into Containment 440 is currently unknown, but it is known that approximately 30% of species are not converted. When the concentration of the containment 440 in a certain environment reaches a certain level, an ecosystem composed of the containment 440 will be formed. Since all objects, natural objects or intelligent beings, constituted by the containment objects 440 are always in a gravity-free state, there is less evolutionary pressure on their anti-gravity characteristics. 0. To put it simply, the containment 440 is a kind of abnormal sand. After touching the normal sand will also be alienated, and finally a sand-based biological ecosystem composed entirely of sand will be born. And the creatures made of these sand bases also have the characteristics of no gravity, so they can even appear in a semi-floating state. Containment 440 sandy ecosphere. If it is in an environment without sand, it will not be able to cause huge amounts of impact and destructive power. But this is the Sonran Desert, a large desert area located on the border between the White Eagle Federation and the Moxinge. Although this is the core area, the area of sandy soil is also terrifyingly large. If containment 440 does not say to convert all of them, but only needs to convert the sand in the core area, and if there is no intervention, God knows what kind of ecological circle he can evolve through these sands. You must know that the ecological circle is not static. It may be sandworms in the form of sand bases at the earliest. If it keeps evolving and there is no intervention, it can evolve into a Zerg civilization in the form of sand. Furthermore, even a civilization that evolves into Shaji's wisdom form is very terrifying. Just the dinosaur in Shaji's form wiped out the entire nine-tailed fox advance team. Thinking of this, Feng glanced at the ground. This is not a sandy land, but an oasis wasteland in the Sonran Desert. It's all mud, but the sand-based creatures born in containment 440 have a range of influence here. Looking at the endless desert outside, Feng suddenly took a deep breath. In the sky, hundreds of pterosaurs made of grains of sand are rushing towards the camp. Feng stared at the mighty army of sand pterosaurs in the sky, and said in a deep voice, "Void armaments are in place, enter the battle and deploy." Chapter 124, One man forms an army. Void armed confrontation. Containment 440. Oh my god, are those things ... Containment? The Punisher, as well as Phil Coulson, Natasha Romanoff, and Sky, who were sitting in the cabin, all looked through the window of the plane in shock at the sand pterosaurs flying in the air. Even Thor, who seemed a little calmer, couldn't help but be dumbfounded. The previous containment 973 was fine, and even Thor wasn't sure that he could defeat it with that weird performance. After Thor heard Sean say that even if 973 is killed, it will still be resurrected after 9 days. Even the Foundation is studying how to contain it. Originally, Thor thought that there should not be many containments of the level of containment 973, but now he is numb. Looking at those shaggy pterosaurs in the sky, Thor realized that he was very wrong. It seems that containments of the level of 973 are everywhere in the Foundation's operations. Phil Coulson couldn't help asking, who is fighting the containment? Natasha Romanoff obviously received the message from Feng, and explained to everyone, only the commander and Lieutenant Xuefeng. The commander asked us to wait a while, and we will land again after he clears the landing sites near the camp. Now we're just watching the fight. Hearing that Feng was going to fight against so many contained objects with only his adjutant, Phil Coulson was stunned. He thought that Feng would lead an army to fight, but he was the only one who knew. Phil Coulson stammered and said, "Are you sure President Feng doesn't need our help? He can deal with so many monsters by himself?" Compared with the doubts of Phil Coulson and others, Natasha Romanoff firmly believes in Feng. From what I know about Commander Feng, he never does anything he is not sure about. Fortunately, the V-44 Blackfish vertical transport plane stops at an altitude of about 2,500 meters, and the usual flight altitude of those shaggy pterosaurs is only about 1,000 meters, so they can safely watch the battle on the ground from this distance. Through the military binoculars, everyone quickly saw Feng and Xuefeng in front of the camp, and their opponents were a large number of Shaji monsters. Thor couldn't help but said, "We really don't want to go down to help him. Your president is only 2 people down there, with so many monsters. He will definitely die." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw that the space around Feng seemed to be distorted, and after several white light beams appeared, girls in sci-fi armor came out one by one. The equipment of these girls looks extremely sci-fi, and what is even more surprising is that they are like carved out of a template, and you can tell at a glance which girls are dressed in which arms. These girls have snipers with sniper rifles, heavy melee infantry with heavy shields and shotguns, mechanical cavalry with single-footed meshts, assault soldiers with assault rifles, and 6-barreled Gatlings, weapon-like heavy machine gunners and more. And the weapons in the hands of these girls seem to be all Gaussian electromagnetic weapons. In addition to these girls, there are also a large number of drones of various types, some of which even use anti-gravity technology. Thor looked at the troops that appeared out of thin air, and was a little horrified. How did those girls appear? "I don't think they are human," the Punisher Frank on the side explained to him. Brother, those are not human beings. Although they look like real people, they feel like dolls to me. Seeing those girls with extremely sci-fi equipment, Natasha Romanoff exclaimed, "Isn't that the commander's tactical humanoid unit? I thought it was experimental and already put into actual combat." Phil Coulson, Natasha Romanoff, you said those dolls, are they tactical figures? Are they some kind of autonomous robot? I once saw Commander Chen Feng bring a batch of these dolls to the shooting range for testing. He called them tactical dolls, a kind of self-disciplined bionics. What kind of terrifying technology is that? It actually makes troops appear out of thin air. Is it some kind of space teleportation technology? Just when everyone thought that Chen Feng was going to fight against the army of Shaji creatures in Containment 440 by himself, what they saw was the tactical humanoid army that Chen Feng summoned from the void armament. Soon, a tactical doll the size of an infantry regiment filled the entire battle line. Chen Feng looked at the tactical humanoid army summoned by him with satisfaction. Finally, you can fully display your psychic commander's combat ability. The moment the tactical dolls were summoned, Chen Feng immediately cast a spiritual link. Although these autonomous dolls have independent consciousness, their system modules need human commanders to control and command them. If it is an ordinary human commander, commanding such tactical humanoid troops, they are more used to fill the front line, and they will only issue some simple orders to let them act in a self-disciplined manner. As a result, most of the tactical dolls are cheap cannon fodder, but for a super commander like Chen Feng who can micromanage hundreds of thousands of people without any problem, such soldiers are perfect. All units sent to the combat formation, and start implementing tactics according to the predetermined combat plan. After Chen Feng gave the order, all the tactical puppet troops took action immediately, forming a combat group with 10 people as a combat group, and launched an assault on the enemy in a seemingly loose but tight combat formation. Psychic release, group psychic shield, group spiritual stimulation, group psychic acceleration, group psychic weapon baptism. Accompanied by Chen Feng's powerful psychic response, this 1,000-man tactical humanoid troop was covered with a layer of golden brilliance. Right now, Chen Feng can only apply buff to 1,000 $, for the time being, which is equivalent to adding defense, attack, body and sensitivity, and also enchanting weapons. These tactical dolls are custom-made half biological, half mechanical beings, so they get all of Chen Feng's psychic buffs after the golden psychic brilliance shone. The next moment this group of delicate-looking tactical humanoid girls immediately burst out with powerful fighting power. Accompanied by the bombardment created by the void armament, countless void cannons condensed in the sky and fell from the tops of the sharky scorpions that had evolved into a file size of about 2 people. Those tactical humanoid units immediately unleashed their own powerful firepower. I saw countless dazzling red beams turning the sand-based creatures into coke. That is the powerful lethality of Gaussian pulse bombs. Those Shaji pterosaurs that looked extremely powerful were just about to dive, and they were hit by extremely precise and intensive firepower. Under the strong firepower density, each Shaji pterosaur turned into coke and broken sand and fell to the ground. Even if occasionally some shaggy monsters made by Containment 440 could rush to these tactical girls, they couldn't break their Shenik shields at all, and were sprayed into sand by the Gauss shotguns of those heavy-armed melee figures. This is almost one-sided without any suspense. The guns of those humanoid girls are accurate and ruthless. The hit rate is extremely high, and the Shaji monsters created by the Containment 440 are almost invisible. Anyone who shows his head will be completely destroyed by powerful firepower. After a face-to-face meeting, a large number of Shaji creatures were directly smashed to pieces, but Chen Feng's tactical girl army was invincible, advancing steadily under Chen Feng's precise micromanagement command. Through skilled cooperation and powerful tactical ability in just 10 minutes, a large number of sand-based creatures were completely defeated. After the last Shakipterosaur was defeated, the V-44 Blackfish hovering in the sky received a safety message from Chen Feng. Landing site cleared for landing. At this time, after watching the one-sided battle through the binoculars, everyone in the cabin looked shocked. Even Thor, in his impression, even the Asgard god of the Father God is not so strong. Although he lost his extraordinary power, he still had vision. From Thor's point of view, those shakier scorpions and shakier pterosaurs, even Odin's gods, would be exhausting to deal with one-on-one. However, he witnessed with his own eyes an ordinary assault humanoid, Xuefeng easily dealt with a Shaji scorpion in close combat. What's even more frightening is that such an army was conjured out of thin air, and Chen Feng could also summon artillery fire from unknown sources. Just like summoning those tactical humanoid girls, directly distorting the space above the enemy's head, and then lowering the artillery fire. Who can bear this situation? Everyone has a new understanding of the terrifying ability of Chen Feng, the chairman of the Foundation. 5.1 That is the terrible ability of one person forming an army and summoning troops out of thin air. Just thinking about it makes people's scalp tingle. If it is hostile to the Foundation, if an enemy wants to use a beheading tactic against Chen Feng, then it will be fun. Such an army suddenly appeared. Who can withstand it? Definitely, here is only Thor who has seen the most. He knows that apart from summoning troops out of thin air, the energy exerted by Chen Feng, similar to the power of his father god Odin, is equally terrifying, imposing several group psychic buffs on 1,000 soldiers in an instant. Such a powerful psychic ability, even Thor, the Prince of Asgard, felt his scalp tingle when he saw it. Perhaps in Asgard, only God the Father can bestow such divine protection on so many people at once. Unknowingly at this time, Thor has already regarded Chen Feng as a powerful existence like his father god Odin. The original underestimation of the Blue Stars, the suspicion of the Foundation, and the arrogant self-esteem of being the Prince of Asgard were all shattered at this moment. The Asgard people's respect for him is deeply rooted in his bones, and Chen Feng, the chairman of the Foundation, has already convinced him with his powerful ability. Even Thor, who has seen the world, is like this, let alone everyone else. Chapter 125. Loki arrives. The dreaded Valley of the Savages. Sonoran Desert Oasis area. As a large desert straddling the White Eagle Federation and New Mexico, the Sonoran Desert not only has a large number of desert areas, but also many oases. And this is an inaccessible oasis. This oasis has a complex terrain, and compared to the various low shrubs or column-high cacti in the Sonoran Desert, the oasis here has a strangely large forest. A team is entering this eerie forest. This is the Sonoran Desert. Why are there palm trees in subtropical climate here? Chairman, this forest is very strange, please be vigilant. Xuefeng immediately noticed the weirdness of the forest and reminded him. Chen Feng took a serious look at this strange forest, and said, raise your vigilance, there may be effects of abnormal containment here. This may be the containment area mentioned by Dr. Aliwether in the report. Then Chen Feng added, I can sense that there is a spiritual reaction in this forest. Everyone be careful not to disperse. The Natasha Romanoff agent next to him has commanded the UF team to release 2 LFMK-2 unmanned reconnaissance planes to take off for reconnaissance, followed by reports from Chen Feng, Commander. The drone operator has released the scout drone. Shall we move on now? Go ahead, weapon safety on. These people are exactly Chen Feng and his party who have just escaped from the Containment 440 Shonan ecosystem. After a fierce battle, the Void Armed Forces was launched. Chen Feng, who released the tactical humanoid guards, defeated the Shaji creatures composed of a large number of Containment 440. After that, Chen Feng found here all the way according to the clues left by Dr. Aliwether. After walking into the forest, the whistling wind and sand in the desert immediately disappeared without a trace, as if everyone was really in a subtropical rainforest somewhere. Chen Feng adjusted the void armor to the alert posture, so that the tactical humanoid troops can come to reality from the void plane at any time, and this rainforest is full of weirdness. After entering the rainforest, Chen Feng found that there were some sporadic sand-based creatures following them, and they disappeared immediately after seeing them enter the rainforest. Agents of SHIELD, who have been in contact with the contained objects several times and have fought several times, are relatively familiar with it. And the superheroes like Frank the Punisher and Thor are also experienced in many battles. Under the leadership of Chen Feng, the whole team is advancing quickly with high morale, which is why Chen Feng did not release the large troops. Large troops cannot be as flexible as elite squads when performing similar tasks. Sir, there are circumstances. At this time, the UF operation team seemed to have discovered the situation ahead, and soon Frank, the Punisher who was the striker, quickly went to the front to investigate, and Frank's strange voice came from the radio. The boss has discovered the situation. There is a crashed passenger plane here, and there are still a few fresh corpses inside, and the dead time is no more than an hour. After hearing Frank's report, Chen Feng led the team to the crash site quickly. Sure enough, in a destroyed forest, a large number of aircraft wreckage, luggage dropped by passengers, etc., were found. 10 Boeing 747s that were broken into crashed into the forest. Frank was checking something in the cabin, and he could see the bodies of some passengers and stewardesses in the cabin. Xuefeng, check the crash records. Did any passenger plane crash here? Hearing Chen Feng's inquiry, Xuefeng shook his head. Master President, there is no record of any air accidents here. Since the Sonoran Desert was blocked, the Federation has cancelled all flights here. It seems that we may have encountered an anomaly. The voice of Phil Coulson came from the radio. Commander, we have found the situation here, and there are signs of fighting. I saw Agent Phil Coulson, Agent Sky, and Agent Melinda observing a bloody battlefield. Before Chen Feng walked in, he smelled an extremely strong smell of blood. What the hell kind of barbarian march is this? After Thor saw the scene in front of him, he frowned deeply with a sense of honor. It's a landscape, and various buildings made of human limbs. After seeing Chen Feng approaching, Sky, who was analyzing the ruins, told Chen Feng about his analysis report. Commander, it seems that those who died were ordinary passengers on the airliner. They appeared to have been killed by humans, and the wounds were mostly from sharp and blunt objects. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Feng directly raised the service pistol in his hand and fired in one direction. There was a dull gunshot, and a savage about 2 meters tall, with strong muscles all over his body, but wearing animal skins and leaves, was directly smashed into pieces by the service gun. "We're surrounded. Kill these guys." In an instant, gunshots rang out, and in the entire forest, the task force led by Chen Feng immediately fought with those massive savage monsters. Just when the task force led by Chen Feng was fighting with the wildlings in the forest, in a valley deep in the forest, a proud man wearing Asgard-style clothing appeared in this valley with a group of soldiers wearing Asgard-style clothing. "Master Loki, we seem to have come to Blue Star. Is this the mortal world?" "Ha, after you have stolen Mjolnir and seized the power of Thor, you can leave here. This place is far worse than Asgard." It was Thor's brother Loki who descended here. Loki, who came to the Blue Star, naturally came to capture Mjolnir, or to steal Thor's authority. It's just that Loki at the moment didn't realize the seriousness of the problem at all. Just when he was about to lead a group of loyal Asgard warriors to Mjolnir, Loki suddenly found himself surrounded by wildlings. "Find an offering and offer it to the heavenly beings." An extremely burly savage looked at them blankly. His eyes were not looking at people, but like looking at some animals waiting to be slaughtered. The look instantly angered Loki. Damn it, the lowly savages dare to look directly at the gods with such eyes. "Soldiers, these idiots who offend the gods must be punished." "Obey my lord." AO80 Scar's warrior team leader confidently led his team with weapons, and launched an attack on the group of savages who surrounded him without fear. However, his haughty expression soon became astonished and shocked when he raised the sharp sword in his hand and slashed at the enemy. In his opinion, with his strong physique of the Asgard gods and his powerful fighting skills, wouldn't it be easy to take down this wildling leader? However, the savage Taushen, who was holding a missing weapon and only wielded a huge mace, directly knocked him and his Asgard longsword into the air with a single stick. Huge amounts of strength came, and the captain of the Asgard warrior felt his tiger's mouth burst open, his hands trembling, and he looked at this powerful and weird wild man in horror. At this moment, several screams came. Those mighty Asgard warriors were actually defeated by a group of wildlings, and were slaughtered mercilessly by the wildlings. The captain of the Asgard warrior clenched his weapon tightly, and slashed at the savages rushing up with strange howls. He just killed a few ordinary savages, but at this time, one by one figures waved their weapons and slashed at them. He blocked again. Long the sword flew out of his hand. Several extremely unusual wildlings, taller and more powerful than those around them, and wearing strange white antler skulls appeared in front of these Asgard warriors. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this and join my Patreon if you want to support me. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.